Some things in this world are simply not meant to be trusted. He's learned this lesson the hard way, always being the one to pay the price for his mistakes. And that is exactly why. A dangerous kind of kindness. As Yuta Tano looks at Takamiya, he can't help but recall the painful pattern of his life. Girls who are kind to him are usually just using him as a stepping stone. Meet Yuta Tono. He's a high school boy who has learned a bitter lesson. Never trust girls. A cycle of betrayal. Time and time again, girls have played him, pretending to be kind only to reveal their true target, his handsome older brother Aiden. After being told it wasn't you one too many times, Yuta Tono has reached his limit. He's done putting his trust in girls, until a sudden voice calls his name, a simple greeting. But for Yuta Tano, it's a red flag. Takamiya offers a friendly good morning, yet Yuta Tano remains guarded, convinced that she is just like all the others, every last one of them, including her. A simple greeting becomes a battle of wills. Takamiya refuses to let Yuta Tono's cold shoulder stop her, greeting him over and over until he finally snaps. Like I said, good morning! A playful smile and a simple good morning are all it takes to throw Yuta Tano off balance. Despite his deep-seated distrust, he finds himself unexpectedly flustered, leading to a moment of internal chaos as he desperately tries to regain his composure. Just another girl with a hidden agenda. Yuta Tano reflects on his classmate Takamiya, who has been approaching him frequently. Though she's widely admired and rumored to be the perfect match for his older brother, Yuta Tano isn't fooled. These certain Shez just using him as a stepping stone. Takamiya catches Yuta Tano off guard by asking about his favorite bread. Though Hez suspicious of her sudden interest, he finds himself flustered by her intensity and admits he likes melon bread. Takamiya enthusiastically suggests he visit the cafeteria and, despite his internal conflict, Yuta Tano actually goes and buys it, feeling completely thrown off by her behavior. Gym class time. Takamiya is in her element on the basketball court, and Yuta Tano can't help but be captivated by her. Just as he's thinking about how cute she is, Takamiya catches him off guard with a playful question, leaving him completely flustered. Everyone seems to be under Takamiya's spell, praising her mysterious charm and impressive grades. But as Yuta Tano watches her struggle on the court, he realizes the truth is absolutely hopeless at sports. Look at that face. Takamiya is absolutely beaming with pride, even though she completely missed the shot. While some of the guys are blinded by her cuteness, Yuta Tano can't wrap his head around her confidence. But when Lyra teases him for staring, Yuta Tano quickly loses his cool, desperately trying to hide the fact that he couldn't take his eyes off her. A sudden blushing smile from Takamiya catches Yuta Tano completely off guard. As she turns away, he's left reeling in confusion, desperately wondering if that look was actually meant for him. What was she even trying to do? Yuta Tano is completely bewildered, admitting that Takamiya has been driving him nuts lately because he just can't figure her out. However, one detail stands out. Unlike every other girl, she has never once mentioned his brother. This realization sparks a flicker of hope, leading Yuta Tano into a blushing daydream, where Takamiya confesses her love for him. But just as he starts to believe it could be true, the mention of Risama snaps him right back to reality. And just like that, the dream is over. Seeing Takamiya interacting with his brother, Aiden, Yuta Tono's heart sinks as he falls back into his old pattern of distrust. As I figured you were one of them after all. The cycle of heartbreak begins again, for Tono. This is a story he knows all too well. Every friendly smile and every kind word from a girl has always been a means to an end to get closer to his perfect brother Aiden. Once again, he feels like nothing more than a shadow, a mere bridge to someone better, a cycle of betrayal. That's why Yuta Tano could never bring himself to trust them. Even when Takamiya reaches out to help him, he can't help but wonder if that kindness is just another mask for a hidden motive. A simple act of kindness that felt almost alien to him. Yuta Tono recalls the moment Takamiya offered him a handkerchief, leaving him haunted by a single confusing question. Why would she be so nice to someone like him? Driven by a lifetime of being a stepping stone, Yuta Tono can't help but wonder, why isn't she going after my brother? Takamiya is left speechless by the question, while Yuta Tono looks at the swarm of girls surrounding Aiden, unable to comprehend why Takamiya would be any different. The truth finally comes out. Takamiya answers Yuta Tono's doubt with a simple, heart-fluttering confession. She's interested in him, not his brother. Completely caught off guard, Yuta Tono can barely find the words to thank her as she hands him the handkerchief. A heart-fluttering moment. With a soft blush and a knowing smile, Takamiya looks back at the stunned Yuta Tano, simply saying, "You're welcome." A small request with a lot of meaning. Takamiya tells Yuta Tono to make sure he returns her favorite handkerchief, but for Yuta Tono, the shock is too much. Despite her words, his deep-seated insecurity Winshi simply cannot believe that a girl like her could actually be interested in him. Determination or desperation, Yuta Tano is fighting a losing battle against his own heart. swearing he won't let himself be fooled by Takamiya's kindness again. But as Takamiya heads back to her friends with a lingering blush, it's clear that the only one being deceived is Yuta Tano himself. Some things in this world are simply not to be trusted. Yuta Tano is certain that Takamiya's sudden interest in him is nothing more than a calculated move to get closer to his popular older brother. But as Takamiya leans in with a cheerful good morning, Yuta Tano finds it harder and harder to keep his guard up. A simple question leads to a sudden shock. After asking Yuta to know about his zodiac sign, Takamiya catches him completely off guard, grabbing his tie and pulling him close in an instant. Totally flustered and panicked, Yuta Tano can't wrap his head around why she's acting so bold all of a sudden. A burst of energy arrives as Urara greets everyone, proudly showcasing her blue outfit. Because it's the lucky color for Virgos today. Takamiya chimes in, explaining that she ditched her tie, since dark green is considered unlucky. Left in the wake of their superstition, Yuta Tano can only stare in utter confusion, wondering what on earth they're talking about. Some things just aren't meant to be understood. As Takamiya and Lyra walk away, Yuta Tano is left baffled by their strange logic, concluding that hell never truly know what's going through. Takamiya's head, he firmly rejects the idea of lucky colors and horoscopes, but his thoughts quickly darken. Recalling painful memories of being deceived and seeing girls swarm around his brother, Aiden, Yuta Tano tightens his grip on his tie. He warns himself once again, there is absolutely no point in trusting them. A day of pure bad luck. Yuta Tano is so drained that even his classmates notice, leaving him wondering if Takamiya's strange horoscope logic was actually correct. But, as he watches her clumsily knock things over and get flustered, he realizes that Takamiya isn't as mysterious as he thought. She's actually quite easy to read. A simple gesture turns into total chaos. Takamiya tries to be helpful by returning Yuta Tano's lucky item, but a sudden slip sends him flying straight into her. Now completely red-faced and mortified, Yuta Tano can barely stammer out an apology. Talk about bad timing. Just as Yuta Tano is recovering, a stampede of girls screams for his brother, Aiden nearly trampling him in the process. But before he can be swept away, Takamiya steps in to save him. Lucky for you, I was here, she tells him, leaving a flustered Yuta Tano completely confused. A sudden shift in mood. Takamiya leans in close, whispering about Yuta Tano's lucky color and leaving him completely breathless. But as she casually dismisses the lucky item she called him for, Yuta Tano can't take the teasing anymore and snaps in a flustered panic. Living in a shadow is never easy. While Aiden is worshipped as a school idol, Yuta Tano finds himself the target of girls for all the wrong reasons. To them, he isn't a person, but merely a stepping stone to reach his brother. It's no wonder Yuta Tano has completely lost faith in girls. A cycle of distrust. Yuta Tano is convinced that every girl who approaches him is just using him as a stepping stone to his brother, and has certain that Takamiya is no different. A simple seat share, or a calculated move. Yuta Tano tries to keep his guard up, but Takamiya's casual offer to share her seat leaves him in a state of total panic. Even as he notices her popularity in class, he remains convinced that Hojo's interest in him is nothing more than a bridge to his older brother. Something's not right, Yuta Tano thinks, feeling the pressure of Takamiya's intense gaze as she teases him about his journal. But before he can figure her out, Lyra crashes the moment with an energetic announcement. It's math quiz time. Caught completely off guard, Yuta Tano can only stare in confusion as the classroom chaos begins. Talk about a total disaster. Yuta Tano's confidence completely vanishes when he sees his score. A pathetic 5 out of 50. While his friends laugh it off and tease him for being too distracted by Takamiya to focus, Yuta Tano has had enough. Ignoring the invitations to hit the arcade, he makes a solemn vow to head home and actually study. Determined to bounce back from his failing grade, Yuta Tano decides that a change of scenery is exactly what he needs. He heads to the library, hoping for a breakthrough, but the math problems remain a complete mystery. Just as he's hitting a wall, Takamiya pops up behind him, offering a helping hand. A sudden correction. Takamiya catches Yuta Tano off guard by pointing out a mistake in his work, leaving him completely flustered. Confused as to why she's even in the library, Yuta Tano can't help but be surprised that she's actually there to study. Who would have thought? Yuta Tano imagined Takamiya spending her afternoons at some fancy cafe. But the reality is far more unexpected. He's completely floored to find her reading a light novel with a title so long and specific it practically describes his own life. When Takamiya catches him staring in disbelief, the moment turns into a clumsy, awkward encounter. Caught off guard by her closeness, Yuta Tano is completely flustered when Takamiya slides in right next to him, leaving him unable to focus on his notes. While she patiently points out his lack of progress, he can't help but wonder if the rumors about her being smart are actually true. A total plot twist. While Yuta Tano assumes Takamiya is just as distracted as he is, she shuts him down by showing off her perfect score. He's completely stunned to find out that the girl he thought was spacing out is actually a genius. Talk about a power move. After rubbing her perfect score in his face, Takamiya doesn't stop. There she relentlessly pushes Yudatono to let her tutor him. Overwhelmed by her sudden enthusiasm, Yudatono has no choice but to surrender and accept her help. Study time or a battle of wits. Takamiya sees right through Yudatono's shortcuts, leaving him sweating under her gaze. After a grueling session that stretches late into the afternoon, Yudatono finally finishes his work, completely exhausted. A moment of quiet beauty. Yudatono finds himself staring at Takamiya, his heart racing as she reads, shaking off the distraction. He asks her to check his answers, only for Takamiya to reveal she's already finished her own reading. A sudden shift in distance. As Takamiya scooches closer, Yudatono's heart races. He can't help but wonder, could the most beautiful girl in school actually be into him? A heart-stopping moment. Takamiya leans in close, confirming Yudatono's thoughts with a simple correct, leaving him completely flustered and breathless. Just as the tension reaches its peak, Takamiya's phone rings, and she casually heads home, leaving Yudatono completely paralyzed by her words. He's so lost in his own head that he doesn't even notice his brother Aiden, arriving to find him still stuck in the library. Just a normal day for Yudatono, or so he thought. Introducing himself as a first-year high school student, Yudatono is currently on a grocery run. However, the trip quickly becomes a struggle as he's shocked by the rising cost of vegetables, complaining that only rich people can afford them before finally spotting the carrots he's looking for. Veggies, veggies. Yudatono is completely absorbed in his shopping until he realizes someone is standing right beside him. Huh? He freezes in shock as he recognizes the girl. Wait! Takamiya notices him and gives a casual greeting. Oh, it's Tono. Yudatono is left completely bewildered, wondering, what's Hojo doing here? A chance encounter at the store. Yudatono is completely thrown off by Takamiya's refreshing casual look, and for a moment he can't help but think she's cute. But Wade can't let himself fall for it, panicking. Yudatono desperately tries to snap himself out of it before his heart gets the best of him. From heart fluttering to head shaking, Yudatono quickly snaps out of his daze and shifts into full nagging mode when he sees Takamiya's shopping choices. While Yudatono is strictly following his list of vegetables and meat, Takamiya has already moved on to the snacks, leading to a comedic argument about the correct order of grocery shopping. A battle of wills over the frozen treats. Yudatono is completely thrown off by Takamiya's deadpan expression, finding it impossible to read her thoughts. However, he quickly snaps back into manager mode when he catches her at the freezer, shouting that ice cream wasn't on the list and demanding to see the memo, while Takamiya simply brushes him off by hunting for the cheapest option. After their chaotic shopping trip, Takamiya leaves with a smile, secretly impressed by Yudatono's caring nature. As he heads home, Yudatono can't help but question why he even bothered helping her in the first place. But the moment he steps inside, his aunt is already curious about the mysterious girl he was with. Girlfriend? The mere suggestion sends Yudatono into a total panic as he frantically denies any romantic connection to Takamiya. His aunt only teases him further, claiming the two of them looked like they were on a date. However, as the teasing settles, Yudatono is left with a lingering thought. He doesn't think has ever actually seen Takamiya give a genuine smile. A lingering doubt clouds Yudatono's mind. Does Takamiya only smile like that when she's around his brother? The memory of another girl admitting she only used him to get to Aiden flashes back, leaving a bitter sting. Determined not to be fooled again, Yudatono suppresses his feelings and tries to distract himself with the simple satisfaction of saving a bit of money today. A small act of kindness in the rain. Noticing that Takamiya forgot her umbrella, Yudatono can't help but step in to help, even as he continues to question the meaning behind their interactions. A small act of kindness in the rain. Despite his resolve to keep his guard up, Yudatono can't bring himself to leave Takamiya stranded in the downpour. Blushing and flustered, he offers her his umbrella, a simple gesture that leaves them both momentarily speechless. A simple act of kindness turns into an unexpectedly intimate walk home. Yudatono only intended to give Takamiya his umbrella, but somehow, they ended up sharing it. As they walk close together in the rain, Yudatono is left completely flustered, wondering why she doesn't seem to mind being so near to him. A heart-pounding walk home. Takamiya doesn't seem to mind the tight space, but for Yudatono, the proximity is overwhelming. As they huddle together, under the small umbrella, every inch of closeness makes his heart race, leaving him completely flustered by her presence. A romantic walk in the rain, or just another calculated move. Even as they walk close together under one umbrella, Yudatono can't shake his doubts. He convinces himself that Takamiya is likely just trying to get on his good side, refusing to believe that she could actually enjoy his company for who he is. A sudden splash ruins the moment. Takamiya warns Yudatono, just as a passing truck drenches them both in water. Despite being the one most soaked, Yuta is to check on Takamiya, who quickly assures him that she's fine. A little bit of teasing after the splash. Takamiya points out the obvious Yuta is absolutely insists he's fine. Even though he's soaked to bone, Yuta only concern was making sure Takamiya stayed dry. A gesture that doesn't go unnoticed, as Takamiya can't help but let out a little giggle. A little too honest for his own good. Takamiya can't help but burst into laughter, completely amused by Yuta clumsy attempt to be the hero, while they're both drenched from head to toe. Still reeling from the embarrassment, Yuta tries to brush off his reaction, but Takamiya's soft smile and sincere thanks for his protectiveness catch him off guard. As they walk on under a clearing sky, Yuta can't help but think that Haoju is a truly weird girlone who laughs at the strangest things. A heart-fluttering moment. As Takamiya suggests they head back before catching a cold, Yuta is left completely shaken by her smile, realizing she's someone he really needs to watch out for. Meet Yuta, a first-year high schooler standing at 167 centimeters. He's completely shocked to find out he's the exact same height as Takamiya, but she's not about to let him have the win, insisting she's actually 168 centimeters if you round up. Between the height rivalry and his friends worrying about his drinking habits, Yuta just tries to keep it all low-key. Even a simple trip to the vending machine becomes a spectacle for Takamiya's admirers. While the other boys swoon over her cute, troubled expression, the reality is much simpler. She's just 10 yen short. Unable to watch her struggle, Yuta sighs and buys her a drink himself. Meet the legendary Ria Yuta older brother, and the school's ultimate heartthrob. He's so stunning that people joke roses literally bloom in his wake. While his friends wonder if Yuta could ever match that level of charisma, Yuta knows the truth. There's no way he can compete with a human urban legend. In high school, few things are as life-altering as the dreaded seat change. For Yuta this event brings a new level of tension, as the person he is most cautious of is now sitting right next to him. A new seat, a new nightmare. Takamiya doesn't waste a second, leaning in close with a commanding treat me, well, leaving Yuta completely flustered. As he looks at her, he can't help but feel that this seating change was a trap, wondering why, of all people, Huju had to be the one sitting right next to him. Time to turn this misfortune into an opportunity. Yuta resolves to see through Takamiya's facade, but his confidence vanishes the moment she leans in. As she stares him down with an intense gaze, a panicked Yuta demands to know why she's looking at him, only for Takamiya to nonchalantly claim she's just looking at the mountains. A battle of wits, or so Yuta thinks. He tries to corner Takamiya, convinced she's after his brother, but her odd excuse about looking at nature leaves him completely baffled. As he observes her, he can't help but notice how her sparkly cute school supplies are the polar opposite of his own ordinary ones. Right down to a strangely cute charm that catches his eye. A little bit of cuteness goes a long way. Takamiya shows Yuta a small figure called a lasdog, teasingly telling him that it looks just like him. Completely flustered, Yuta denies it with a loud protest, but to their classmates, the two just look like they're having a great time together. Just when things seem peaceful, Yuta paranoia kicks back in. He's tried to figure out Takamiya's true motives, but he's just going in circles. In his experience, any girl who ends up sitting next to him usually has one goal: pestering him for info on his legendary older brother. So what exactly is Takamiya playing at? A sudden revelation. Yuta is completely blindsided to find that Takamiya is wearing glasses. The unexpected look catches him totally off guard, and when she notices his staring, he can only react with a flustered groan. Curiosity gets the better of Yuta, who asks Takamiya about her eyesight. She explains that she only needs her glasses because of her seat in the back, then teases Yuta about his own perfect vision. This sends Yuta drifting into a memory of his younger self, a spirited outdoorsy kid who spent his days exploring the forests. Lost in his own world, Yuta is completely blindsided when the teacher calls his name. Panicking because he hasn't heard a word of the lesson, he's barely saved by a classmate's sudden answer, which leaves Takamiya looking on in confusion. A sudden wave of doubt hits Yuta. Could Takamiya actually be sincere? Or is this all just another act to get closer to his brother? Just as he sinks deeper into his overthinking, Lyra interrupts his spiral, demanding his attention. Caught between his suspicion and the present moment, Yuta can only grit his teeth in frustration. A sudden rescue. Takamiya steps in with the right answer, leaving Yuta completely stunned. As Lyra celebrates the correct response with explosive energy, Yuta is hit with a wave of relief she actually helped him instead of tricking him. Flustered and blushing, he can barely manage a quiet, awkward thanks. A little victory for Takamiya. After coming to Yuta rescue, Takamiya wears a smug, satisfied grin, clearly enjoying how flustered she's made him. Caught off guard by her kindness and playful attitude, Yudatano can only wonder why she seems to be having so much fun at his expense. A small step toward trust. Yudatano tries to convince himself to believe in Takamiya, reminding himself that she actually helped him. But the moment of peace is short-lived as Takamiya leans in with a smug question, asking why he didn't try to change seats if his vision was so poor. Completely blindsided by her teasing, Yudatano can only stammer a response. A simple answer, yet so baffling. Takamiya admits she actually likes in her seat, leaving Yudatano completely flustered. He's starting to realize that no matter how hard he tries, he still can't read her at all. A twist of fate puts Takamiya in the very last row. While Lyra worries about the distance and offers to switch, Takamiya remains perfectly content with her spot. Meanwhile, Yudatano's position in the back makes him the sudden envy of the class, though he's not exactly enjoying the chaotic attention. A little secret for the back row. Takamiya is perfectly happy with her spot, figuring her glasses will do the trick. But for Yudatano, having her nearby is already enough to make him tremble. A little bit of attention goes a long way. Takamiya starts showing off different hairstyles, repeatedly asking Yudatano for his opinion. Though he acts annoyed by the constant requests for feedback, Yudatano can't help but blush as he shyly admits she looks fine. A strange habit caught Yudatano's eye. Every time Takamiya opens her pencil case, she gets this oddly happy look on her faces, something he only noticed after sitting next to her. Suspecting it might be a photo of his brother, Yudatano takes a quick peek, only to find that the inside is completely covered in lasdog. Seeing her get genuinely excited over it, Yudatano can't help but wonder what on earth fashion even is. While other girls are screaming for Aiden, Yudatano notices that Urara is surprisingly indifferent. When she boldly declares that she loves herself more than the popular Aiden, her refreshing honesty strikes a chord with Yudatano. For a boy burdened by chronic distrust, Urara's dazzling confidence is oddly calming. Time for some bus trip fun. Urara decides to liven things up by suggesting a card game, and before Yudatano can even process it, he's already been drafted into the match without a choice. Time for some fresh air. The class out on a day trip for outdoor learning to embrace nature and bond with one another. While Urara is thrilled by the scenery, Yudatano finds himself dragged into a group with her and Takamiya, surrounded by personalities that trigger his anxiety. Yudatano can't help but feel a growing sense of unease. A little bit of peace? Maybe. Yudatano tells himself that being with Takamiya and Urara is better than dealing with the obsessed with his brother. But he still can't help but get flustered. As the group starts a card game to decide who's on curry duty and who's gathering firewood, Yudatano is completely zoned out, desperately trying to snap himself back to reality. The stakes are higher than Yudatano expected. After hearing that firewood duty is absolutely brutal, he's determined to win the card game at any cost. But as the bus pulls up to the site, the real challenge is only just beginning. Talk about a nightmare scenario. Yudatano is horrified to find himself hauling logs, but he's not. Alan and Takamiya is right there with him. As it turns out, the two of them were the absolute bottom of the barrel in their card game, leaving them as the bottom two crew while the cooking team enjoys their day. Hauling firewood up a steep slope is no joke. Takamiya agrees that the work is rough, and Yudatano can't help but wonder if she's even hanging in there as he watches her wobble under the weight. But before long, Takamiya just gives up and acts like she's finished. Yudatano can't believe it, they aren't even halfway done yet. Something feels off. Yudatano catches a glimpse of Takamiya and senses a strange vibe from her. Just then, Aiden and Urara call out to them, wondering if the exhausted duo is even still holding up. A little kindness goes a long way. Lyra's sweet concern leaves Yudatano completely starstruck, but his daydreaming is cut short when Urara suddenly pops up right in his face. Talk about a jump scare! Yudatano is completely caught off guard when Urara suddenly pops up beside him. Seeing her panting for breath, he can't help but think that she's surprisingly bad at physical activities. However, before he can even process his thoughts, Urara cuts through the awkwardness with a simple, urgent reminder. If they don't hurry back, the curry will be all gone. A sudden moment of sweetness. Urara catches Yudatano off guard by calling him a nice guy, leaving the flustered boy struggling to find the right words. A culinary nightmare awaits. And Urara returned to the cooking area only to be greeted by a pot of whatever this is. And the cooking team proudly present their curry. But a quick glance reveals a chaotic blend of chocolate, yogurt, and kokapi. While Yudatano is horrified by the secret ingredients, Urara doesn't seem to mind at all. One bite was all it took for Yudatano to realize the curry was a complete disaster. With the taste being absolutely awful, Aiden immediately snaps into action, barking orders at Mirai and Morikawa to scramble for more ingredients and spices in a desperate attempt to save the meal. A surprising revelation. As the kitchen bustle continues, Takamiya wonders if Yudatano is actually any good at cooking. Aiden quickly confirms it, mentioning that Yudatano cooks often and even makes impressive bento, leaving Takamiya quite intrigued. Mission accomplished. Thanks to Yuta Tono's help, the disastrous curry is transformed into a delicious feast, leaving everyone, especially Takamiya, completely impressed. A modest Yuta Tono admits he tweaked the recipe to save the meal, but as he watches Takamiya eat in silence, his confidence vanishes. Overthinking her lack of reaction, a nervous Yuta Tono finally gathers the courage to ask if she actually likes it. The tension finally breaks. With a sweet smile and a blush, Takamiya tells Yuta Tono that the curry is delicious, sending his heart into a frantic thumping race. A small gesture, a huge reaction. Takamiya notices a bit of rice on Yuta Tono's face and gently wipes it away, leaving him completely flustered as he eats. Yuta Tono can't help but wonder why he's feeling so happy just because she complimented his cooking. He tries to convince himself that he didn't even need her opinion in the first place, but his racing heart tells a different story. Just as the atmosphere between them becomes sweet and tense, a loud announcement cuts through the moment. Just as Yuta Tono is lost in his thoughts, a loud announcement shatters the moment. With high energy, Takamiya reveals the next activity, a treasure hunt game, Mountain Edition. While the other students are thrilled, Yuta Tono can only stare in confusion. And so, a grand adventure for treasure begins. A simple game of Old Maid transforms into a high-stakes battle for Yuta Tono's pride, where the cost of failure is the humiliation of finishing dead last. Trapped in a tense final showdown with Takamiya, Yuta Tono agonizes over every move, his desperation peaking as he leans in with a piercing stare to read her hand. But the tables turn in an instant. Takamiya meets his gaze head-on, her eyes locking onto his with an intensity that freezes him in place. Overwhelmed by her suffocating proximity and a calm, piercing question, Yuta Tono's concentration evaporates. Flustered and completely defeated by the sudden tension, he retreats in a panicked mess, claiming that her closeness is just plain unfair. It's Houja's turn, but Yuta Tono is the one holding the joker. He goes from a state of intense nervousness to sudden, overwhelming happiness in an instant to the others. Watching, it looks like he's just playing a clever mind game to mess with Houju. A simple card game turns into a fierce battle of wills. Yuta Tono deduces that Takamiya is holding the joker and decides to make his move. He reaches out to snatch a card, but Takamiya suddenly clamps down with a firm grip, refusing to let it go. Caught off guard by her blatant cheating, Yuta Tono enters a desperate tug-of-war, shouting for her to release the card as they both refuse to back down. Victory turns to dust in an instant. After a fierce struggle, Yuta Tono finally manages to yank the card away from Takamiya's grip, shouting in triumph as he believes he's finally outsmarted her. His excitement is short-lived, however, as he flips the card over, the mocking face of the Joker stares back at him. Realizing Takamiya's stubbornness was just a trap to bait him, Yuta Tono watches her smugly giggle, knowing he was played like a fiddle. Time for a treasure hunt. With the promise of a great prize, the students set off to solve puzzles and follow their maps. Takamiya is already losing herself in the fantasy of winning 1,000,000 yen, but Yuta Tono isn't nearly as convinced as he focuses on the first clue. The treasure hunt is in full swing, but while everyone else is bursting with energy, Houju is barely shuffling along. Yuta Tono can't believe her slow pace, and even as they rush to the next puzzle, he can't shake the feeling that something is off with her today. 1,000,000 yen on the line, Yuta Tono finds himself completely stumped by a riddle about Miss Kobayashi's day-off activities. After a moment of pure panic and desperation, he scans the surrounding signs and suddenly has a breakthrough. A sudden answer strikes. Houju confidently declares the answer is bowling, recalling a random comment Miss Kobayashi made during a lecture. While the other students are floored by her attention to detail, Yuta Tono is simply impressed that she managed to stay awake in such a boring class hall, while he's stuck dealing with classmates pestering him for praise. The atmosphere is light as the group wraps up their activity, with the boys admitting they would have been lost without Takamiya's help. While Urara cheers for Houju, Takamiya offers a soft, blushing smile that speaks volumes. Watching her from just a few steps away, Yuta Tono feels his usual guard slip slightly, silently noting that she seems genuinely happy in this moment. The momentum is unstoppable. Lyra and the others are buzzing with excitement as they tackle a series of school-themed riddles, posted on wooden signs, from counting clubs to identifying hidden flowers. The group is tearing through the challenges with Takamiya leading the charge. While the rest of the class shouts about winning 1,000,000 yen, Yuta Tono can only sigh at their sheer intensity, feeling a world away from their high-spirited celebration. The excitement of the game quickly turns to concern as a key member of the group goes missing. Yuta Tono and Lyra realize that Takamiya, who supposedly went to get water, is nowhere to be found. As the announcers cheer everyone on with a 10-minute warning, Yuta Tono's anxiety spikes. He knows she wouldn't have gone far just for water, and the deadline is fast approaching. Yuta Tono's imagination runs wild as he considers the possibility that Takamiya is hopelessly lost. Don't tell me she got lost, he wonders, his anxiety spiking. Though he tries to convince himself it's impossible, he can't help but picture Takamiya tendencies, imagining her distracted by a butterfly or wandering in circles. Unable to sit still, he clenches his fist and makes a move. He yells to his confused classmates. Yells to his too, claiming has super-duper parched, as he runs off to find her, leaving the group to continue without him. Better safe than sorry. Ignoring his friend's warnings, Yuta Tano dashes through the underbrush, worried that the spacey Hujo might have wandered off. Out of breath and frantic, he finally spots her, surprising the girl as he calls out her name. Found her. Yuta Tano discovers Huju, following a sign that says treasure down here with a simplicity that leaves him speechless. Relieved that she hasn't actually wandered off, he tells her they need to catch up with the rest of the group. But as they prepare to leave, Yuta Tano catches a glimpse of her foot and realizes something is wrong. Wait, did you hurt your foot? Sometimes the quietest observations speak the loudest. Takamiya is stunned when Yuta Tano finds her, wondering how he could have known she was struggling. He admits that he's been watching her all day, noticing her weird behavior and the toll the heat was taking on her. Despite his usual distance, Yuta Tono can't hide his concern, telling her she shouldn't have forced herself to keep up if it meant putting herself in danger. A soft confession from the heart. Blushing and unable to meet Yuta Tono's eyes, Takamiya quietly admits that she only pushed herself because she was truly looking forward to spending this time with everyone. A sudden badump echoes in Yuta Tono's chest as he stares at Takamiya, his face flushing with surprise. He had always categorized her as someone impossible to read, a girl whose true thoughts were hidden behind a stoic mask. But now, seeing her fidget and hide her blushing face behind her collar, he realizes just how wrong he was. Even as she frantically zips up her jacket to cover her embarrassment, Yuta Tono can't look away from the clear, genuine emotion she's finally letting him see. A moment of vulnerability turns into a playful clash of hearts. Yuta Tono breaks the tension with a laugh, teasing Takamiya for her childish honesty. His reaction immediately flips Takamiya's embarrassment into annoyance, prompting her to zip up her jacket and deliver a flurry of playful boonks to his head. As Yuta Tono pleads for mercy amidst his laughter, the two share a light-hearted moment in the quiet forest. Sometimes, the price of excitement is a pair of painful blisters. Feeling guilty for the trouble, Takamiya apologizes as Yuta Tano carries her on his back, but he reassures her that it's just an emergency. When she worries about her weight, Yuta Tono bluntly tells her she's too light and needs to eat more, prompting her to defend her appetite by mentioning her 2 servings of curry. As Takamiya reminisces about how much fun the treasure hunt was, Yuta Tono can't help but tease her about the irony of her new shoes failing her, earning himself a few more playful hits to the head. What started as a simple piggyback ride through the quiet woods quickly spirals into a heart-pounding encounter. Black-haired boy Yuta Tono playfully teases, lolling her easy to read, but the light-hearted mood shifts as the physical intimacy settles in. Caught in the warmth of his Takamiya's hands, heart hammers against her chest, a thunderous thump that echoes through the silence. In this sudden, electric moment of realization, she can barely breathe, her voice a mere whisper as she calls out his name. A moment of unexpected closeness. Yuta Tano steps up to help, giving Haoju a piggyback ride through the woods. As she leans against him, she softly thanks him for coming to find her. A sudden shift in perspective. As Yuta Tano carries Huju back to their group, he finds himself reflecting on the girl he once viewed with such suspicion. Huju, a girl he convinced himself he couldn't trust. But as she clings to him, he starts to wonder if he was wrong. Maybe she's actually far simpler and more sincere than he ever imagined. A small spark of trust begins to ignite. Recalling the moment he found her, Yuta Tono realizes that, for the first time, he actually wants to believe in Haoju, even if it's just a little bit. As he carries her back to the group, his classmates greet them with excitement and concern. Meanwhile, Ri beams with energy, announcing that everyone has safely reached the treasure, but hinting that the real prize is something else entirely. The big reveal is a total disaster. The dream of 1,000,000 yen is crushed when the treasure turns out to be 10 copies of a boring workbook, leaving the classmates in despair. Yuta Tano is predictably annoyed when suggested he take the books home, but as the group disperses, Hinagi Hasegawa wears a smug look that hints the drama is far from over. Sometimes, the truth is more painful than the injury itself. Yuta Tono frantically apologizes for doubting Takamiya's pain, but as he leans in to inspect the damage, he's met with a sight that leaves him wishing for blindness. There, right on her heel, sits the smug face of a lasdog patch. While Takamiya sees pressed by his keen eyes, Yuta Tono is left reeling from the sheer absurdity of the situation, his concern for her blisters momentarily eclipsed by the presence of the lazy mascot. Packing for a trip is never easy. especially when your friends are too generous. The day before the field trip, Takamiya finds herself buried under a mountain of snacks gifted by Yudatano, and Noah. Despite her friend's enthusiastic intentions, her bag is at its breaking point, literally begging for mercy as she desperately tries to squish everything inside. By the end of the ordeal, Takamiya is left completely exhausted, while her overstuffed luggage continues to groan under the pressure. On the bus ride home, Yudatono is completely knocked out from the day's events. Huju, who had been wanting to give him some snacks but couldn't find the right moment in the crowd, takes this chance to leave a little something for him. When Yudatono finally wakes up, he's surprised to find a stash of treats in his lap, a sweet, silent thank you from Huju. Amidst the morning rush of the school hallways, one girl's presence is an impossible force to ignore. Hinagi Hasegawa arrives not just as a student, but as a beacon of light, instantly drawing enthusiastic greetings from every direction. She is far more than just his distant, untouchable beauty. Her kindness is as genuine as her radiant smile, to the way she effortlessly stops to help a struggling classmate. Hinagi Hasegawa embodies a level of flawless perfection that leaves everyone around her completely spellbound. Even the most popular guy needs a hero sometimes. Seeing Aiden overwhelmed by his usual crowd of admirers, Noah steps in with a sharp command to give him some space. Her authoritative display leaves the other students in awe as she clears the hallway, before turning back to Aiden to apologize for the disturbance. Aiden's effortless charm only makes the girls swoon more as he politely brushes off the commotion, while the boys are left in awe of Noah's boldness. Hoja finds herself wondering why Hinagi Hasegawa seems completely indifferent to the school's golden boy. Meet the ultimate Risama superfan, and Shiz taking notes literally. First-year Hinagi Hasegawa is having a total meltdown as she documents Ri's scent of the day in her notebook, while Aiden casually drops by the classroom to swap a bento with Yuta Tono. Hinagi is hidden behind the lockers, frantically scratching down every detail of his rose-like aroma to her. His presence is nothing short of amazing, leaving her struggling to keep her composure in the face of such an unexpected visit. One smile is all it takes to turn a fan into a full-blown investigator. Hinagi Hasegawa is practically vibrating with joy inside a bathroom stall, replaying the moment Eden acknowledged her. She's already meticulously documented his every move at school, from his exact arrival times to his social habits, but watching from the sidelines is no longer enough. Imagining him in a sophisticated private setting, she resolves to dig deeper into his life and goes far beyond simple admiration. Preparing herself for a mission is simple. A bright start to the day. Hinagi Hasegawa with an overly cheerful good morning. But don't let the smile fool you. While she plays the part of the friendly classmate, her inner twin-tail mode is fully activated to her. Yuta Tano isn't just he's the perfect key to unlocking the secrets of his brother, Rei. Hinagi Hasegawa's plan to infiltrate the Tono brothers' lives is officially in motion as she awkwardly approaches Yuta Tono's desk. She starts with a casual inquiry about his homework, even offering to show him her own, but Yuta Tono politely brushes her off. Panicking slightly, she pivots to the weather, asking if it's too hot and moving to close the curtains. Even though Aiden notes that the temperature feels perfectly fine, Hinagi Hasegawa ignores the logic and squeezes the curtains shut, determined to create her own private atmosphere. Hell hath no fury like a stalker scorned. Hinagi Hasegawa retreats to the bathroom to vent her frustration, slamming the stall door with a loud bang that startles Aiden in the hallway. She seethes with rage, unable to comprehend how Yuta Tono could be so dismissive of her charms, when she considers herself a cute girl that any guy would be lucky to talk to. Recalling how flustered Yuta Tono usually acts around Noah, Hinagi Hasegawa realizes he isn't the easy target she initially assumed. However, her anger quickly cools into a chilling, devious smirk as she begins to formulate a new plan to get what she wants. Hinagi Hasegawa has found a new target to investigate in her quest for Aiden. She sets her sights on Noah Hojo, labeling her a likely rival for Aiden's heart, who has been getting close to Yuta Tono lately. As Hojo's friend Urara heads to the school store, Noah approaches Yuta Tono's desk to ask if he brought a bento. From the shadows with a predatory, drooling grin, Hinagi Hasegawa prepares to dig up some dirt by listening in on their lunch conversation. Time to play the cute card. Hinagi Hasegawa switches into full flirty mode, pretending to be interested in their home-cooked meals just to fish for details about Ri's tastes. She's convinced this is her golden moment to get the inside scoop, urging Huju to spill the beans only to be met with a very dry response. Eavesdropping is a lot harder when the conversation is this boring. Hinagi Hasegawa lurks in the background, desperate for any scrap of information about Aiden, but all she hears is Noah complimenting Yuta Tono's lunch. Frustrated by the lack of dirt, Hinagi Hasegawa fakes a clumsy moment, dropping her chopsticks just to stay close and listen. Her blood boils as Noah asks if Yuta Tono made the meal himself, mundane details that are completely useless for her grand scheme. Trying to pivot her strategy, Hinagi Hasegawa asks Yuta Tono about his favorite side dishes, hoping for a lead. But as Yuta Tono begins to answer, she's hit with a wave of sudden realization. Learning more about him is completely useless for her mission to uncover secrets about Rei. The plot thickens as Hinagi Hasegawa observes a side of Noah she never expected. Noah lets out a soft chuckle, noting a similarity between her and Yuta Tono that leaves both him and Hinagi Hasegawa completely baffled. As Noah stares longingly at Yuta Tono's bento with a visible drool, Yuta Tono immediately goes on the defensive, clutching his meal tight and refusing to share. Watching this bizarre exchange, Hinagi Hasegawa begins to wonder if she has completely misjudged Haujist's true nature, realizing this girl might be more of a glutton than a romantic threat. Mission failed. Hinagi Hasegawa slumps in a bathroom stall, overwhelmed by a sense of doom after her eavesdropping session, only provided useless details about Yuta Ton and Noah. As she clutches her secret report notebook, her frustration melts into a deep blush, her mind drifting back to a sweet moment with Rai-sama that fuels her obsession. Hinagi Hasegawa isn't backing down just yet. Convinced that Yuta To and Noah are keeping a secret stash of info on her crush, she clutches her notebook and vows to uncover the truth next time. But as the school day ends, Yuta Tono returns home, only to be greeted by the man himself, older brother Aiden. The legendary Rai-sama isn't quite the prince everyone thinks he is behind closed doors. Yuta Tono walks through the front door, only to be greeted by a disheveled Aiden, who is lazily scratching his stomach in a messy sweatshirt. While the girls at school worship him as a flawless idol, Yuta Tono can only stare in deadpan disappointment at his brother's slovenly habits. As Yuta To scolds him for leaving his uniform in the way and warns that his fans would die of shock, Aiden just offers a confused, lazy response, proving that the perfect older brother is just a regular slob at home. Don't let the sunny smile of the class rep fool you. Hinagi Hasegawa, known to her peers as Hinagi Hasegawa, bubbly and always at the center of attention. However, this reliable exterior masks a secret high-speed obsession. The second Aiden walks by, Hinagi Hasegawa's composure vanishes as she moves with supernatural speed to collect anything he touches. While Aide oblivious to the breeze passing him by, Hinagi Hasegawa retreats with her treasures, fully immersed in her role as a dedicated Rai-sama fanatic. A casual chat about food. Yuta Tono and Huju start listing their favorite bento side dishes, from classic tamagoyaki to octopus sausages and bacon-wrapped asparagus. While Huju seems to agree with every single choice, Yuta Tono quickly catches on to the truth. As her stomach growls, she admits is just starving. The perfect idol image is just a facade that disappears the moment the front door closes. At school, Aiden is the center of attention, radiating a princely aura that makes metaphorical roses bloom in his wake. However, Yuta Tono is the only one who sees the truth. As soon as Aiden gets home, his hair becomes a bird's nest and his charisma evaporates, leaving Yuta Tono to question how his classmates would react to seeing their idol in such a wilted state. Even a simple school cleaning day can't be normal for Yuta Tono. As he wipes away sweat while assigned to the grueling task of weeding, Hinagi Hasegawa suddenly swoops in with an overwhelming sparkling aura. She insists on helping him because they're friends, a claim that leaves Yuta Tono completely baffled and questioning when their relationship ever reached that level. Hinagi Hasegawa puts on a dazzling performance of friendship, leaving Yuta Tono bewildered and the other students completely fooled by her act. But the moment the final bell rings and the classroom empties, the mask shatters. Slumped over her desk in total defeat, Hinagi Hasegawa is physically and mentally spent. The exhaustion from cleaning is nothing compared to her mounting frustration. Yuta Tono hasn't leaked a single detail about Aiden. Guttering in despair, Hinagi Hasegawa realizes that the road to friendship is far more treacherous and grueling than she ever imagined. Even the most calculated plans can fall apart in an instant. Hinagi Hasegawa is determined to execute Operation Friendship, believing that building a bond with Yuta Tono is the only way to truly get close to her beloved Rai-sama. Exhausted from the day's work, she reaches into her pocket for her secret source of comfort, something to smell and recharge her spirit. But as she pats herself down, her face pales and her eyes widen in pure horror. The one thing she needs most is gone. Panic mode activated. Hinagi Hasegawa loses her mind when she can't find her precious memento bookmark of Rei. She can almost hear his voice echoing in her head, questioning her love for him if she were to lose such a treasure. Thankfully, she finds it just in time, though the scare sends her sprinting off in a frantic blur of apology. Brotherly teasing is inevitable. Rei points out how Yuta Tono has mellowed out, specifically recalling the time he gave Huju a piggyback ride. While Rei thinks Yuta Tono's phobia of women is finally cured, Yuta Tono isn't having it, shouting at the top of his lungs that he still doesn't trust girls at all. Losing something precious is enough to ruin anyone's day, but for Hinagi Hasegawa, it's a total catastrophe. She is drowning in gloom after realizing her bookmark is missing. Her aura so dark it's practically visible to everyone around her. When her classmates notice her distress and ask what's wrong, she reveals her loss with a heavy heart. Before Yuta Tano can even process the situation or offer a word, he's physically hauled into the middle of a sudden search party. With an enthusiastic grab, his peers volunteer the three of them to help Hinagi Hasegawa find her lost item, leaving Yuta Tano completely baffled and caught in the middle of their sudden burst of energy. Yuta Tano's peaceful day is officially over as he's forcibly recruited into a search party. Despite his desperate pleas to be left out, his classmates enthusiastically split into groups to find Hinagi Hasegawa's lost bookmark. As Hinagi Hasegawa beams with a suspiciously bright thank you, Yuta Tote can only sigh in exhaustion, feeling the weight of another unwanted favor pulling him into her orbit. The search for the lost bookmark leads the pair to the school rooftop, but Yuta Tono's patience is wearing thin. While Yuta Tono grumbles about wanting to go home, Hinagi Hasegawa is preoccupied with her Resama special observation deck, devastated that her search has turned up empty. When Yuta Tono asks for a description of the bookmark, Hinagi Hasegawa's annoyance vanishes into a dreamy daze as she reveals it contains a pressed Sakura Patala gift given to her by Aiden himself. The truth finally comes out, and it's exactly what Yuta Tono feared. As Hinagi Hasegawa stands flustered and sweating under his gaze, Yuta Tono realizes why she has been hanging around him lately. He assumes, targeting his brother Aiden through him. Despite Hinagi Hasegawa's frantic and desperate denials, Yuta Tono's heart has already closed off with a look of cold resignation. He tells her it's fine, because he's used to being the route to his brother, leaving her stunned as he prepares to walk away. Talk about taking things literally. When Yuta Tano skeptically asks how Hinagi Hasegawa managed to get a gift from his brother, the truth is even more intense than he imagined. She turned a stray petal Aiden, once brushed off her head into a sacred bookmark. Yuta Tano can't help but be weirded out by the level of obsession, but his bluntness strikes a nerve. Hinagi Hasegawa snaps back, revealing that Aiden's small gesture of kindness meant the world to her during a time when no one else cared. Sometimes, a single memory is enough to make a heart overflow. Hinagi Hasegawa can't hold back her tears as she confesses her deep love for Reisama, her face flushed with raw emotion. Overwhelmed and embarrassed by the situation, she suddenly apologizes to Yuta Tono for dragging him into her mess and bolts away, determined to find her precious bookmark on her own. Cold words can't hide a heavy heart. As the rooftop door clicks shut, Yuta Tano tries to convince himself that he owes Hinagi Hasegawa nothing. Yet the memory of her tearful confession haunts him. Down below, Ivan and the others are still hard at work, wondering where Yuta Tano disappeared to, as the search for the precious bookmark continues without him. The search for the lost bookmark continues, but the atmosphere has grown heavy. Even notes that the only other place Hinagi Hasegawa went was the weed-pulling area. But Hinagi Hasegawa, looking downcast but trying to be polite, apologizes to Mina and Lyra for the trouble, and tells them she'll continue on her own. As Yuta Tahano walks away in the distance with a clatter, Hinagi Hasegawa self forces a smile, reminding herself that the bookmark was just something she made on a whim, even though its loss clearly hurts. Sometimes, the most meaningful gestures happen in the most unlikely places. Hinagi Hasegawa is stunned to find Yuta Tano knee-deep in trash bags, determined to find the bookmark she had already given up on. Even as she tearfully admits that she was only using him to get closer to his brother, Yuta Tano simply brushes it off and continues his search, proving that his kindness outweighs his deep-seated insecurities. Actions speak louder than words as Yuta Tano continues to sift through the trash, simply stating that the bookmark is important to Hinagi Hasegawa. Watching him with a mix of confusion and guilt, Hinagi Hasegawa is approached by Noah, who finally sheds light on Yuta Tono's guarded nature. She explains that ever since they were children, Yuta Tohono has been treated as nothing more than a bridge to his popular older brother, leaving him unable to trust the intentions of any girl who approaches him. Realization hits like a ton of bricks when you see the person you've been using go above and beyond for you. Hinagi manipulative thoughts flashing back to haunt her as she watches Yuta Tono dig through the trash for her lost bookmark. Noah gently breaks the silence, explaining the irony of Yuta Tono's character. He is a walking oxymoron who has every reason to be bitter, yet he simply cannot turn his back on someone in trouble. Despite the scars left by girls who used him in the past, Yuta's fun and nimbly just a really kind guy. A moment of pure sincerity shines through the grime. Yuta Tano lets out a cry of success as he finally spots the missing item among the trash bags. With a sense of relief, he pulls out the handmade bookmark and presents it to a stunned Hinagi Hasegawa, calling her by name as he hands back the precious memento she thought was lost forever. A simple act of kindness can melt even the coldest of intentions. Overwhelmed by Yuta Tono's unexpected sincerity, Hinagi Hasegawa clutches her precious bookmark and tearfully apologizes for her earlier attitude. As she stammers out a thank you, Yuta Tono simply brushes off the effort, heading back with his classmates, while Hinagi Hasegawa is left reflecting on the genuine kindness of the boy she once tried. The truth can sometimes sting more than a cold shoulder. After the search ends, Noah waves a cheerful goodbye, glad that the ordeal is over. However, back inside Classroom 12, the atmosphere remains heavy. Yuta Tadano can't help but point out how Hinagi Hasegawa keeps that handmade bookmark on her person at all times, labeling her dedication as serious broken behavior. The remark feels like a physical stab to Hinagi Hasegawa, who hunches over her desk in shame, overwhelmed by the conflict between her original plan to use him and the kindness he just showed her. She can only let out a pained groan before quietly calling out his name. Hinagi Hasegawa finally comes clean about her hidden agenda. Standing in the quiet classroom, she admits she was only prying for information about Risama. She doesn't hold back, bluntly stating that Yuta Tono's attitude used to irritate her to no end, leaving him feeling like he's just being insulted. However, after seeing his genuine kindness, she looks him in the eye and solemnly promises to stop using him as a stepping stone. A sincere apology leads to an unexpected moment of warmth in the empty classroom. Hinagi Hasegawa bows deeply to Yuta Tono, formally apologizing for her previous behavior. When she looks up, her face is flushed with a genuine smile as she laughs, telling a stunned Yuta Tano that he is actually a good guy. Friendship is a two-way street, but Yuta Tano isn't ready to open the gate just yet. Hinagi Hasegawa, declaring that true love means gathering information on Aiden herself. With a soft expression, she reaches out to Yuta Tatan, asking to be friends for real this time. However, the sentimental atmosphere is instantly shattered when Yuta Tano gives an emphatic hell no, shaking his head in total distrust. Hinagi Hasegawa is left fuming at his bluntness, wondering if he's always been this unhinged. Old habits die hard, especially when your trust has been shattered as many times as Yuta Tono's. As they walk through the hallway, Hinagi Hasegawa laughs and suggests that Yuta tied more often to become popular with girls though. She quickly clarifies hell never reach Reisama's level of devotion. Yuta Tano remains unimpressed, bluntly stating that girls only ever use him, just like she did. Despite Hinagi Hasegawa's loud protests that she's changed her ways, the weight of Yuta Tono's past experiences continues to cast a shadow over their interaction as they join the flow of students heading home. Even the most cynical heart has its weaknesses. When Yuta Tono realizes that Huju is joining the group for the walk home, his usual defenses crumble into a flustered jolt. As he gazes at her, he finds himself lost in thought, unable to shake the image of the girl who seems to be the only exception to his rules about the world. Some mysteries are just too much to handle, Yuta Tano clutches his head in frustration, his face flushed red as he tries to make sense of Huju. To him, she remains an absolute enigma that defies everything he thought he knew about girls. Just when Yuta Tono thinks things couldn't get any more chaotic, Hinagi Hasegawa decides to play matchmaker with a heavy hand. Seeing right through his flustered state, she gives him a painful smack on the back, jokingly dubbing him her little brother-in-law. Yuta Tono is left reeling from both the physical blow and the absurd new title, wondering what on earth she's planning now as she officially joins his daily life. Even the most enigmatic girls aren't immune to the cruel whims of Gacha luck. Yuta Tono stares in utter confusion at a limp, pathetic creature. Huju calls Bunno Motivation miserable consolation prize for failed crusade for the elusive Bladog. The tragedy is revealed. 5 rolls, 5 identical duplicates. As Yuta Tono gazes upon the pile of clones, he realizes that Ova Temps is a dangerous descent. Huju possesses a rare strength of will. She knows exactly when to retreat before the Gacha abyss swallows her whole. Even a small, unexpected gift can leave a lasting impression. Yuta Tono finds himself holding a glowing rabbit toy, a gift Huju casually pushed onto him earlier. Despite his usual cynicism, he can't help but feel a little bit happy as he watches it light up. Later, while walking home, he spots a row of gacha machines and recognizes the Lazy Bunch series his toy belongs to. Surprised by how many there actually are, even the most cynical hearts can't resist the siren call of a gacha machine. Staring at the lazy displayist, Yuta Tano tries to rationalize his interest, joking that his bad luck is practically a superpower. He reaches for the machine, but a sudden wave of self-consciousness hits him, making him pull back in a fluster, yet his eyes keep drifting back to the plastic capsules. His resolve crumbles. He finds himself crouched on the floor, unable to stop his hand from crouched on the floor, unable to stop his hand from turning the crank for just one more spin. The morning after his secret gacha spree, Yuta Tano finds himself under a relentless interrogation. The day starts with the appearance of a lazy toy, and Huju is immediately struck by the coincidence. She darts her eyes between the toy and Yuta Tano, her mind racing with questions as she repeatedly asks how he managed to get it. Under her intense, unblinking stare, a brighter Yuta Tano loses his cool, shouting that he has absolutely no clue how it happened. With the sports festival looming, Yuta Tano finally finds a moment to let his own talents shine on the track. The school field is buzzing with energy as students prepare for the big day, and today is all about practice. Yuta Tano catches everyone off guard with his explosive speed, leading his classmates to shout in amazement at his total landslide performance. Despite the sudden influx of compliments, Yuta Tano quietly wipes his face with a towel. It processes the rare moment of being seen for his own merits. To her classmates, Hu Zhu is the epitome of effortless grace, looking cool even in the simplest of moments. But Yuta Tano sees the reality. She's desperately clinging to a tiny, pathetic patch of shade with one leg left baking in the sun. Breaking the spell of her stylish aura, Yuta Tano approaches her with a blunt question, offering a bit of practical advice to the girl who is far less composed than she appears. Even in the middle of sports practice, some things are more important than convenience. Yuta finds Huju sitting in an awkward spot on the ground, only to realize she's doing it to protect a patch of flowers. It to be ashamed to step on them, she admits with a lazy sigh before complimenting him on his speed. Yuta can't help but feel surprised. He didn't think she was the type to care about such small things. But this quiet moment of kindness catches him off guard. Even a quiet moment of reflection can't last long when you're the center of attention. Blushing slightly, Yuta Tano admits to himself that he actually enjoys the thrill of the race. However, his peace is quickly interrupted when Hinagi Hasegawa waves him over with an urgent request. Caught off guard, Yuta Tano can only stare in confusion as she proposes a relay between the teams. Yuta Tano's speed has made him the talk of the class, and now has being drafted for the big race. Hinagi Hasegawa explains that Yuta Tano has been chosen for the mixed-grade relay race, revealing that his classmates have already unanimously agreed on his participation. Though caught off guard by the sudden nomination and Hinagi Hasegawa's strange new Monska necklace, Yuta Tano accepts the role as the whistle blows for the next round of practice. Just when Yuta Tano thinks he's found his pace, the shadow of his brother looms large once again. The news that Aiden is joining the relay on the blue team sends the girls into a frenzy of excitement, leaving Yuta Tano visibly twitching with annoyance. While Hinagi Hasegawa starts hyperventilating at the prospect of a dramatic sibling showdown, Yuta Tano's only response is a flat, immediate refusal to play along with the comparison. Some rivalries are better left on the sidelines. After a cold not interested, Yuta Tano turns his back on the relay race drama. Hinagi Hasegawa is left shouting after him, even calling him Lil Bro-in-law in a desperate attempt to get him to stay. But he simply walks away as the school bell signals the end of the day. Old habits die hard, and Yuta Tano finds himself drowning in a familiar sense of gloom after shutting everyone out. As he walks away, his mind drifts back to their childhood, recalling the days when Aiden was his only rival. No matter how hard he ran or how close the race was, his brother was always there to offer a bright, effortless compliment that only served to highlight the gap between them, leaving Yuta Tano to stew in his own silent frustration. A lifelong battle against a shadow. Yuta Tano remembers the relentless drive to catch up to his brother, Aiden perfect, can do anything sibling. From sports to music, no matter how hard Yuta Tano tried, he always felt like the plain, average version of the perfect brother. Looking back, he can't even remember when this crushing sense of inferiority first took root. The weight of second place is a heavy burden to carry alone. In a flashback to his childhood, Yuta Tano stands dejectedly holding a flag marked with the number 2, while in the distance his brother Aiden is surrounded by cheers for being the best. Even as Sora and another relative try to offer comfort, telling him he did his best against his brother, the words only sting. Gripping his flagpole until his knuckles turn white, a young Yuta Tano decides he's had enough of being the runner-up, quietly walking away from the expectations of others. Some habits are hard to break, especially when you've spent a lifetime in second place. Yuta Tano wallows in his defeatist mindset, desperately trying to convince himself that he has at least one advantage over his perfect older brother even if it's just everyday survival skills. But his internal pity party is cut short when Aiden appears in the hallway with a bright, effortless smile, casually asking if he's ready to head home. Even a simple walk home feels like a trap for Yuta Tano's fragile ego. When Aiden offers to walk together for old time's sake, his radiant smile and the admiring whispers of the girls nearby serve as a painful reminder of the gap between them. Yuta Tano stares ahead, his mind racing as he realizes that his true fear isn't about being second best, it's the crushing weight of being invisible in his brother's shadow. The crushing weight of comparison finally becomes too much for Yuta Tano to bear. Standing before his brother, the realization hits him. He isn't just afraid of losing, has terrified of the inevitable comparisons that follow. Panicked and unable to find his words, he stammers out a clumsy excuse about a forgotten task and urges Aiden to go on without him. He flees the scene, leaving a bewildered Aiden standing alone in the hallway while Hanagi Hasegawa watches from the background. Running blindly from the weight of his own insecurities, Yuta Tono's frantic escape ends in a painful tumble. As he lies sprawled on the ground, staring up at the sky, the physical sting of the fall is nothing compared to the crushing realization that he is simply running away from everything in his life. Just when Yuta Tano thinks he's hit rock bottom, a familiar face appears from above. Lying flat on his back after a pathetic tumble, his self-reflection is cut short by a shadow looming over him. Huju leans in, her long hair framing her face as she peers down with a look of soft concern, asking if he's all right. Yuta Tano can only stare back, frozen by the sudden proximity of the girl who keeps finding her way into his life. Nothing kills a cool exit like a faceplant in front of your crush. Yuta Tano is absolutely mortified that Haoju saw his clumsy tumble, but she quickly tries to ease the tension. Claiming she once tripped in the same spot and found it comfy, she tries to make him feel less alone. Instead of feeling better, Yuta Tano just ends up rolling on the ground in a fresh wave of ultra-embarrassment over their shared awkwardness. A moment of shared quiet can turn even the most embarrassing fall into a warm memory. Huju continues to ease Yuta Tono's tension, chatting about how the sunlight hits this specific spot just right. As the frantic flap-flap of his heart settles, the two find themselves sitting together in a rare, peaceful silence, looking out at the world through the school fence. Sometimes the simplest things make the biggest difference. Huju points out a nearby fan, letting Yuta Tano feel the gentle breeze as they sit together. She smiles, asking if it feels nice, before her attention is caught by the students practicing for the upcoming sports festival outside. Yuta Tano can only agree, the tension from his earlier embarrassment slowly fading into a peaceful afternoon. The sports festival is just around the corner, and Hojo has some very specific ideas about the bread-eating race. She excitedly imagines herself swimming through a sea of carbs, forcing Yuta Tano to gently point out that the race isn't exactly an all-you-can-eat buffet. As they compare notes, Yuta Tano has been relegated to the beanbag toss after a losing streak in rock, paper, scissors, while Hojo prepares for the high-energy 100-meter dash and pushball competition. Even in a quiet moment, the shadow of his brother looms large. When Huju mentions that everyone wants him in the relay race, Yuta Tono's first instinct is to shrink back, admitting he doesn't think he's fast enough, especially with his brother around. As he catches himself opening up, he grips his leg in frustration, wondering why he's letting his guard down and revealing his inner turmoil to Huju. Sometimes the simplest questions are the hardest to answer. When Yuta Tano admits he's avoiding the relay because of his brother, Huju doesn't just let it slide. She looks him in the eye and asks why that even matters, leaving Yuta Tano stammering for an explanation. As they sit on the quiet steps, Huju admits she might not understand complicated stuff. But her blunt curiosity starts to chip away at the walls Yuta Tano has built around his insecurities. Sometimes the simplest truths are the hardest to see. As they sit together on the quiet school steps, Huju looks at Yuta Tano and delivers a line that strikes the heart of his inferiority complex. Tano is still Tano, no? It's a gentle reminder that to her, he isn't just a shadow or a route to someone else, is simply himself. Sometimes the simplest truth is the hardest to accept. Yuta Tano gazes at Huju, completely caught off guard by how effortlessly she sees through the walls has built around himself. He realizes she is truly something special. Yet even her encouragement can't fully silence the one that warns him that stepping out of the shadows only invites more painful comparisons to his brother. Sometimes, all it takes is a change in perspective to see what was hidden in the shadows. While sitting on the school steps, Yuta Tono and Huju notice a flower that has been relocated from the shade to a sunnier spot near the fence. Huju remarks that it was moved to keep it from being stepped on, and as she looks closer, struck by how vibrant it actually is, she notes that when given a chance to shine in the sun, its true colors finally manifest a quiet metaphor for the potential Yuta Tono keeps hidden behind his brother's shadow. Sometimes, all it takes is a little light to see someone's true worth. Huju gazes off with a soft blush, wondering aloud if the flower will grow more freely now that it's out of the shade. She then turns her encouragement toward Yuta Tano, telling him that he will be just fine because he was truly sparkling while he was running. Yuta Tano is left wide-eyed and speechless, stunned by her sincere and direct praise. Leaning in with a face flushed pink, Huju looks directly at Yuta Tano with unwavering sincerity. Beside the vibrant flower they just admired, she leaves him with a final heart-pounding declaration. Tano, you are our best bet. A moment of pure, unfiltered validation can change everything. As Huju stands before him, her silhouette bathed in a soft ethereal glow, Yuta Tano can only stare up at her in stunned silence, her words calling him their best Bateko in his mind, causing his to wide in shock and dawning realization. For the first time, someone isn't looking past him at his brother. They are looking directly at him, seeing a light he never knew he possessed. How are you so confident? Yuta Tono watches Huju as she gently boops the flower, his mind racing with questions he can't bring himself to ask. He wonders why she won't just tell him he's incapable, as his past experiences have taught him to expect. Staring at her back, he's left grappling with a single haunting thought. How can he possibly live up to the person she sees? A single spark of hope can change everything. As Yuta Tono gazes at Huju, she seems to radiate a brilliant sparkling light that mirrors the impact of her sincere encouragement. Her simple words carry a weight that leaves him breathless, momentarily silencing his deep-seated insecurities as he watches her turn away, leaving him in a daze of wonder. Sometimes, a few words are all it takes to shatter a lifetime of doubt. As Huju's encouragement echoes in his mind, Yuta Tano finds himself racing through the school grounds, his heart pounding with a sensation he barely recognizes. His face is flushed a deep crimson, and his eyes shimmer with a newfound light as he is consumed by a surge of overwhelming happiness. In the background, Lyra and Even watch in stunned silence, completely caught off guard by the usually reserved boy's sudden radiant outburst of pure emotion. His heart is racing faster than his feet can carry him. Overwhelmed by a strange new sensation, Yuta Tano sprints away from Huju and Lyra, his face flushed and his chest pounding like crazy. As he runs, he desperately tries to rationalize the moment, telling himself that Huju likely didn't mean anything special by her words, even as his body betrays his attempts at logic. Sometimes, a few simple words are all it takes to change everything. Even as he tries to run from his overwhelming feelings, Yuta Tono can't ignore the warmth Huju's words have left in his heart. Looking back at her gentle smile and the way she sees him simply as himself, he realizes how much her faith truly means to him. No longer wanting to hide behind his insecurities, he makes a quiet promise to believe in her and live up to the expectations of the girl who finally chose him first. His heart won't stop racing. Yuta Tano stands frozen, his face flushed with a heat he can't explain as he questions the overwhelming sensation Huju's words left behind. He is completely caught off guard by the intensity of his own feelings, struggling to process why his chest is pounding so hard. Meanwhile, the official roster for the interclass relay race is posted, cementing his role on the pink team. As the chapter closes, a blazing summer of new challenges and confusing emotions is just beginning. Practice time. But Yuta Tono's head is completely in the clouds. During club activities in the gymnasium, his lack of focus leads to a flurry of mistakes, earning him a loud scolding from the coach. Meanwhile, Huju watches from the balcony, bewildered by his sudden sloppiness. A single glance from the school's idol is enough to send the boys' imaginations into overdrive. Seeing the famous Huju watching their practice from behind the fence, the boys can't help but wonder if she's secretly interested in one of them as they spiral into a secret love daydream. Noah steps in to cheer everyone on, successfully raising the morale of the entire volleyball team. Amidst the excitement, Yuta Tono stays practical, even as the atmosphere in the gym reaches a fever pitch. Talk about a sudden mood boost. Huju and Huju make a grand entrance in borrowed cheer squad outfits, leaving the other students in awe of how good they look. With the team's energy peaking, everyone is fired up to give their all at the sports festival, while Yuta Tano finds himself caught in the whirlwind of excitement. Huju strikes a dramatic pose, demanding Yuta Tono's attention with a confident "check it out." As she leans into a smug, self-assured look, Yuta Tono's heart begins to pound uncontrollably. Blushing furiously and unable to look away, he finds himself completely overwhelmed by her presence, barely able to squeeze out a response. The teasing never ends for a flustered Yuta Tano. Noah leans in with a smirk, mocking Yuta Tano for its awkward response to the gorgeous Huju standing right there. Urara joins the fun, playfully suggesting that Huju cheering for him in the upcoming relay would be the perfect motivation. Overwhelmed and embarrassed, Yuta Tano frantically shuts them down, insisting he doesn't need any such thing while Huju awkwardly flaps her arms in the background. The big day has finally arrived at Shinmi High School. Motivated by Huju's earlier encouragement, Yuta Tano has officially signed up for the relay race. However, as the opening ceremony begins, he's completely distracted. The image of Huju in her sports uniform is burned into his mind, making his heart race every time he catches a glimpse of her in the crowd. One look is all it takes to send Yuta Tono's heart into a total tailspin. As the opening ceremony gets underway, Hujo glances back with a soft blushing smile, her face adorned with playful heart stickers. The sight hits Yuta Tono like a physical blow, leaving him wide-eyed and sweating as he tries to process the sudden surge of adrenaline. He can't help but wonder why his heart is beating so fast. a reaction so intense that even Urara leans in to check if he's actually doing okay. The sports festival kicks off with a roar, but Yuta Tano is already feeling the brink of his frame while the crowd goes wild for the opening ball toss. Yuta Tano finds himself wandering the grounds, bored and waiting for his turn in the relay. His mood only sours when he spots a massive line of fans waiting to take pictures with a cardboard cutout of Aiden. To top it off, his attempt to talk to Hinagi Hasegawa is met with a cold shoulder, as she remains hidden under a hood and sunglasses, making it clear she wants nothing to do with him. Hauja's unique logic is on full display. While watching the ball toss, Yuta Tano is stunned to see Hauju attempt to save her struggling team with a disastrously creative strategy, hoarding a mountain of balls and dumping them all at once. Utterly bewildered by her chaotic nature, Yuta Tano drifts off in thought only to crash violently into a stranger. Even in the middle of a crowded festival, Ri's presence is impossible to ignore. He fixes Yuta Tano with an intense glare before suddenly reaching out and grabbing him from behind. Startled by the sudden physical contact, Yuta Tano lets out a yelp, his face flushing a peachy pink as Aiden casually brushes it off as him just spacing out. The brothers stand together in a moment of awkward closeness, drawing the attention of everyone nearby as Yuta Tano struggles to regain his composure. Family support arrives in the most unexpected way. As Yuta Tano watches the huge figure of his brother Aiden walk away, he's left wondering if he just encountered a particularly large parent. His confusion is cut short when a familiar voice calls his name, revealing his mom and dad have arrived at the sports festival. Clad in holding fans for both their sons, Leon and his wife surprise Yuta Tano with their presence. Despite his shock, Tensprints formally and insist to miss the chance to cheer for both of their precious boys. Even parental support comes with a side of brutal honesty. Leon and Yuta Tano's mother admit that they tried to see Aiden, but his massive fan club was simply too much to navigate. Leon casually mentions that it's much easier to find Yuta Tano because he doesn't have a crowd, leaving Yuta Tano wondering if he just got insulted by his own father. Just as the awkwardness peaks, a voice calls out to him from across the grounds. A sudden victory brings an unexpected introduction. Huju approaches Yuta with a shy peace sign, proudly announcing she managed to land 2 balls in the basket. Her arrival instantly shifts the atmosphere as Yuta's parents Nereus and Ari are struck by how adorable his son. About who this mysterious girl is, Ari is practically glowing with excitement. Caught in the middle of his parents' high energy, and Huja's simply a classmate. Yuta can only mumble that she is simply a classmate. Meeting the parents is always nerve-wracking, but for Yuta Tano, it's a total nightmare. His parents, Ari and Leon, are absolutely thrilled to meet Huju, but Ari can't help but ramble about Yuta Tono's social awkwardness with girls. As Yuta Tono desperately tries to shut her down to save face, Huju just smiles, completely unfazed by his blunt personality. Sometimes, the smallest gestures leave the deepest impressions, as Huju looks on with a soft, determined gaze. She remembers the moments that defined her view of him, like the time Yuta lent her his umbrella in the rain, or stepped in to help when she was struggling. While Yuta hides his blushing face in flustered embarrassment, Huju makes it clear to everyone that she knows exactly how kind he truly is, seeing the person he is rather than the shadow of his brother. A sweet invitation leads to a sudden surprise. Ari praises Huju for being such a sweet girl and warmly invites her to visit their home. While Yuta Tono is left completely bewildered by the sudden friendliness, he is caught off guard when he is suddenly grabbed. Family introductions can be a whirlwind of emotions. Leon and Ari warmly tell Huju how happy they would be if she stayed close friends with Yuta, to which she simply agrees. As they head off to cheer for him with cameras ready, Yuta is left reeling from the sudden intensity of the encounter. Despite his embarrassment, Huju softly remarks on how nice his parents are, leaving him scratching his head in the aftermath. Just when Yuta Tashno thinks he can catch his breath after his parents' departure, Huju delivers a heart-stopping blow. She looks back over her shoulder with a soft, blushing smile, promising that she'll be watching him too. As the sound of his own racing heart thumps in his ears, Yuta Tashno stands frozen, internally screaming at her to stop being so effortlessly charming. The sports festival reaches a fever pitch as the spotlight shifts to Aiden, the undefeated star and school idol. He is set to anchor the relay race, effortlessly drawing the admiration of everyone around him. But as classmates marvel at his prestige, a shadow of comparison falls over Yuta Tanafor in their eyes. It is nothing short of bold for the younger brother to challenge the invincible Aiden head. Even the most effortless genius has moments where the fire truly ignites. Yuta looks back on a recent exchange where he vowed to win, only to find Aiden surprisingly energized. Seeing his brother pumped as hell is a rare sight, and it's clear that this unusual competitive spark from Aiden is weighing heavily on Yuta's mind as the festival approaches. Aiden's sudden drive for victory is contagious, but a shadow of doubt still lingers in his eyes. He resolves to give the competition his all. A sight that leaves Yuta Tano visibly taken aback by his brother's intensity, however. The momentum shifts into a quiet moment of introspection as Aiden wonders about the true reason behind his feelings. Briefly excusing himself to grab some water, he leaves Hauja's side, his mind clearly elsewhere. Aiden walks through the school grounds, his mind preoccupied with his younger brother. He recalls how Yuta Tano used to shy away from any direct competition, but now, something has shifted, had Lucas with a serious expression, admitting to himself that a fully committed Yuta Tano is a genuine threat to his victory. On the sidelines, Yuta Tano is a nervous wreck, trembling as his name is shouted across the field, wondering what has gotten himself into as the stage is set for a brotherly showdown. Sometimes, the biggest mysteries have the simplest solutions. Yuta Tano recalls arriving at school to find Huju looking uncharacteristically angry, her cheeks puffed out in a silent pout. Just as he starts to panic over what could have happened, she suddenly offers him a mega big candy while aggressively munching on her own. With that simple gesture, the mystery of her sour mood is instantly solved. The mystery of Hauja's bad mood is finally solved, and it turns out she wasn't mad at all. She was just busy wrestling with a massive piece of candy. Relieved, Yuta Tano takes one for himself. Despite Hauja's warning that it's a risk to eat, he quickly realizes she wasn't joking as he struggles to even move the snack around. Before long, the two of them are standing outside the school building, with their cheeks puffed out like squirrels, munching in silence while their classmates look on in total confusion. A sweet morning greeting turns into a silent, sugary struggle. Mirai-kun cheerfully greets Yuta and Huju, only to be met with muffled, candy-filled responses. Unable to move the giant treats in their mouths, the two can only offer rhythmic munching in return. Captivated by the awkward but cute scene, Mirai-kun discreetly snaps a photo, further expanding his secret folder of the pair's moments. The sports festival is reaching its climax under the scorching sun. Feeling a sudden surge of motivation after a push from Huju, Yuta Tano decides to step up and volunteers to be the anchor for the race. However, the stakes feel even higher, knowing that his perfect brother, Rei, is also competing. The pressure of the spotlight is finally hitting home. Yuta's heart hammers against his chest as he realizes actually about to race Aiden in front of the entire school. Paralyzed by fear and cursing his own decision to compete, he spirals into a full-blown panic, clutching his head in despair while Aiden and Leon watch his breakdown from the sidelines. The heat is becoming unbearable, and Hojishan looks like she's about to melt. Leon notices steam rising from her as she blushes intensely. While Mirai-kun panics over forgetting his hand fan, the group descends into a flurry of activity, shouting for water and salty snacks to help her recover. Amidst the chaos, Yuta Tano steps forward with a cooling towel, gently draping it around her neck to provide some much-needed relief. Double the support, double the breeze. Leon and Urara hand Noah a custom fan that features Yuta on one side and Aiden on the other, ensuring she can cheer for both brothers while staying cool in the heat. As Noah takes the fan with a soft thank you, her eyes fixate on the message supporting Yuta, a quiet blush coloring her expression as she holds the fan close. The main event is finally here, and the atmosphere is electric. Leon takes to the mic to announce the start of the mixed-grade relay race, while Urara leads the charge with enthusiastic cheers in the background. As the crowd erupts into a frenzy for the blue team's anchor, Aiden, the prince of the school, basks in the spotlight with a confident smile. Standing amidst the screaming fans, Yuta Tano can't help but feel a familiar sense of awe and resignation at just how popular his older brother truly is. The race begins with a heart-stopping stumble. While Aiden remains the picture of composure, Yuta Tano's nerves are tested as his team's first runner slips right at the start. The crowd gasps in shock, yet hope remains high that Yuta Tano can close the gap if the baton reaches him. In the stands, Hinagi Hasegawa spots the custom fan Noah is clutching, impressed by the support for the competing brothers. The stakes are high and the odds are low. Huju softly confirms that someone gave her the custom fan, but the moment is interrupted by the frantic energy of the race. The commentator shouts that the pink team has fallen into last place, meaning they'll need a miracle to overtake the lead and win the event. Just as the pressure peaks, Yuta Tano's name is called. It's finally time for the anchor to take the stage. Even the perfect older brother feels the pressure of the spotlight. As the pink team starts to close the gap in the relay, Yuta Tano struggles to keep his composure while standing next to his brother. When Yuta Tano asks if Hez nervous, Aiden catches him off guard by admitting that Hez actually always filled with anxiety before a race, contrasting sharply with the cool image everyone else sees. Even the golden boy has his shadows, as Aiden steps up as the anchor for the blue team. Amidst a sea of screaming fans, his internal monologue reveals a surprising truth. Looking back at their childhood and the moments where he seemed perfect, He admits that he always lived with the quiet, lingering expectation that one day he would be the one losing to Yuta Tano. Even amidst the deafening cheers of the crowd, a quiet moment of brotherly bond takes center stage. Yuta Tano jokingly suggests that Aiden could afford to lose for once, but Aiden just laughs it off. As he catches the baton for the final leg, he looks back at Yuta Tano with a determined smile. Not gonna happen, he says, revealing that his true goal isn't just winning, it's being the kind of older brother Yuta Tano can look up to with pride. The crowd erupts as Rai seizes the baton, charging ahead in a desperate, high-stakes sprint. Driven by the desire to be a brother Yuta Tano can truly be proud of, Fry pushes himself to the limit. Watching from the sidelines, Yuta Tano feels a surge of complex emotion. Despite everything, Rai has always been more than just a shadow to him. He is his rival, his role model, and his greatest pride. The crushing weight of lifelong expectations finally shatters Aiden's composure, leading to a raw confession. The mere act of being compared to Yuta Tano has always been his greatest DC. He reflects on the every competition gap that felt like a loud, public declaration that he simply wasn't good enough. Even as the crowd's cheers roar around them, Aiden remains drowned in his own insecurity. A quiet, pivotal realization takes hold. Yuta Tano is simply himself. This simply himself, and that alone is enough. A silent cheer speaks louder than words. Takamiya hides her blushing face behind a fan, but her message is clear. Yuta. Amidst the chaos of the relay race and the cheers of Mina, Yvonne, and Lyra, her eyes are fixed solely on him, offering a quiet, heartfelt encouragement that stands out from the roar of the crowd. A sudden surge of emotion hits Yuta Tano. Why is it that right now he feels this way? With a powerful step and a firm grip on the baton passed from Ray, Yuta Tano is ready to give it everything he's got. The shadow of his brother finally fades as Yuta finds his own stride on the track. With a determined blush and a heart no longer weighed down by fear, he pushes himself to the limit. The announcer's voice crackles with excitement as Yuta practically flies past the other runners, surging the pink team into second place. Among the crowd, the whispers of Raisama's little brother are replaced by genuine shock at its incredible speed, proving to everyone himself that he is more than just a stepping stone. The stadium erupts as the relay race reaches its heart-pounding climax. It's a neck-and-neck battle between the blue and pink teams, leaving the spectators, including Takamiya and Lyra, completely breathless. As Yuta Tant gives it his all in a desperate sprint for the finish, voice booms over and over the roar of the crowd. With a thunderous sound marking the peak of the intensity, everything hangs in the balance. Who will claim the ultimate victory? Even in second place, the spotlight finally finds its way to Yuta. As the crowd buzzes with praise for Aiden and surprise at his younger brother's speed, the exhausted runners catch their breath on the field. Yuta stands alone, sweating and panting, reflecting on the fact that even though he lost, something feels different this time. His internal monologue is interrupted when a voice calls out his name, pulling him back to the reality of the cheering stadium. A rare, quiet moment unfolds as Hoju approaches Yuta Tano to praise his effort after the race. But the intimacy is short-lived. Suddenly, the peace is shattered as a swarm of excited teammates crashes in, their loud cheers drowning out the silence. Overwhelmed by the sudden chaos and the praise for his insane comeback, Yuta Tano is swept away by the crowd to take photos, leaving the moment with Hoju abruptly severed. The roar of the crowd fades into a heavy silence. Hoju looks at Yuta Tano, her voice soft and filled with guilt as she apologizes for failing to live up to his hopes. Caught off guard and overwhelmed by her sincerity, Yuta Tano can only hide his face behind his towel, unable to find the words to comfort her. No escape from Takamiya's unexpected kindness. Just as Yuta Tano is cooling down, Takamiya suddenly plops a towel over his head and starts rubbing his hair with chaotic energy. Completely flustered and confused by the sudden attention, Yuta Tano tries to protest. But Takamiya isn't having any of it, firmly refusing to stop her aggressive caretaking. A simple compliment can change everything. As Takamiya dries his hair, she looks him in the eye and tells him he was amazing. For Yuta Tano, who is used to the sting of being in his brother's shadow, having someone truly see him makes all the difference. Sometimes, being seen is the most overwhelming feeling of all. Yuta clutches his towel, his heart racing and face flushed from Takamiya's sincere words. As she walks away to rejoin the class, he stands frozen in the moment until a sudden pat on the shoulder and a loud shout bring him back to the bustling sports festival. After the race, Aiden throws himself at Yuta Tano with an explosion of energy, his affection almost suffocating, flustered and overheating. Yuta Tano desperately tries to maintain his distance, but his brother only clings tighter, playfully insisting on a fair rematch next time. As Yuta Tano huffs in annoyance, Aiden's expression shifts, the playfulness vanishes, replaced by a knowing look. He had wondered why Yuta Tano was pushing himself so hard, and now, seeing the truth, he finally understands. A brother's intuition is never wrong. As Takami watches with a soft, knowing smile, Aiden immediately picks up on the shift in the atmosphere. With a mischievous smirk and a playful hum, he leans in to tease Yuta about the girl who has clearly captured his attention. Flustered and defensive, Yuta tries to brush it off, but the impact Takamiya has on him is impossible to hide as the day's events draw to a close. Even a simple school day can turn into a sugar-fueled mission when a new treat hits the menu. A classmate excitedly shows Noah a photo of a brand new, overly complicated caramel cream vanilla choco ice frap. The hype is infectious, and Takamiya is instantly sold, her eyes sparkling as she declares her craving. Watching the chaos unfold, Yuta can only offer a silent, deadpan critique as Takamiya fails to even get the name of the drink right. Takamiya's determination to get that trendy drink is hitting a bit of a snag. She stares intensely at Yuta stumbling through the long name of the caramel vanilla choco, thinks he while asking him to take her order. Yuta just stares back with a blank expression, eventually asking if he looks like a barista to her while correcting her pronunciation of frappe. Undeterred, Takamiya shouts her order one more time, still calling it a frapper, leaving Yuta wondering if she's even listening to a word he says. A battle of wills over a beverage. Takamiya relentlessly subjects Yuta to the agony of her practice sessions, stumbling through the tongue-twisting caramel cream vanilla choco ice frap order. Yuta desperate pleas to stop being her practice dummy fall on deaf ears, as the order descends into a series of awkward mumbles and heavy silences. Finally defeated by the menu, Takamiya gives up and simply points to the picture, playfully mocking Yuta as a softie, while already plotting to drag Noah along for a taste. Returning to school after the sports festival, Yuta expects to fade back into the background, but the moment he steps through the door, the silence is shattered. He is instantly swarmed by a whirlwind of classmates, their voices erupting in a chaotic wave of admiration. Shocked and flustered, Yuta finds himself trapped in the spotlight as they praise his unexpected performance. Stunned that he nearly eclipsed the legendary Aiden, the invisible boy is suddenly thrust into the spotlight. Yuta finds himself engulfed by an unexpected wave of attention, leaving him completely bewildered and on edge. While his classmates whisper in awe, Takamiya watches with a mischievous smirk, delighting in his confusion as she teases him about his sudden popularity arc. Yuta is haunted by a cycle of deceptive kindness, reliving the moments where he was nothing more than a stepping stone. He recalls the smiling faces of girls who approached him with sweet word offers, to swap contacts, homemade treats, or invitations to lunch. But the facade always crumbled the moment they pivoted to his brother, Aiden. And maybe your brothers too. I made some for your brother too. Tell me more about your brother. The pattern was agonizingly consistent, each kindness serving as a mask for a hidden agenda. I knew it! Yuta screams internally, the realization hitting him with crushing force. The obvious ulterior motive was always there. In his eyes, this is the bitter truth of his existence. He is merely a bridge to someone better. This is exactly how girls are. Just when Yuta thought he could finally escape his brother's shadow, reality hits him like a freight train. He watches in despair as the familiar frenzy returns. The girls he thought had calmed down were actually just lying in wait for a chance to use him. As word spreads that the legendary Risama is approaching, a literal stampede of classmates surges forward, leaving Yuta caught in the wake of their relentless obsession. Even his classmates can't help but feel a bit of second-hand embarrassment. As Even offers some blunt sympathy, Yuta mind spirals into the dark memories that shaped his distrust. He watches the girls around him with a cynical eye, knowing all too well that their buddy-buddy act is likely a ruse. He can still hear the cold voice of a girl from his past, to Yuta the friendship the moment she got the information she wanted about his brother. And to Yuta he isn't a person to them. He's just a pathetic stepping stone. A simple greeting can be the most suspicious thing in the world when you've spent your life as a stepping stone. Just as Yuta is lost in his dark thoughts, Haoju appears out of nowhere with a calm morning that stops him dead in his tracks. He stands there frozen, his internal alarms blaring, as he tries to process why this beautiful girl is looking him straight in the eye. Old habits die hard when trauma is involved. Yuta looks at Noah Hojao, a girl he was actually starting to trust, but his mind immediately begins to spiral into familiar patterns of doubt. Overwhelmed by his past experiences, he frantically scoots away from her in the hallway, haunted by the crushing suspicion that she might be just another person aiming for his brother. Old habits die hard when paranoia takes the wheel. Huju leans in with an intense, unblinking stare, repeating her simple morning after Yutatono's initial shock leaves speechless and sweating. Despite his flustered reaction, Yutatono's mind immediately retreats into his shell of distrust. He watches her closely, convinced that her persistence is just another calculated move to get closer to his brother, just like every girl before her. A simple greeting can be the most disarming weapon of all. Huju leans in close, her persistent good morning finally breaking through Yutatono's defensive walls. Caught off guard by her proximity, Yutatono can only manage a flustered yep as he tries to swallow his nerves. But when Huju offers a soft, genuine smile and repeats her greeting one last time, the boy who expects the worst is left completely speechless. Talk about a total meltdown. After Huju walks away, Yutatono is left a blushing mess, literally banging his head against the wall in frustration over his own behavior. Once class starts, he tries to focus on the lesson, but as he writes down the definition of deception, he can't help but feel has been far too careless with his feelings lately. Old wounds cut deep as Yutatono sits in class, his mind a battlefield of suspicion and hope. He scolds himself for being swayed by Huju's warmth, imagining himself as a helpless pawn in her hands if this is all just another elaborate scheme. A painful memory of a girl from his past, telling him not to get the wrong idea, flashes through his mind. Yet, even as he writes a reminder to be on guard in his notebook, a small part of him help but wonder if Huju is the exception to his bitter rule. Determined to protect his heart, Yutatono shuts down Huju's friendly approach with a cold excuse and literally runs away. But as the lunch bell rings and the classroom fills with excitement, Yutatono is left slumped at his desk, drowning in a wave of regret for being so dismissive to the one person who might actually care. A small gesture of kindness meets a wall of defensive silence. Just as Yutatono is drowning in his own guilt, Huju breaks the tension by plopping a soda-flavored candy onto his desk with a simple "here stunned" and still trapped by Hitai's self-imposed guard. Yutatono stares at the gift in silence before doubling down on his cold front, bluntly telling her he doesn't want it even as he breaks into a nervous sweat. Even when he tries to push her away, she sees right through him. Huju is genuinely confused by Yutatono's rejection, pointing out that she chose soda flavor specifically because she noticed it makes him happy. This realization that she's actually been wanjak and not his brother hits Yutatono like a bolt of lightning, leaving him blushing and completely at a loss for words as his hand jolts in surprise. Is it a trap, or is she for real? Yutatono's mind becomes a literal battlefield, as his inner devil warns him against being a gullible idiot, while his inner angel defends Huju's simple kindness. Caught in the crossfire of his own paranoia and a racing heart, he tries to maintain his distance, muttering that he definitely doesn't like Hiravan as a stubborn blush betrays the truth. One look at Huju's drooping expression is all it takes to shatter Yutatono's resolve, as she softly laments, not knowing his true preferences. The weight of his own cynicism hits him like a freight train. Caught between his fear of being used and the crushing guilt of hurting someone who seems so genuine, he can only scream internally before slamming his head onto his desk in pure, unadulterated frustration. Regret hits hard as Yutatono tightly squeezes the candy he just tried to push away. Still hiding his face against the desk in shame, he mumbles a sudden confession that she was right all along. Huju can only stare back in confusion, wondering what on earth he's talking about now. Honesty can be the hardest thing to swallow. Still slumped over his desk in a fit of embarrassment, Yutatono finally mutters an admission that leaves Huju watching him in silence. I love this. Clutching the small wrapper tightly in his hand, he finally stops fighting his own feelings and acknowledges that she was right, all along. It really is the soda flavor he enjoys. The walls Yutatono built around his heart are crumbling, and he knows it. Still hiding his face against the cold surface of his desk, he mutters a quiet thanks while his mind races with frustration. His face is flushed a deep red as he curses his own vulnerability, realizing that no matter how hard he tries to stay guarded, being around Huju always manages to throw him completely off his game. A sudden strike to the heart. Huju is left completely breathless and blushing, her mind racing from the encounter. But the moment is cut short as Huju arrives, wondering why the atmosphere feels so strange. As for Yutatono, he's just happy with his snack, totally oblivious to the emotional chaos he's caused. Old habits die hard, especially when your heart won't listen to your head. Yuta reflects on the chaotic events of the previous day, sweating as he tells himself he needs to be more vigilant. His internal angel and devil personas clash once again, arguing over whether he was being gullible for accepting the candy. Just as he puts on a determined face and vows never to be tricked again, Huju silently creeps up behind him with a simple morning. Startled and with his heart racing, Yuta's resolve crumbles instantly, leaving his classmates to conclude that he is truly hopeless as his suffering continues. Turns out, Huju's attention to detail isn't just reserved for one person. She casually lists off everyone's favorites from Urara's strawberry to Murray's orange. But when she mentions Yutatono's love for soda and cola, he's left completely flustered, realizing he isn't the only one just been keeping tabs on. Even a simple gesture of gratitude turns into an exhausting mission for Yuata. Feeling indebted for all the candy Hoju has given him, He asks if there's anything she's craving so he can return the favor. Though she insists she gives them just because she wants to, she mentions a new limited edition choco pie she's been eyeing. Yuta's stubbornness leads him on a frantic hunt through 5 different stores just to find the rare treat, leaving him questioning his own life choices as he huffs and puffs his way home. The effortless charm of the older brother. A girl pours her heart out, confessing her longtime love for Rei, but he calmly delivers a cold truth. He cannot return her feelings. A simple question can sometimes be the hardest to answer. Hoju hesitates before finally asking Yuta Tono if it's true that Hez never had a girlfriend. When he bluntly confirms it, she starts to ask why, but he quickly cuts her off, his past insecurities clearly weighing heavy on the conversation. Panicked by the sudden interrogation into his love life, Yuta Tano flashes a blindingly bright smile and declares that he simply loves everyone right now. Hoju, overwhelmed by his sudden radiance, thanks him for his time and promises to keep cheering him on as she quickly makes her exit. Left alone in the quiet, Yuta Tano can only offer a blunt, hollow thanks as the reality of his awkward defense sinks in. The weight of social awkwardness finally crushes Yuta as he retreats to his sanctuary, draped across his sofa in a state of total gloom. He groans about how tired he is, his perfectionism acting as a heavy shackle on his spirit. In a fit of tears, he berates himself as a worthless loser, convinced that dating is an impossibility for someone as pathetic as him. Just as Hez hiding his face in shame, a sudden sound catches his attention, pulling him out of his spiral of self-loathing. Imagine the nightmare. Every girl in school suddenly realizing the truth and calling him the absolute worst. Overwhelmed by this imagined hatred, Yuta Tano rolls around his room in a dramatic fit of agony, only to end his spiral with a painful thud. Even at home, Yuta can't catch a break from his brother's dramatic antics. While Yuta is busy with chores, Aiden has reached a new level of pathetic, rolling across the floor and claiming he's becoming the mop himself. Yuta can only watch in annoyance as Ri's supposed help just creates a bigger mess, eventually telling his dramatic older sibling to just give up and go rest. Talk about a total transformation. Ri can't help but comment on the extreme gap between Yutatano's public image and the pathetic, saggy creature he becomes the moment he hits the couch. Yutatano admits that trying to be perfect in front of others drains every ounce of his energy, but the comedic atmosphere vanishes instantly when Ri drops a bombshell question. Has Yutatano finally gotten close to a girl? A slip of the tongue leads to instant regret. Yuta panics as he realizes he's accidentally mentioned Hauja's name to his brother, immediately trying to backtrack with a blushing face. While Aiden lies solicited advice on how to act natural around girls to avoid turning them off, Yuta can only look on with a mix of embarrassment and annoyance, firmly rejecting his brother's logic. Even the most perfect facades have a hidden side. Aiden lies back, musing that everyone possesses parts of themselves they would rather not show to others, a thought that leaves Yuta Tano in quiet contemplation. Their brief moment of connection is interrupted by Leon calling out as he returns home. As the day transitions to the familiar sight of the school building, summer heat brings more than just sweat for Yuta Tano. Walking home in the sweltering heat, Yuta complains about the rising temperature, only to have his worst nightmare come true. A large insect lands directly on his head, sending him into a frantic, screaming spiral as he realizes his childhood tolerance for bugs has completely vanished. A hero appears in the most unexpected form. Hoju tells Yuta to hold still as she reaches for his head, expertly lifting the tiny insect away. While Yuta is left panting and trembling from the shock, Hoju casually walks off, simply telling him that the bug is gone now. Still shaken by the encounter, Yuta manages a quiet thank you to Hoju, staring at her in awe of her bravery. He can't help but ask how she can handle insects so casually, to which Hoju nonchalantly explains that she only dislikes soft-bodied ones like caterpillars, while hard-shelled bugs are perfectly fine. Her bizarre reasoning and confident thumbs up only serve to leave Yuta more confused and panicked than before. A realization dawns on Hoju as she watches Yuta recover from his bug-induced panic. So, Tono's bad with bugs, she notes to herself. Seeing him still shaken, a playful smile spreads across her face as she blushes. That's kinda cute, she teases, sending Yuta into a full-blown blush as he stammers in shock at her unexpected compliment. One small bug, one giant blow to his pride. Yuta is absolutely mortified that Hoju saw him lose his cool over a tiny insect. As he turns bright red with shame, his mind starts racing with worst-case scenarios. He imagines Hoju mocking him for being pathetic, and even pictures her using a giant bug to force him into submission. Suddenly, his brother Aiden's words about everyone having hidden sides click into place. He just never expected his hidden side to be exposed so awkwardly. Some secrets are just too cute to keep. Huddled against the hallway wall and clutching his bag, Yuta Tano tries to mumble away his embarrassment, begging Hoju to simply forget his pathetic display with the insect. However, Huju crouches down to met his eyes with a blush of her own, delivering a firm nope, as she admits this precious new side of him she's just discovered. Sometimes, the things we want to hide are exactly what bring us closer. Huju leans in with a gentle, blushing smile, resting her chin on her hands as she looks directly at Yutatono. She softly admits that discovering this new vulnerable side of him actually makes her quite happy. Yutatono is left completely flustered, sitting on the floor in a daze as the weight of her words sinks in. Yutatono is spiraling, terrified of how Hoju might use the secret she now holds over him. Just as the tension reaches its peak, the school bell screams through the air, cutting the moment short. While the other students rush off in a chaotic blur, Yutatono remains frozen, staring at Huju. He is struck by the agonizing contrast while he is a wreck of nerves. Huju remains effortlessly composed, distracted by something as simple as a butterfly. Still, a heavy thought lingers in his mind, the terrifying vulnerability of showing someone the side of yourself you never wanted the world to see. A heavy silence settles over Yutatono as he sinks into a sudden, piercing realization. While Huju has glimpsed the raw and vulnerable parts of his soul, he finds himself standing before a closed door when it comes to her. He realizes with a pang of uncertainty that he knows almost nothing about the girl who has become so central to his thoughts. Does Huju hide a side of herself from the world? Does she carry secrets that she refuses to let anyone see? Just as the weight of these questions begins to settle, the fragile peace is shattered. Muraikun and Even burst onto the scene with their usual chaotic energy, abruptly dragging Yutatono away from his introspection and toward the promise of food. Left in the wake of the noise, Yutatono can only blink in confusion, his moment of deep reflection stolen by the loud, demanding reality of high school life. The school day is winding down, but the tension between Yutatono and Huju is only just beginning. Muraikun notices Huju getting ready to leave and mentions that Urara has already headed out. He invites her to join their group for the walk home, but Huju politely declines, stating she has something else to do. While the others wonder if she's heading to a bookstore, Huju's firm nope leaves them and a flustered Tana wondering what her real plans are. A shocking revelation leaves the boys speechless. Huju looks back with a faint blush and calmly announces her destination. A Maid cafe. The news hits Yuta, Muraikun, and Ivan like a bolt from the blue, leaving them wide-eyed and flustered as they struggle to process this unexpected side of her. Yutatono's worst nightmare is coming to life. Realizing that Huju has discovered his crippling fear of bugs, he begins to spiral into a dark imagination. He envisions a ruthless Huju cornering him with a giant insect, demanding he spill all the secrets about Piper's older brother, and even extorting him for snacks. As the imaginary bug gets shoved in his face, Yutatono can only scream in pure terror at the thought of being blackmailed by his own weakness. Yutatono is trapped in a nightmare, but the reality is much more peaceful and slightly pathetic. While he groans and pleads for mercy in his sleep, a real butterfly decides his head is the perfect resting spot. Huju watches the bizarre scene in silence, eventually waving goodbye as the little insect flutters away, leaving Yutatono to his imaginary torment. The storm in Yutatono's mind finally clears, replaced by a serene dream that brings a smile to his face. Huju stands over him, her usual distance melting into a soft, affectionate gaze as she takes in the rare sight of him looking at peace. With a light heart, she hums a cheerful tune and heads out, leaving him to his quiet afternoon nap. Welcome to a world of ruffles and smiles. The Maid Cafe stands invitingly with its heart-themed decor and bustling atmosphere. Inside, Leon sits at a table being served while other maids move efficiently through the dining area. At the front, the energetic duo Ayuchi and Yume greet the next arrival with a cheerful and synchronized, "Welcome home, master." Stepping into the Maid Cafe, the group finds themselves in a world of awkward greetings and unexpected surprises. Huju leads the way with a confident "we're home," leaving Yutatono sweating and questioning the social etiquette of the establishment. While Muraikun and Evan are eager to see what the fuss is about, Yutatono remains skeptical of Huju's motives until something across the room catches his eye, leaving him completely stunned, a familiar face in an unexpected place. As the group enters the cafe, a maid waves her arm high in the air, shouting Huju's name with pure delight. She is overjoyed that they actually showed up, but the warm welcome is met with a wave of shock from the boys. Yutatono, Muraikun, and even stare in disbelief, realizing that the girl in the frilly uniform is none other than Morikawa-san. The mystery of Huju's destination is finally solved, as Yutatono looks over the menu with a mix of realization and nerves. Noah and Urara are quick to praise Morikawa-san's adorable new maid outfit. Morikawa-san beams with joy, explaining she only recently started because of how cute the uniforms are. Even Huju joins the chorus of praise, noting how well the Urachan badge suits her, leaving the group enjoying the surprisingly pleasant atmosphere of the cafe. Urara's pride and joy is a bit much for Yuta Tano to handle. Urara beams with pride as she reveals her handmade name tag, a glittering masterpiece of beads and ribbons that spells out Urachan. While she gushes about how it contains everything she loves, Yuta Tano can only stare in disbelief at the sheer intensity of the loud accessory. A little praise goes a long way in this frilly atmosphere. Huju looks at Urara with a soft expression, noting that her heavily decorated name tag is cute and perfectly matches her personality. Urara beams with pride, thanking her friend for the compliment. In the background, Leon asks if the group are Urara's friends, and she excitedly confirms they've come to visit her. Yudatono finally connects the dots, realizing Hauja's motive for bringing them here was to check on Mariko-san's new part-time job. However, as he sits at the table with Marikun and Even, he can't help but feel like the odd one out, wondering why he even tagged along. Meanwhile, Urara enthusiastically calls Noah over to join the fun. The atmosphere shifts instantly as a new figure steps into view. With a sharp clack of her shoes, Noah makes her entrance, dressed in a full Maid uniform that catches everyone off guard. Yuta Tano can hardly believe his eyes, his face flushing red as he lets out a shocked cry, while Huju looks on in equal surprise at the sudden transformation of their classmate, a surprise that leaves everyone speechless. Huju appears in a cute maid outfit, a special treat offered by the cafe. While Yuta Tano tries to act composed, his blushing face gives him away, much to the amusement of Urara. As for Mirai, the sheer amount of romantic tension is too much for him to handle, leaving his brain completely fried. Talk about a test of will. Huju is acting completely natural in her maid outfit, which only makes Yuta Tono's heart race faster. While Marikun casually orders an omiris set, Yuta Tono is fighting a losing battle against his own blush, telling himself to stay strong and not let the outfit shake him. But as Huju turns her attention to him, asking for his order, Yuta Tono's resolve is pushed to the limit. Talk about a total system overload. Noah leans in, her maid persona in full swing, as she asks her master what he'd like to order. The sight of her looking so elegant surrounded by imaginary flowers and the echoing tittle of Master sends Yuta Tano into a state of pure shock. Slumped over the table and blushing furiously, he can only manage to mumble a request for some orange juice while his brain tries to process the situation. One word was all it took to bring him to his knees. As Noah turns to fulfill his order, Yuta Tono is left in a state of total defeat, cursing himself for being so easy to rattle, while Marikun and Urara comment on how Huju never loses her cool. Yuta Tono catches a glimpse of her walking away and senses something is off. Usually she'd be wearing a smug grin after flustering him, but today, even the calm and collected Noah seems to be acting out of character. The Maid Cafe experience reaches its peak of awkwardness and charm. Urara brings the orders with boundless enthusiasm, insisting on performing a magic spell to make the drinks tastier. As she leads the group through the Moe Mo Kyun chant, Yuta Tono and Huju can only watch in stunned silence. Meanwhile, Noah remains off to the side, her face burning with a blush that betrays her usual cool exterior, unable to look the boys in the eye after her earlier master performance. The Maid Cafe chaos continues. While Urara's high-energy antics send Mirai-kun into a blushing frenzy, Yuta Tono tries to stay grounded, amazed at how naturally Huju handles her role. But as the silence stretches between them, Yuta Tono's resolve wavers, and he finally gathers the nerve to speak to her. The cool and collected facade finally cracks. Huju stands there, her face burning with a deep blush as she desperately clutches her tray for comfort. Looking up from his seat, Yuta Tono is frozen in surprise, witnessing a side of her he never expected to see. The cool and collected facade finally crumbles. Huju turns away, her face burning with a deep blush as she stammers that she's only acting this way because the situation is embarrassing. Yuta Tono is left speechless, his eyes wide as he realizes that the girl who always seems so composed is just as flustered as he is. The aftermath of the Maid Cafe leaves everyone in a state of total emotional exhaustion. Yuta Tano and Huju are left slumped and speechless, the weight of their mutual embarrassment finally sinking in as they struggle to process the day's events. Meanwhile, Noah attempts to maintain her usual composure while sipping a drink, insisting the experience was fun. However, Yuta Tano quickly calls her out, noting that she was visibly blushing the entire time despite her calm exterior. Sometimes, the most unexpected reasons lead to the most heartwarming moments. Yuta Tono questions why Noah would subject herself to such embarrassment, but Noah simply explains she wanted to experience what Urara was doing. As she watches her friend's joyful energy from afar, a soft blush colors Noah's cheeks, and she quietly admits that seeing Urara's happiness is more than enough to make her feel happy as well. Noah looks at Yuta Tano and can't help but think he's a complete weirdo. But as she reflects on the shared laughter and the quiet moments spent with Urara and the others, she finds herself unexpectedly understanding the warmth of their bond. Just as she accepts this feeling, Mirai-kun breaks the silence, having noticed the undeniable shift in their dynamic. Hey, I've been wondering. Since when have you and Morikawa been this close? The quiet conversation between Noah and Yudatono is shattered by a loud crash as two maids collide in the middle of the cafe. As one girl apologizes profusely for the bump, Yudatono and Noah look on in shock. On the floor, amidst the scattered items, a discarded name tag catches Yudatono's eye, hinting at a deeper problem. A clumsy mistake leads to a heartfelt apology. One of the maids is completely devastated, knowing exactly how much effort Arara put into her work. However, Arara is far too kind to hold a grudge, quickly waving off the apology with a bright smile. As the tension settles, Huju looks on, contemplating the little accident. Who can resist those puppy dog eyes? Urara excitedly reveals that Hujo can also try on a maid outfit but is not so sure, reminding her that he only came to see her. However, as soon as Urara puts on a sad, teary face, Hujo's resolve crumbles instantly. With a defeated sigh, he agrees to do it, leaving Urara absolutely thrilled. Even the most composed person can be brought to their knees by a little bit of roleplay. After Urara gushes over how cute Noah looks in her new maid outfit, she suggests that Noah try serving Yuta Tono and the others. Noah agrees with a simple sure. But the requirement to call customers master quickly turns her confidence into pure mortification as she struggles to practice the line in front of a mirror, realizing she is way more embarrassed than she ever expected to be. While waiting for their food at the maid cafe, Maraikan can't help but gush about how cute Morikawa-san and Hoja-san looked. Evan is taken aback by how Maraikan can say such things so casually with a straight face, while Yuta Tahno wonders if this is what people consider maturity. Maraikan quickly gets defensive, telling the two of them that they were far too stiff and need to learn how to relax and have fun in a place like this. As Maraikan strikes a flamboyant Mo pose without a hint of hesitation, Yuta Tahno and even watch in stunned silence, concluding that Maraikun might just be completely shameless. Sometimes, being helpful comes with a heavy price. Yuta Tano struggles to maintain his balance while lugging a box of materials and several large rolls of paper through the hallway. He curses his luck for taking the route past the staff room, where he was inevitably roped into this backbreaking task, even imagining the girl's reactions to his predicament as he finally reaches his destination. Some wounds take time to heal, especially when you've poured your heart and soul into a project only for it to fall apart. Yuta Tano watches from a distance as Urara remains inconsolable, her tears a testament to her shattered expectations after the Maid Cafe accident. Acknowledging that the situation really did blow up in her face, he heads toward the home economics room, feats Yuri Samgirl to be comforted by her friends. A chilling presence awaits in the dark. Yuta Tano steps into the home economics room, only to find a mysterious figure draped in a sheet standing perfectly still. Both he and Aeodatan are gripped by fear as the ghost begins to move with heavy stomps, accompanied by the ominous sound of scissors snipping nearby. Is it a supernatural visitor, or just a very depressed classmate? Yuta Tano lets out a blood-curdling scream as he comes face-to-face with the ghost in the dark room. However, the terrifying specter is revealed to be none other than Hujo, who looks at him with a blank expression. While Yuta Tano is still trembling in fear, she simply blinks and greets him with a casual, "Ah, Tano." The ghost in the home economics room turns out to be a dedicated, if slightly eccentric, seamstress. Huju calmly explains to a sweating Yudatano that she is in the middle of making a name tag for Urara. When Yudatano asks what she was doing under the sheet, she simply states she was cutting fabric, but adds that the secret to her work is communicating with the cloth first. Watching her intense focus and pouting expression, Yudatano can only manage to comment on how unique her approach truly is. Kindness often hides behind the simplest of gestures. As Yudatono looks over the collection of ribbons and sewing tools, Huju admits she went out to buy everything immediately after school. She explains that she could ignore how down Urara has been lately. Recalling the painful sight of Urara, forcing a smile during the Maid Cafe event, Huju felt a quiet resolve to do something. Anything help her friend find her genuine happiness again. A quiet exit turns into a clumsy encounter. Yuta Tano tries to make a clean break and head home, thinking he's finally out of the line of fire. But just as he's leaving, Hauja's clumsy nature strikes, sending her tumbling right into his arms. Blushing and overwhelmed, Yuta Tano can only think one thing. If he gets any more involved with Huju, he's absolutely doomed. Sometimes, even the best intentions lead to total chaos. Yuta Tano finds himself pulled into Hauja's frantic crafting session, desperately holding down the fabric while she rushes to cut it. Despite her determination to help Urara, Hauju is clearly struggling, her fingers covered in bandages and her energy completely spent. Watching her clumsy effort helps. But comment on her ditzy nature, realizing that her earnest desire to do something kind has left her looking absolutely worn out. Huju might deny being a ditz, but her bandaged fingers and the trail of sewing mishaps tell a different story. Despite her obvious lack of dexterity, Yuta Tano is struck by the raw determination in her eyes as she focuses on the task. Watching her struggle with the needle and thread, he can't help but wonder what's truly driving her to go to such lengths for a simple gift. A heartfelt confession changes everything. Huju pauses her sewing, her expression turning pensive as she admits that Urara is her very first friend. Yuta Tano can't hide his shock at the revelation, staring at her in disbelief. Despite his surprise, Huju continues, explaining that Urara likely has no idea just how much their friendship truly means to her. Sometimes, a simple good morning can change everything. Huju reflects on her lonely days in class, where her stoic demeanor made others too nervous to approach her. It was Yura who finally broke the ice, treating her with an openness she had never experienced before. From teaching her about cute accessories to just being a constant friendly presence, Hui became the bridge that connected Huju to a world I thought she was excluded. Yuta Tano watches her, struck by the depth of her gratitude for a bond, is only just beginning to understand. Friendship can truly change how you see the world. Huju looks down at the small sunflower craft in her bandaged hands, a soft blush on her face, as she admits that being with Urara makes her world feel bigger. Yutatano watches her in silence. Struck by the depth of her sincerity, she declares Urara a precious friend, explaining that this is why she is so determined to do something meaningful for her this time. Yutatono is caught off guard by Hauja's sudden vulnerability. Watching her work with such quiet determination, he admits to himself that this is the first time has heard her speak so passionately about someone else. He once viewed her as an easygoing alien who didn't care much for others. But seeing her now, he realizes she is entirely different from the person he thought she was. A surprise gift in the locker? For a brief moment, Yuta Tono's friends are convinced his finally hit peak popularity. But the excitement quickly turns into a familiar sting when Yuta Tono reads the note. Once again, his nothing more than a stepping stone for someone aiming for his older brother. Sometimes a gift isn't a gesture of kindness, it's a slap in the face. Yuta Tano can't take it anymore. With a sharp rip, he tears the offering to shreds right in front of Aiden and his stunned classmates. He stomps down the hallway in a fury, leaving his peers whispering about his scary demeanor. To Yuta Tono, it's just another crap morning where someone tried to use him as a bridge to his brother. He scoffs at the idea of things being made with love, knowing the true intent was never about him. As the anger cools, he is left staring blankly, feeling the weight of yet another meaningless gift. Even after his morning outburst, Yuta Tano can't stop thinking about Hauja's sincere words. He remembers her gentle smile as she spoke about making a gift for Urara, a gesture born from true friendship rather than hidden motives. As he walks through the school halls, he finds himself wondering if Shell managed to give it to her properly. But the moment he realizes has actually caring about someone else's business, his face turns beatered. He clutches his head in a classic fit of denial, shouting to no one in particular that he doesn't care at all, leaving Lyra and his other classmates staring in total confusion. Talk about bad luck. Yuta Tano is barely holding it together while hauling a ridiculous amount of materials, only to be spotted by Huju. He can't believe has run into her 2 days in a row, and this time has in the most embarrassing state possible. Even when the job seems done, some efforts come straight from the heart. Yuta Tano bursts into the room with a loud bang, finding Hauju quietly focused on her handiwork. She hands him a literature guide with a distracted thanks. But Yuta Tano is confused. He sees the finished Urachin name tag on the table and wonders why she is still working so hard. Sometimes, the smallest details reveal the biggest hearts. Shuju looks up from her crafting, explaining to a surprised Yuta Tano that she decided to make the gift even cuter because she knows sparkles and frills. A gentle blush adding sparks onto her face, admitting she couldn't help but imagine how happy her friend would look. Yuta Tano watches her in silence, realizing that Shuju's easygoing exterior hides a deeply caring soul. Sometimes, a single day just isn't enough to show how much you care. As Yuta Tano stands by with a box of materials, Hauju admits that she had to go the extra mile for Urara's gift. Looking at the beautifully decorated Urachin name tag, Yuta Tano is left speechless by Hauju's genuine kindness, a far cry from the manipulative girls has used to. In a world of hidden agendas, Hauju's honesty is a breath of fresh air. Yuta Tano looks at a typical note from his pasta girl, pretending to care just to get Aiden's phone number, and compares it to the girl sitting before him. He realizes that Hauju isn't looking for a reward or a shortcut. She is simply being direct with her feelings. As he watches her work with such focus, the wall around his heart begins to crack, forced to acknowledge that she really, genuinely cares. Sometimes, the loudest realizations happen in the quietest moments. Yuta Tano turns to leave, clutching his box of books. But his thoughts are still anchored to the girl he's leaving behind. As he makes his way out, Huju pauses her meticulous work, looking up with a silent, questioning gaze that lingers on his retreating back. A simple offer changes everything. Moved by Hoja's genuine kindness, Yuta turns back with a blush and offers to help her finish the gift. As they work side by side, Hoju softly calls out his name, the distance between them finally starting to close. A soft question breaks the silence. Hoju leans in and asks if Urara will be happy with the gift. Yuta can't help but blush, realizing just how genuine she truly is. Sometimes, the most genuine hearts are found in the quietest moments. Standing side by side in the fading light, Tano watches Hojo work and realizes she is a bit different from all the other girls he's ever met. Her sincerity is a breath of fresh air, unburdened by the hidden agendas he's so used to. As evening settles over the school, Hojo's only thought is for her friends softly wishing. A moment of pure, selfless friendship. Hoju shyly hands Urara a handmade charm, leaving Urara completely stunned and overjoyed. Overwhelmed with happiness, Urara throws her arms around Hoju in a tight hug, praising the cute gift. Watching from the sidelines, you can't help but be moved by the genuine bond between the two. Sometimes, the most unexpected gifts are the ones that stick with you. Yuta stares at the odd little mascot dangling from his fingers, a handmade lil frill charm. He recalls the moment Noah casually plopped it into his pocket as a thank you gift, leaving him startled and confused. Though he leans against the window and mutters to himself that he didn't even want it, the slight blush on his face suggests that this simple, honest gesture is slowly chipping away at his guarded heart. Sometimes the simplest gifts are the hardest to ignore. Yuta stares at the small, handmade charm Noah gave him, his face flushed with an emotion he can't quite name. Even as he mutters to himself that he didn't even want it, the sincerity behind the gesture lingers. Above him, Hoja's gentle, blushing expression remains etched in his thoughts, slowly chipping away at the walls has built against the world. Old habits die hard, but some feelings are impossible to ignore. Standing alone by the window and staring out at the clouds, Yuta finds himself caught in a moment of rare vulnerability. Despite his constant efforts to keep his guard up and assume the worst of others, he can't help but wonder why receiving that simple handmade charm has left him feeling so unexpectedly happy. Talk about a quick turnaround. Noah tries to play it cool, teasing Yuta for being easily rattled by her handmade gift. She puts on a smug face and lectures him about his lack of inner composure, but her confidence evaporates the second a crow shrieks outside the window. As she leaps in terror at the sudden noise, Yuta finally gets his chance to smirk, calling her out for being just as jumpy as he was. Even at home, the simple gift continues to occupy Yuta every thought. He stares at the handmade frill charm he received from Hoju, pacing his room while trying to decide if it belongs on his dresser or his wall. He even begins to wonder if such a strange object is meant to be displayed at all. Just as he is lost in thought, Aiden suddenly swings the door open with a loud shout, causing the jumpy Yuta to scream in pure terror. Sometimes the best place for a precious gift is tucked safely away. Yuta finally settles on a location for the handmade charm, carefully placing it inside his desk drawer. As he slides it shut, casting the little figure into shadow, he reassures himself that even if it's a bit dark in there, it's the perfect new home for his little treasure. Halloween might be over, but the spooky demands never stop for Yuta. A mysterious figure under a sheet corners him with a persistent trick-or-treat, ignoring his reminders that the holiday has passed. Caught off guard by the ghost's sudden proximity and trembling persistence, Yuta ends up in a choco panic, frantically handing over his candy just to escape the awkward encounter. A sweet revelation. The mysterious figure finally reveals herself as Hoju, blushing as she admits she really likes the chocolates Yuta gave her. Completely caught off guard, Yuta can only stare in a daze while Hoju makes a hasty retreat, leaving him to realize this was just a very late Halloween prank. Rumors travel fast in high school, and Yuta quiet life is about to get a lot louder. Noah leans in to whisper a juicy secret to Takamiya and Kira, recounting how she spotted Hoju and Yuta looking suspiciously close and happy while alone in the sewing room. The news hits like a bombshell, leaving the girls reeling with shock as they begin to speculate if a romance is finally blooming between the two. The morning air is thick with the scent of fresh gossip as the school day begins. Hinagi Hasegawa arrives at her desk, greeted by the hushed whispers of her classmates discussing the mysterious bond between Yuta and Hoju. Instead of dismissing the rumors, Hinagi Hasegawa leans in with a curious smile, admitting that she's just as eager to uncover the truth behind their relationship. The rumor mill is spinning again. Hinagi Hasegawa and her friends are convinced that Hojo is only hanging around Yuta to get the inside scoop on the legendary Reisama. They imagine Yuta as nothing more than a stepping stone for information, but Hojo's internal response is a firm and definite no. The school hallways are buzzing with gossip, but one person knows the truth behind the rumors. Hinagi Hasegawa listens as her classmates speculate about Houji's motives, with some even calling her a wicked girl for getting close to Yuta Tono. Hinagi admits to herself that she once shared those suspicions. But as the voice of experience, she now sees things differently. She observes Houju in the classroom, acting like any other girl, and notices the subtle, honest expressions on her face. Looking at Houju's blushing profile, Hinagi realizes that whatever is happening between her and Yuta, it is definitely real. The past comes back to haunt Hinagi in the most cringeworthy way possible. As her classmates plot to use Houju to dig up dirt on Reisama, Hinagi is hit with a wave of emotional damage seeing her own old tactics mirrored in them. Panicked that they'll mess with her bro-in-law Yuta, she charges in to stop them, only to take a clumsy tumble. What an absolute whirlwind of an entrance. Driven by a desperate need to protect Yuta Tono, Hinagi Hasegawa turns a clumsy stumble into a chaotic spectacle. Launching herself into her self-proclaimed secret technique rolling guard, she barrels across the classroom floor like a human torpedo, leaving her classmates completely stunned by the sheer absurdity of the maneuver. As the dust settles, a bewildered Noah and the others scramble to her side, unable to believe that such a violent tumble could be dismissed as a mere trip. Seeking a moment of recovery, Hinagi Hasegawa reaches out to Houju, pleading to lean on his shoulders. But the moment she makes contact, Houju is hit with a shocking realization: Hinagi Hasegawa possesses a surprising, almost overwhelming amount of weight and raw strength. Hinagi has reached her breaking point. With a terrifying roar, she grabs the girls plotting to use Houju and drags them away, declaring this her atonement to protect her self-proclaimed little brother-in-law. As the school bell rings, Yuta and Houju can only watch in stunned silence, wondering what on earth has gotten into her. Hinagi Hasegawa is working overtime as a bodyguard, but the targets of the rumors don't have a clue. After half a day of physically dragging away gossiping girls and making up excuses about teachers calling them, Hinagi Hasegawa is exhausted. She looks over at Yuta Tono and Houjo, who are sitting together in the classroom, and realizes they are completely oblivious to the social storm she's holding back. Just as things seem to settle, a classmate approaches Yuta Tono, holding out a phone with a surprising photo of a girl in a maid outfit. In the quiet of the classroom, a simple photo album reveals a heart full of genuine affection. Houju excitedly shows Yuta Tono a new photo of Arara wearing a name tag, her eyes sparkling as she calls her friend adorable. As they swipe through a seemingly endless stream of photos, many of them hilariously blurry, Yuta Tono realizes just how much Houju treasures these small moments. When he points out her deep love for Morik Wasan, Houju doesn't hesitate, offering a soft, sincere "yeah" that confirms her devoted nature. A sudden shift in the mood leaves Yuta Tono completely defenseless. After sharing her collection of Arara's photos, Houju catches Yuta Tono off guard with a sudden snap of her camera. The unexpected move sends Yuta Tono into a blushing frenzy, shouting in surprise as he tries to regain his composure. Despite his embarrassment, Houju just giggles mischievously, clearly enjoying the effect she has on him. A playful mystery unfolds in the quiet of the classroom. Houju leans her head against her arm on the desk, her face dusted with a soft blush as she gazes at Yuta Tono. Clutching her phone close, she offers a cryptic, teasing smile and whispers that her reasons for taking his picture are a secret. The air in the classroom is thick with a sweetness that's almost too much to handle. Yuta Tono is left stammering and turning away in a blush-filled panic, unable to process Houju's playful secret. Watching from the sidelines, Hinagi is practically vibrating with excitement, clutching her chest as she witnesses the undeniable chemistry between the two. She realizes that their closeness hasn't gone unnoticed by the rest of the school. And as Detective Hinagi, she's convinced that their relationship is moving forward faster than anyone expected, even if Houju is still busy teasing their friends with photos. Houju's playful mood hits a sudden snag when she realizes she can't actually send Yuta Tono the photo she just took. As she awkwardly admits she doesn't have his contact info, Hinagi Hasegawa watches from a distance, grinning at the pure, unadulterated sweetness of their slow-burn romance, as Houju finally asks for his number. Awkwardness at its peak. Just as Houju tries to approach him, Yuta Tono completely panics. Unable to handle the tension, he blurts out a random excuse about buying a drink and makes a hasty retreat, leaving a bewildered Houju standing alone, while Hinagi Hasegawa watches the chaos unfold. Just when Yuta Tono thinks he can catch his breath, trouble finds him at the vending machine. A heavy clunk signals the arrival of his drink, but his quiet moment is instantly shattered when Hinagi Hasegawa appears out of nowhere. With a sharp gaze, she demands to know the truth behind the sweet scene she just witnessed between him and Houju. Yuta Tono can only let out a frustrated groan, realizing that his attempt to escape the drama has led him straight into a new interrogation. The weight of the past is never far behind. Hinagi Hasegawa takes offense at Yuta Tono's reaction, pointing out that she only came over because he was acting strange. She admits she was watching them and expected them to exchange contact info since they seemed so close. Yuta Tono, visibly sweating and gripping his pocket in a tight squeeze, finally voices the rule that governs his life. He has decided never to give his contact information to girls, a direct result of years of being used as a stepping stone to his brother. The weight of past betrayals finally comes to light. Yuta Tano admits that he has never had a positive experience sharing his contact information, confessing that he has always been used by the girls who approached him. As the gravity of his words sinks in, Hinagi Hasegawa is left speechless, her thoughts trailing off as she begins to understand the depth of his isolation. Hinagi Hasegawa pushes for clarity, asking if his self-imposed isolation even applies to Hujo. Yuta Tono remains silent, his knuckles whitening as he crushes the plastic bottle in his hand, the weight of his past experiences clearly still holding him back. The sun rises on another day at school, but the morning air feels heavy with unresolved thoughts. While students exchange cheerful greetings in the hallways and the classroom fills with the usual chatter, Yuta Tano sits at his desk, his hands tightly gripping his bag. He is still searching for an answer to Hinagi Hasegawa's piercing question until the sound of his own name breaks his trance. The weight of yesterday's conversation hangs heavy in the morning air. Huju offers a simple greeting as she arrives at her desk, but Yuta Tano can barely muster a response, hiding his face behind his hand. As the classroom fills with the sounds of students settling in, the distance between the two feels wider than ever. Watching from the sidelines, Hinagi Hasegawa can't help but notice the thick, awkward atmosphere that has settled over them. Some people have hobbies, but Hinagi Hasegawa has a full-blown obsession. Tucked away in a toilet stall, she breathes heavily while sniffing a handmade bookmark case, claiming it's her sole reason for living since she hasn't seen Risama enough today. Her ecstatic panting and sniffing don't go unnoticed, however, as two terrified students outside the door begin to wonder if the girls' restroom is actually haunted by a ghost. A small act of kindness takes flight in the classroom when Noah reveals a tiny crane shiz folded from candy wrappers. After she admits it's a gift for Yuta Tono, Urara's excitement peaks, and she insists they make a whole bunch so the little bird won't be lonely. Imagining Yuta Tono's happy face, the two girls dive into their craft project, determined to turn simple wrappers into a mountain of smiles. A mysterious gift awaits Yuta Tano at his desk. He stares in confusion at the small paper cranes scattered across his workspace, wondering who could have left them there. His confusion is short-lived as Huju appears with a smug smirk, boasting about her sudden burst of creative spirit. She admits that she and Urara made them together, a fact that Yuta Tano had already suspected. The walk home is going better than expected, but parting ways comes all too soon as they reach the turn for his house. Yuta Tano points out that it's time to head home, much to Huju's disappointment. Unwilling to let the conversation end there, she leans in with a bold suggestion, swapping contacts. Yuta Tano is caught off guard, his old insecurities flaring up as he asks if she really wants to talk to him, but Huju's enthusiastic. Yeah, makes it clear is not ready to say goodbye just yet. Old wounds reopen as Yuta Tano remembers the girls, who came before every one of them a stepping stone to his brother. But as Hujao looks him in the eye and says his name, Yuta, expressing a desire to know him for who he is, Hulse wavers. Clenching his fist in a mix of fear and hope, he dares to think the unthinkable. Perhaps this time, things really will be different. A single exchange, yet a mountain of doubt. Yuta Tano finally hands over his contact info, his mind racing with the same old questions. Is she really different, or is he just a stepping stone again? He watches Huju walk away with a cheerful thanks, repeating it's fine like a mantra to quiet his nerves, until a sudden buzz from his phone breaks the silence. Even in his sleep, Yuta can't escape the anxiety of his new connection. He bolts awake with a gasp, the remnants of a dream still clinging to his mind as he sits up in the quiet of his room. He sighs, frustrated that he's still so fixated on the moment he gave Huju his number. Since that day, the atmosphere at school has turned painfully stiff, leaving them both sitting in a cloud of unspoken tension at their desks. He tries to convince himself that his anxiety is just a product of overthinking, but the sudden buzz of a notification on his phone brings his focus right back to the reality of his situation. The scars of the past run deep, recalling the cold way girls have used him just to get closer to his brother. Yuta Tono convinces himself that the only way to avoid more pain is to close off his heart entirely. But as he sinks into his loneliness, one face lingers in his mind. Does Huju really see him for who he is? Or is she just another girl aiming for his brother? The day of the group hangout arrives, and Yuta Tono finds himself waiting with Takamiya-kun. Mirai-kun finally makes a grand, energetic entrance, waving enthusiastically as he calls out to Yuta Tono. While Yuta Tono is quick to point out that the person who organized the meeting shouldn't be the last one to arrive, Takamiya-kun is much more relaxed about the delay. The stark difference in their temperaments doesn't go unnoticed. A playful comparison is made between Mireille-kun's gentle nature and Yuta Toho's harsh attitude, leaving the protagonist visibly annoyed before the day has even truly begun. Even in a crowd of friends, Yuta Tano can't seem to escape the shadows of his own mind. Mireille-kun teases Takamiya about his uncharacteristic initiative in planning the day, while the group begins to brainstorm their next destination. Mireille-kun suggests finding a place where they can be active, but Yuta Tano remains stuck in his own head, trailing behind the others. He tries to convince himself that dwelling on his insecurities is pointless, only to be snapped back to the moment when his friends call out his name to catch up. A day out with friends should be relaxing, but for Yuta Tano, it's a series of exhausting misadventures. Takamiya snaps him out of his daze as the trio explores new spots, leading to a chaotic montage of failed crane games, heavy bowling balls, and Mireille-kun's clumsy antics. Despite his best efforts to just hang out and forget his worries, Yuta Tano finds himself physically and mentally drained by his friends' relentless energy. Sometimes, even a day of fun can't drown out the noise in your head. After a rough time on the skating rink, Mireille-kun can't help but poke fun at how much Yuta Tano and Takamiya struggled. As they look for a place to eat and recharge, Yuta Tano finds himself drifting off again, only to be pulled back by his friends' voices. A nostalgic reunion quickly takes a familiar, painful turn. While catching up with old middle school classmates, Yuta Tano is suddenly hit with the one question he dreads most. How's your brother doing? As they gush over Aiden's popularity, Yuta Tano is reminded once again that for many, he is nothing more than a bridge to his more famous sibling. Same old story, different day. Even during a nostalgic reunion, the conversation inevitably shifts to his brother, with girls swooning over his coolness and future plans. Yuta Tano can't help but feel bitter, knowing that to them, he's just a footnote. Just as his frustration peaks, his friends swoop in to rescue him, dragging him away for a drink and leaving the obsessed classmates behind. Even a simple break can't stop the heavy thoughts from creeping back in. As Mireille-kun hands him a cold drink, Yuta Tano can't help but reflect on how his life always seems to revolve around his popular older brother. Mireille-kun tries to lighten the mood with a joke about Yuta Tano's history of attracting weird girls, earning a blunt shut-up in return as they sit together in the quiet lounge. A sudden moment of sincerity. Mireille-kun tells Noah that he's fine as long as Yuta Tano is fine. But the unexpected sweetness only leaves the protagonist feeling utterly confused. Even during a simple break, Mireille-kun can't help but mess with Yuta Tano, tricking him into believing he won a prize on his red bean drink. As Yuta Tano reacts with genuine shock, Mireille-kun bursts into laughter, mocking how easily his friend falls for anything. However, the teasing takes a sudden turn when Mireille-kun admits that Yuta Tano's gullibility is actually one of his good points, catching Yuta Tano completely off guard with the unexpected compliment. A moment of sincerity cuts through the usual teasing. Mireille-kun leans in, his voice softening as he tells Yuta Tano that surely someone out there will recognize his genuine nature. Yuta Tano is caught off guard, staring in silence as the weight of the words sinks in. The quiet moment is interrupted by Aki, who comes running back with a winning bottle in hand, ecstatic about his luck. As the group reunites, Yuta Tano is left with a lingering thought. Could there really be someone who sees him for who he is? Could someone like me ever be truly seen? Exhausted from a day of feeling invisible in his brother's shadow, Yuta Tano wanders along a riverside path he barely knows. As the physical fatigue sets in, so does the heavy weight of his own doubt, leaving him to wonder if genuine affection is even possible for someone like him. A chance encounter at sunset leaves both of them speechless. Just as Yuta Tano was reflecting on Mireille-kun's words about someone finally seeing him for who he is, he turns to find Hujao standing right in front of him. The surprise is mutual as they lock eyes on the path, while Aki passes by in the background, leaving the two in a moment of quiet realization. The silence is deafening. Once Mireille-kun departs, Yuta Tano finds himself completely overwhelmed by nervousness, wondering how he ever managed to speak to Hujao so naturally before. But just as the awkwardness reaches its peak, Hujao suddenly spots something and calls out to him. A simple afternoon of cloud watching takes a sudden, heart-pounding turn. As Hujao playfully insists that a cloud looks like a dog, she tilts her head and leans in close to show Yuta Tano, catching him completely off guard. The sudden closeness leaves Yuta Tano jolted and speechless, his heart racing as he realizes just how near her face has become. A simple laugh can bridge the widest gaps. After the awkward proximity of cloud watching, Yuta Tano finds himself smiling at Huja's antics, though he tries to play it cool. Hujao admits has been watching him and noticed been down, confessing that she was genuinely worried. But for a boy who's spent his life in his brother's shadow, the idea of someone being worried about him is so foreign that he can only ask about who. A single sentence can change everything, but for Yuta Tano, it's a dangerous spark of hope. Hujao looks back at him with a soft, sincere gaze, making it clear that he is the only one on her mind. The weight of her words leaves Yuta spiraling in confusion, his mind screaming "why me?" as he struggles to process her genuine concern. Terrified of falling into another trap of false hope, he clenches his fist and desperately tells himself to stop before he gets the wrong idea. The shadows of the past are hard to outrun, and Yuta finds himself spiraling back into the fear that Haoju is just another girl using him as a stepping stone. As memories of being ignored in favor of his brother flood back, he tries to convince himself that she doesn't truly care about him. However, Haoju's sharp intuition cuts right through his internal walls. She leans in close, noticing the exact moment his expression changes, and bluntly telling him that he is far too easy to read. Haoju proves that her eyes have been on Yuta all along. As they sit by the riverbank, she recounts the tiny details of his school, life is joy over candy, his struggle to stay awake after PEE, and his relief at answering questions correctly. With a soft but firm gaze, she tells him that she can read him perfectly just by looking at him, leaving no room for him to doubt her sincerity. Sometimes the truth is so bright it hurts. As Haoju shields her eyes from the sun, Yuta is left reeling from her genuine confession. His mind is flooded with the cold, digital ghosts of his past messages from girls who only wanted to know about his brother, Rhea, and who discarded him the moment they got what they wanted. Seeing Haoju's kindness in the light of his own deep-seated distrust, Yuta can't help but feel like the worst for ever doubting her. Sometimes the walls we build to protect ourselves end up blinding us to the truth. Yuta reflects on how he had lumped every girl together, assuming they were all the same and only interested in his brother. He admits that he didn't even bother to look up, convinced that Haoju was just like the rest. But as he finally sees her looking back at him with genuine kindness, he begins to wonder if he was wrong about her all along. Is it possible that someone is finally looking at the real him? As Haoju smiles warmly, Yuta heart races, yet he can't shake the haunting thought that this might just be another cruel trick. He's caught in a painful tug-of-war between his growing feelings and the scars of his past, wondering why her words affect him so deeply even as he tries to push them away. As the golden hour fades, Haoju breaks the silence with a request that catches Yuta completely off guard. She wants to exchange contacts. Despite the shadows of his past, Yuta finds himself desperately wanting to believe her sincerity. Even as his hand instinctively clenches the grass in a mix of hope and hesitation, the walls around Yuta heart finally begin to crumble. With a look of raw vulnerability and sudden resolve, he looks directly at Haoju and admits that he wants to know more about her, finally choosing to trust the girl standing right in front of him. The walls finally come down. As the wind brushes past them on the riverbank, Yuta looks directly at Haoju and finishes his thought. He wants to know more about her. Haoju's eyes widen in surprise, her cheeks flushing as she realizes that for the first time, he isn't looking past Hirsch's, looking right at her. A simple request marks the start of something real. Overwhelmed by his own boldness, Yuta stammers out a plea to exchange contacts, his head practically steaming from the heat of his blush. Haoju doesn't hesitate with a soft giggle and a look of pure kindness. She agrees, finally bridging the gap between them as Yuta breathes a quiet sigh of relief. A small step forward, a huge leap for the heart. After finally exchanging contact information, the atmosphere shifts when Haoju reveals a vulnerable side, admitting that Yuta previous refusal had actually made her feel lonely. Caught completely off guard by her honesty, Yuta can only offer a clumsy apology, left spiraling in confusion over the strange, sudden flutter in his chest. A simple digital connection, yet a world of uncertainty remains. As Haoju giggles and teases him about his weird profile icon, Yuta stares into the distance, his mind still clouded by the haunting question of whether he's finally making the right choice to trust again. Old wounds don't heal easily. While Haoju looks at her phone with a gentle smile, Yuta is paralyzed by a suffocating dread. He stares at his own device, his mind racing with the fear of being used and discarded once more. Even as his heart flutters and his face flushes with a mix of attraction and anxiety, the walls he built to protect himself remain stubbornly high. He wants to believe this time is different, but the weight of his past experiences complete trust like an impossible leap. Sometimes, the hardest step is the one that leads towards someone else. As the two sit quietly on the grass, Yuta makes a silent vow to look past his insecurities and see the girl right in front of him for who she truly is. He asks her to keep their exchange private, and with her simple agreement, he feels a flicker of hope. Even though the fear of betrayal still haunts him, Yuta is finally ready to take a chance on a connection that belongs to him alone. A simple gacha machine leads to an unexpectedly sweet moment. Haoju is thrilled to find a pig gacha, recalling how a small pig keychain found while searching for Hinagi Hasegawa's bookmark became a special memento. Though Yuta tries to act indifferent and gets embarrassed when Haoju teases him about his own past phases, He can't help but be moved by Huju's genuine and pure nature. Old habits die hard. And for Yuta Tono, his instinct to run is still in full effect. After accidentally bumping into Huju, he tries to play it cool with a stuttered greeting before immediately attempting to shuffle away. However, his clumsy attempts to escape only result in him repeatedly blocking her path, prompting a deadpan Huju to call out his ridiculous avoidance instinct. Despite his internal denials, it's clear that Yuta Tono's trauma-induced reflexes are making a simple walk home incredibly complicated. Sometimes, a simple misunderstanding is all it takes to make an awkward moment even more hilarious. Huju suggests they sit in a grassy area, but Yudatono's internal alarm bells start ringing as he fidgets with uncertainty. Seeing his hesitation, Huju assumes he's just afraid of creepy crawlies and begins rustling through the weeds to clear the way. She eventually gives him a triumphant thumbs up, proudly declaring the area bug-free, leaving a deadpan. Yuta, Tono to realize he's completely missed the point of his social discomfort. Caught completely off guard, Yuta Tano can only stammer in shock. As Huju reaches out to playfully ruffle his hair, the sudden physical affection sends his heart racing, leaving the usually guarded boy blushing and utterly bewildered by her forwardness. A simple gesture, a total meltdown. Huju tells a flustered Yuta Tano to hold still as she playfully fluffs his hair. While Yuta Tano is left spiraling in confusion, Huju is clearly enjoying the moment with a mischievous smile. She heads home feeling completely satisfied, leaving a bewildered Yuta Tano behind to wonder what just happened. The morning bell rings, but Yuta Tano is stuck in a daze. He's actually done. He exchanged contact info with Huju. As he steps into the classroom, the weight of his impulsive confession at the riverbank suddenly hits him like a freight train, leaving him frozen in place as he realizes there's no turning back now. Cringing at his own boldness, Yuta Tano realizes just how embarrassing his impulsive confession was. But his internal panic is cut short when Huju greets him with a warm smile and a friendly morning greeting, leaving him completely stunned. The morning air is thick with awkwardness, as Yuta Tono's face turns a bright shade of crimson the moment Huju speaks to him. Though he loudly denies being flustered, Huju quickly moves on to show him a flyer for an all-you-can-eat cake shop she found near the station. Looking slightly dejected, she explains that the promotion requires at least 3 people since it's just her and Urara so far. She subtly hints that she needs him to fill the final spot. A sweet invitation leads to a sour case of nerves. Huju beams as she presents a flyer for an all-you-can-eat cake event, warmly suggesting that she and Yuta Tono go together sometime. The sudden proposal into a tailspin of social anxiety, he stammers through a half-hearted refusal before falling into a pensive, wide-eyed silence, slumping at his desk with a deep blush. He can only offer a non-committal if I have time, while Huju lingers behind him, her gaze fixed on his flustered reaction. Is the ice finally starting to melt? Hoju leans in close, teasing Yuta Tano, which, oh, for being unusually honest today, as he sends his social anxiety into overdrive as he huddles at his desk, struggles with his internal conflict. He isn't ready to fully trust yet, but looking at her gentle smile, he can't deny the growing urge to know just a little bit more. Even as he shouts a flustered "if I have time" to her cake invitation, it's clear that Hoju is slowly but surely finding a way past his defenses. A little distance reveals a lot. Rei observes the scene, noting that Yuta Tano and Huju seem to have finally made up and are acting lively. As Yuta Tano arrives back at the Tano residency, he lets out a long sigh, feeling completely refreshed after their unexpected and heartwarming encounter. Just when Yuta Tano thought his exhausting day was over, slumped on his bed, he sighs about how worn out he is, still confused by the fuzzy stares Takamiya and Hasegawa were giving him earlier, and Hasegawa buzzes on the desk. A message from Takamiya? He wonders, reaching for it. But as he checks the screen at 21:38, his heart skips a beat. The notification isn't from who he expected. It's a new message from Haoju. Haoju, he gasps, completely caught off guard by her sudden reach-out. A Latinite notification can be a minefield of anxiety. Yuta Tano sits bolt upright in bed, his mind racing with suspicion as he stares at the alert from Hosh. After a moment of intense internal conflict and a frantic shake of his head, he finally bites the bullet and clicks the message open. Instead of a hidden motive or a serious confession, he's greeted by a photo of a grumpy, incredibly round creature on a leash, staring blankly at his screen. Yuta Tano can only wonder why Shed sent him a dog pic that looks suspiciously like a tanuki. Just as Yuta Tano thinks the weirdness has peaked, his phone erupts in a relentless barrage of pings. Hoju continues to spam him with an absurd number of photos of that mysterious round dog, leaving him completely baffled. But the mundane cuteness is short-lived. The conversation takes a sharp, dreaded turn as Hoju begins asking pointed questions about his older brother. Aiden, for Yuta Tono, this is a familiar, suffocating pattern. The red flags scream in his mind, triggering a deep-seated anxiety born from years of being used as a mere stepping stone. He spirals into a state of panic, convinced that the dog photos were nothing more than a distraction for her true target. Late-night texts are a total minefield for someone as guarded as Yuta Tano. When Hoju casually asks what he's doing, he freezes. His mind racing through every possible social faux pas, he realizes with a start that it's been ages since his message to anyone outside his small circle of friends. Is mentioning a bath too weird? Is he being too boring? As he frantically types and deletes various replies, a simple check-in becomes a monumental challenge for his social anxiety. 10 minutes later, Yuta Tono is still screaming internally, wondering why he's overthinking a simple text so much in his frantic state. His phone suddenly slips from his hand. He lets out a startled cry as he tries to catch it, only to slam his hand down with a painful thud. The impact leaves him hunched over in a silent, agonizing crampa physical manifestation of his complete social exhaustion. Talk about a total disaster. Just as Yuta Tano is nursing his injury, a voice rings out from his dropped phone. He's accidentally started a video call with Hoju. Seeing her face on the screen and hearing her call his name sends the poor guy into a state of absolute, wide-eyed terror. A total disaster. Yuta Tano realizes his hand slipped, accidentally triggering a video call with Hoju. While he's spiraling in absolute panic, Hoju is surprisingly chill, admitting she doesn't mind talking facet-face. Yuta Tano can only stare in shock, completely frozen by the unexpected turn of events. Talk about an awkward first call. After accidentally hitting the dial button, Yuta Tano is suddenly see-to-face with Hoju in her bedroom. She's already in her pajamasa set covered in goofy round animal faces that Yuta Tano can't help but find a bit lame, but when she strikes a confident Tada pose to show them off, his internal monologue starts to spiral even further as he struggles to find the right words to say. Late night calls are a minefield of accidental emotions and awkward silences. After Yuta Tono gives a hesitant compliment, Hoju is overcome with giggles, diving into her bed in a fit of pure joy. Watching her through the screen, Yuta Tono feels the weight of the situation, desperately trying to think of something clever to say to the girl who seems far too happy to be talking to him. Late-night calls have a way of making everything feel more personal. Hoju curls up on her bed, hugging a plushie tight as she confesses how nice it is to talk to Yuta Tono outside of their usual school environment. On the other end of the line, Yuta Tono is momentarily stunned into silence, processing the fact that hearing her voice in the quiet of his own home feels unexpectedly intimate and weird in a way he can't quite explain. The atmosphere shifts into something far more intimate as Hoju lies back, her face filling the screen as she muses that the situation feels kinda strange. On the other end, Yuta Tano can only stare in wide-eyed shock, his face flushing deep red as his heart begins to thud loudly against his chest. The silence of the room returns as the call ends, leaving Yuta Tano flustered and sighing at the strange turn of events. When Hoju asks if she can message him again, he is left sitting on his bed in the quiet, realizing that despite his usual guard, he's starting to want to know more about her. A hesitant sure is all it takes to keep the spark alive. But Yuta Tano is already drowning in his own doubts. Sitting alone in his room, he can't stop questioning why she reached out to him in the first place. As he tries to call out her name into the silence, the sheer weight of his uncertainty leaves him startled and breathless. Talk about a total meltdown. While Hoju drifts off into a peaceful sleep, Yuta Tano is staring at his phone in a state of pure shock. He can't help but wonder what her true intentions are, his face turning bright red as the reality of their late-night conversation sinks in. As the lights go out on this chapter, one thing is for sure. Yuta Tano isn't getting any sleep tonight. The silence of the night is interrupted by the sharp ringing of a phone, jolting Hu upright in bed. Seeing a video call request from Yuta Tano, she realizes with a start that her hair is a mess and begins desperately smoothing it down. On the other side of the screen, Yuta Tano waits patiently, unaware of the frantic grooming session happening just before he says hello. Late-night calls can be a minefield of emotions, especially when your crush drifts off mid-sentence. Yuta stares at his screen in disbelief. Paralyzed by the realization that Hoju has fallen asleep, he agonizes over whether to wake her or let her sleep, eventually deciding to hang up quietly to avoid being mean. But when she murmurs in her sleep, he jumps in a panic and cuts the connection immediately. Tossing and turning afterward, he realizes with a heavy sigh that she truly has him wrapped around her finger, making sleep impossible for him that night. The morning sun brings no peace for Yuta, as his sleepless night catches up to him in the most awkward way possible. As he drags himself through the morning routine, his older brother, resporting some truly chaotic bedhead, cheerfully greets him before dropping a bombshell. Aiden mentions hearing Yuta shouting things like, "What do you even want from me?" late at night, causing Yuta to nearly jump out of his skin, flustered and blushing. Yuta desperately claims he was just sleep-talking. but Reese's skeptical concern only makes the situation more embarrassing. Despite Reese offer to listen to his troubles, Yuta shuts him down immediately, far too mortified to admit the truth about his late night call with Huju. A simple taste test turns into a heart-pounding moment of personal space invasion. Yuta Tano unwraps a new candy he received from Huju, curiously sampling the new product at his desk. However, his quiet moment is short-lived as Huju silently creeps up on him, leaning in with an intense, unblinking stare that leaves him completely flustered and blushing as he tries to process why she's suddenly so close. Huju leans in with a gentle blush, her face just inches from Yuta's as she eagerly asks if the candy is good. Yuta can barely handle the sudden closeness, stammering out a weak agreement while Huju beams with joy, completely satisfied that she got to share something tasty with him. Even a bad hair day can't escape Houja's playful teasing. After noticing a stubborn cowlick in Yuta's hair, she finds the rare event absolutely hilarious. Despite his embarrassed explanation that his bedhead just won't go away, she proceeds to poke at the weirdly shaped strand with a stick, leaving Yuta completely flustered as he begs her to stop treating him like a toy. A little hair mishap leads to a lot of tension. When Yuta Tano points out Houja's bedhead, she tries to play it off as a deliberate style choice. Not convinced, Yuta Tano gently pats her hair into place, causing a sudden awkward pause between them. Once he confirms that it really was just bedhead, a blushing Houju is left completely flustered by the interaction. Exam season is here, and the panic is real. July brings the stress of finals, and Morikawa-san is absolutely losing it, clinging to Hujo and begging for tutoring to escape remedial classes. Yuta Tano can only watch from the side as the classroom descends into academic desperation. Summer dreams are turning into a living nightmare. Morikawa-chan is having a complete emotional breakdown in the classroom, devastated that her failing grades might force her into remedial classes. With her meticulously planned summer from beach trips and camping to festive celebrations on the verge of total collapse, she descends into a spiral of despair while Yuta Tano and the others look on in a mix of pity and bewilderment. Nothing hurts quite like a reminder of your past failures. Huju and the group turn their attention to Yuta, jokingly labeling him as the one who's screwed when it comes to their studies. Despite his loud protests, Huju brings up the receipts a disastrous 7 out of 50 on a previous quiz, leaving Yuta scrambling to make excuses while Murray-kun joins in on the chatter, a sudden solution to the exam stress. Yuta Tono suggests a group study session, and Huju is all in, leaving Yuta Tono flustered by her enthusiasm. But as they start planning their next day off, they realize their ideal relaxing spot, the library, is currently under renovation. A sudden turn of events. Yuta Tano finds himself standing right in front of the Huju residence, staring blankly as he wonders how on earth he ended up here. Sometimes, peer pressure leads to the most awkward situations. After the group decides to head to Houja's place, Yuta finds himself standing before a house that looks far more upscale than he expected. His heart thumps with anxiety as he wonders what kind of life a girl like Houju actually leads. Realizing has arrived 30 minutes early, he considers making a quick escape to kill time, only to be startled when a voice calls out his name from the entrance. Just as Yuta was about to leave to kill time, Huju catches him by surprise, returning home with groceries in hand. With a welcoming smile, she invites him into her home, casually mentioning that they'll be all alone for the day, which only adds to Yuta's nervous tension. Study sessions are better with snacks, but Huju might have gone a bit overboard. Once inside, Huju curiously asks Yuta what he was doing waiting outside. Before he can really answer, she excitedly reveals 2 massive bags of snacks she bought for the group. Yuta is skeptical of the sheer volume, reminding her that they're actually there to study. With a playful smirk, Huju teases him, asking if he's just looking for an excuse to eat, before pointing him toward the living room to get started. Stepping into the living room, Yuta Tano finds himself surrounded by a side of Huju he never knew existed. He stares in awe at a row of gleaming trophies, including one for a piano competition. Wondering if she took lessons, however, the serious atmosphere is immediately broken when he spots a giant storage bin nearby. It's stuffed so full of potato chips and treats that the lid won't even close, leaving him wondering just how much she actually eats. A snack-filled treasure trove. Huju apologizes and dives right into the bin to grab something, confirming Yuta Tono's suspicions about her secret stash. Feeling a bit flustered, she awkwardly tells him to go ahead and sit on the sofa. Even in a house filled with trophies, some things feel surprisingly ordinary. Sitting on the sofa, Yuta Tono admits to himself that he can't quite grasp what Houja's daily life is like. Yet he finds comfort in the fact that her home does feel as alien as he quiet contemplation is broken by the sound of praise being snack. Hence, Houju apologizes for the wait, serving him a simple drink and a few snacks. Though she claims it's nothing fancy, the gesture leaves Yuta feeling a bit flustered as he offers a quiet word of thanks. Even the most ordinary objects can hold the most precious memories. Yuta Tano stares in confusion, bowl filled with panic-inducing Cocoa Panic snacks, while Huja beams with pride, asking if he thinks it's cute. She reveals that the bowl is a cherished memento from her very first family trip back in elementary school, who wanted the trinket but couldn't bring herself to say anything, only to be overcome with joy when her parents surprised herself to say anything. Empress prized her with it as a gift. Sometimes the most useless things hold the most precious memories. Huju gazes fondly at the crab-shaped bowl, calling it a plate full of childhood nostalgia. She excitedly demonstrates how crab's claws can hold extra snacks, though Yuta Tano can't help but think it's a completely useless feature. As she reveals that the trip where she received the bowl was the only family vacation they ever took, leaving Yuta to quietly wonder about her past. Huja's excitement reaches a fever pitch as she unveils her treasure trove, a massive collection of travel magazines. With a burst of energy, she spreads them across the floor like a sprawling map of adventure, urging Yuta Tano to simply point to any destination that catches his eye. While Yuta is still processing the chaos of magazines covering the room, Huju casually mentions already been to the very spot. He's considering stunned by her unexpected worldly experience. Yuta can only stare in awe, wondering if he's actually dealing with some kind of secret travel master. Family trips are for memories, but for Huju, they're mostly for the menu. As she describes her parents' active, outdoorsy lifestyle to Yuta Tono, he can't help but think it sounds like a pleasant way to grow up. However, Huju quickly clarifies that her own travel philosophy is much simpler. She enthusiastically declares that if she ever goes on a trip, her only goal is to spend the entire time eating every delicious thing she can find. A quiet moment at home reveals a softer side of the girl he's always misunderstood as Huju flips through a food magazine with a content smile. Yuta watches her, realizing how down-to-earth she truly is. The distance between them feels smaller. As she looks up and admits her dream, she hopes that one day they can all travel together like a real family. A moment of pure excitement quickly turns into a sudden realization for Huju. As she flips through the magazine, she finds it easy to read but casually admits she's never actually planned a trip on her own before. However, the weight of her earlier words about traveling together like a family suddenly hits her, causing her to freeze in mid-thought. A moment of pure sincerity. Huju looks down with a gentle smile, confessing that she'd feel safe if she were traveling with Yuta. The sudden weight of her trust leaves Yuta blushing furiously, his heart racing as he struggles to find any words to respond. A sudden change of plans, and now Hez here. Yuta is left spiraling in confusion, wondering how on earth he ended up as Huja's travel companion. While she remains perfectly calm, the arrival of their friends only makes the situation more awkward. In the end, Yuta is still completely clueless when it comes to reading Huju. The study session at Huja's place was a total blast. But did any actual studying happen? As the group heads home, Yuta Tono can't help but feel skeptical about their productivity. While his friends rave about the huge space and the cool atmosphere, Yuta Tohano's mind is stuck on the mountain of snacks and the intense card games they played instead of hitting the books. When he dares to question if they even opened a textbook, Mirai-kun and Aki immediately jump to their intensity. With hilarious, sweating intensity, a casual walk home takes a stressful turn. As Mirai-kun suggests meeting up again and asks about his bus schedule, Yuta Tano reaches into his pocket to check the time. His relaxed expression instantly vanishes into a look of pure shock when he realizes his phone is missing, leaving his friends bewildered as he begins to panic over the lost device. Forgetfulness strikes at the worst time. Yuta suddenly realizes he left his phone at Huja's place and rushes back to retrieve it. Breathless and annoyed with himself for being so scatterbrained, he rings the doorbell, only to be greeted almost instantly. Welcome to the Huju residence. The return arc. A simple mistake leads to a heart-stopping surprise. Realizing Hez missing his phone, Yuta Tano heads back to Huja's place and calls out an apology as he opens the door. But the words die in his throat the moment he looks inside. His eyes go wide, and he freezes in pure shock at the unexpected scene before him. A sudden, chilling encounter. Just as Yuta Tano steps inside to retrieve his phone, he is met with a towering, sharp-eyed man who radiates an oppressive aura. "Who are you?" the stranger demands, leaving Yuta Tano completely frozen in shock. Just as things are getting tense, the rest of the gang bursts in. Huju welcomes them warmly, but she quickly notices that Yuta Tono is already there. Caught in an awkward state and blushing furiously, Yuta Tono becomes an immediate target for his friends, teasing with Takamiya, later remarking that he looked like a pet being kept in the Huju household. Sibling teasing is in full swing as Aiden catches Yuta Tono arriving way too early for their meeting, while Yuta Tono tries to play it cool by claiming he just had some extra time. Aiden doesn't let him off the hook, jokingly telling the group he brought him inside so he wouldn't dry out in the sun. The older brother's relentless ribbing culminates in a blunt, deadpan observation. Yutatono really does act just like a loyal dog. Study session over. Yutatono is completely drained, but a small gesture from Huju perks him up. As she hands him some snacks, Yutatono finds himself fascinated by the peculiar way she uses her Platia childhood favorite that has the rest of the group buzzing with excitement. Even at their own doorstep, Aiden's brotherly affection is in full force. He catches up to Yutatono just as he reaches the house, cheerfully lamenting that they didn't get to walk home together. Despite Aiden's high energy and playful complaints, Yutatono is clearly exhausted, his hair a frizzy mess as he mutters about being on low battery and just wanting to be home. Talk about an awkward homecoming. Yutatono tries to play it cool, insisting he only stopped by to grab his phone, but Ryu's imposing presence is practically suffocating. As they sit in a heavy, stifling silence, Yutatono can only wonder how things spiraled into such an uncomfortable standoff. Meeting a stranger can be nerve-wracking, but for Yutatono, this encounter is downright terrifying. Confronted by a rough-looking man with an intimidating aura and sharp earrings, Yutatono can barely find his words. As the man stares him down with a cold gaze, Yutatono's internal monologue screams in fear at how huge and rough the stranger appears. Stuttering through his anxiety, he manages to introduce himself as Yutatono. A classmate of Huja, however, the tension only spikes when the man suddenly rises from his seat, causing a startled Yutatono to flinch in anticipation of what comes next. Terrified out of his wits, Yuta jumps as a notebook is slammed onto the table with a loud bang. The intimidating man Eon leans in close, his shadow looming over the boy as he demands Yuta's full attention. Sweating and trembling, Yuta's mind spirals into a dark place, genuinely fearing that this might be the end for him, as he wonders if he'll even leave the room alive. The interrogation begins as Ian corners a trembling Yuta to uncover the truth about his time with Hauju. Ian looms over the boy in the cramped space, initially getting his name wrong before pressing him for details about their study session. When Ian suspiciously asks if they were alone, Yuta frantically shouts that 3 others were present to clear his name. Closing his notebook with a sharp thwop, Ian ominously declares that he has the gist of the situation. Talk about a rough day. After being grilled for every detail about his study session, Yutatono is left completely spent while Ian cheerfully notes down the information, even if he can't get Yuta's name right. As Yuta watches the mysterious man, he can't help but feel unsettled by On's unreadable gaze, which triggers a sense of déjà vu from his past experiences of being scrutinized. A sudden change of pace. Yutatono's curiosity is piqued when he spots a guitar, and he's completely starstruck to find out that Ian is actually in a college band. Talk about a total 180 in energy. Yuta is still reeling from the pressure and starts stammering out an apology, but Ian surprisingly brushes it off with a smug, blushing face, telling him he did nothing wrong. Instead of being angry, Ian seems to be thriving on the attention, internally begging for more praise, while surrounded by a bizarrely sparkly aura. Yuta is completely weirded out by the vibe, wondering if the guy is actually crazy mad, or just deeply moved by their conversation. The strange tension is broken when Huju walks in, letting out a confused huh, as she finds the two of them staring at each other. Just as the atmosphere reaches a peak of confusion, Huju appears and casually greets the intimidating man as her older brother. Ian, dropping his tough act for a moment, simply announces he's home, leaving a bewildered Yutatono to process the shocking revelation that his interrogator is actually part of the Huju family. The mystery is solved as the intimidating stranger formally introduces himself as Hizuki Hujo, Huja's older brother. A stunned Yutatono can hardly believe he was so wrong about Hujo being an only child, while Hizuki quickly moves on to presenting his sister with some sweet souvenirs. Just when the tension starts to fade, things get even more awkward for poor Yutatono. As Huju happily accepts her souvenirs, Yutatono tries to strike up a polite conversation, asking if Hizuki Huju has been away for a long time. However, Hizuki Huju's casual reveal that he's only been gone for 3 days is enough to make Yutatono literally flop over in disbelief. Looks like the scary older brother is actually just a big softie for his family. Huju explains that although Hizuki Hujo lives on his own for college, he takes every opportunity to come home when their parents are away, as Yutatono watches God he'd return every day if possible. The pieces finally click into place. The scary man who interrogated him isn't a threes, just a massive siskin who was overly wary of a boy being near his sister. Talk about being overprotective. Hizuki Huju doesn't hold back, calling Yutatono a weirdo right in front of him, while warning Huju about the dangers of being alone. The awkward tension finally breaks when Huju asks why Yuta is even there, reminding him that he only came back to find his lost phone. The interrogation takes a personal turn as Hizuki Haujo wav corners Yuta Tano with a direct question about his relationship with Haojo. He reasons that since they have each other's contact information, they must be more than just casual acquaintances, leaving Yuta stunned by the sudden pressure from the protective older brother. Trying to play it cool, Yuta Tano insists he isn't particularly close to Huju, but Hizuki Hu isn't buying it, leaning in close enough to make Yuta Tano panic as he questions his motives. As Yuta Tano's mind drifts to Huju, Hizuki reveals a softer side of her, explaining how she's always struggled to articulate her true feelings. Big brothers always know how to turn up the heat. Hizuki Hoju watches Hoju from the doorway, noting to himself how often people misunderstand her true nature as she smiles softly at her phone. Shifting his focus back to the boy in front of him, Hizuki Hoju's expression hardens with protective concern. So he begins, locking eyes with a startled Yuta Tono. The atmosphere in the room shifts instantly as the interrogation begins in earnest. The interrogation takes a sharp turn as Hizuki Hujo drops the ultimate question. Staring Yutatano down, he asks point-blank what he thinks of Guard. Yadatano can only stammer as Hizuki Hujo leans in with a piercing gaze, demanding an answer. The pressure is on, and Yadatano finds himself struggling to find the right words under the weight of a protective brother's stare. A moment of pure honesty amidst the tension. Yutatano finally finds the words to describe his feelings for Hoju, admitting that while he constantly struggles with his own self-doubt, her straightforward nature and strength make her truly amazing in his eyes. A single memory of Huju's words echoes in Yutatano's mind, a simple phrase that gave him the strength to keep moving forward. As he finishes pouring his heart out to Hizuki Huju, Yuta admits that it's her dazzling brightness that truly draws him in. Hizuki remains silent, absorbing the weight of the boy's sincere confession. The weight of his emotions finally catches up to him. Sinking to the floor in a moment of quiet vulnerability, Yuta Tano clutches his phone and wishes for the strength to face Haoju earnestly, even if it's only by a little bit more. Hizuki Hujo, processi Yuta Tano's heartfurts, a deep blush spreading across his face as he quietly acknowledges the sentiment with a soft, I see. Yuta Tano is caught completely off guard by the sudden change in the older brother's demeanor, shouting in confusion at why Hizuki Hujo is the one getting embarrassed. Trying to regain his cool with a quick cough, Hizuki Hujo avoids further explanation and simply holds out his phone to Yuta Tano, signaling a shift in their conversation. A tense interrogation turns into an unexpected invitation. Hizuki Huju offers a rare, gentle smile, suggesting they talk again when they have more time and even addressing the boy as Yuta-kun. Yuta Tono is left completely gentone and the mysterious state of his phone, but before he can question it further, he's called back to reality as a voice from inside the house calls out for Huju. The air remains heavy even as the meeting concludes. Hizuki Hujo casually informs Huju that Yuta Tano is heading home, receiving a quiet acknowledgement from his sister. However, as he watches the boy walk away, Hizuki Hujo's expression shifts into a sharp protective glare. While the sky settles over the neighborhood, Hizuki Hujo realizes that their next talk is going to be a long one, leaving a distant, trembling Yuta Tano sensing that his troubles are far from over. A simple mix-up leads to an unexpected visitor. Back in the quiet of his house, Yuta Tano stares at the device on his sofa with growing confusion. He quickly rules out his parents' phones and Haoju's sticker-decorated one, realizing the men's-style phone in his hand is a complete mystery. Before he can solve the puzzle of how he ended up with it, the sudden chime of the doorbell echoes through the room, leaving him standing in stunned silence. Double the intensity. Double the pressure. Yuta Tano can't help but notice a strange sense of déjà vu when looking at the siblings, but mentioning how similar they are turns out to be a mistake. Instantly, Huju and Hizuki Huju close the distance, zening in from both sides with the exact same high-pressure curiosity. As they demand to know what he means, a sweating Yuta Tano realizes that this suffocating, perfectly timed energy is exactly what makes them a matching. Just when Yuta Tano thought the day's stress was over, his phone pings with a message that makes his blood run. Text is to Huju for helping resolve the phone swap. But the casual conversation takes a terrifying turn. Huju mentions that her brother, Hizuki Huju, is already eager to speak with him again, causing a literal chill to run down Yuta's spine. Haunted by the intensity of their previous encounter, he can only stare at his phone in dread, wondering why on earth the older brother is so fixated on him. School's out, but Yuta Tono has other plans. As Aki and Mirai-kun corner him in the hallway with an enthusiastic invitation to walk home together, Yuta politely declines their offer. He explains that he needs to make a stop at the bookstore today, meaning he'll be heading toward the station alone while his friends look on with disappointment. Just when Yuta Tano thinks he's finally alone, a familiar face catches him off guard. Marikun is genuinely shocked to learn that Yuta actually reads for fun. But since they are heading in opposite directions, the group decides to split up. As Yuta waves goodbye to Aki and Marikun at the lockers, Haoju silently sneaks up right behind him, whispering his own plans back to him with an intense gaze. She gives him the fright of his life before he can even leave the building. Yuta Tono nearly jumps out of his skin as Huju corners him at the lockers, demanding he stop popping out of nowhere. Unfazed by his outburst, she leans in close, her eyes narrowing as she asks if he's really heading to the bookstore. Yuta Tono stammers through a confirmation, clearly flustered by her proximity, only for Huju to flash a smug, satisfied grin and simply say, "Nice. Looks like Yuta Tono has a shadow today." After her sudden appearance at the lockers, Huju insists on joining him for his trip to the bookstore. As Yuta Tono browses the quiet aisles, Huju stays close by, eventually asking if he's found what he came for. Looking a bit weary, Yuta Tono admits that he hasn't had any luck just yet. Sometimes the most ordinary moments feel the most suspicious. As Huju decides to linger in the bookstore aisles, Yuta Tono finds himself spiraling into doubt. Why is she really spending her after-school time with him? Though he had no reason to object, the sheer normality of the situation only makes it feel more like a trap. Even a simple trip to the bookstore turns into a trial for Yuta Tono's nerves. Everywhere he looks, couples are lost in their own little worlds, whispering sweet nothings and being shamelessly affectionate. The romantic atmosphere is suffocating, making him sweat and panic over why he's so worked up in such a public place. Desperate to escape the awkwardness, he frantically scans the shelves under Haoju's watchful gaze until he finally has the key to his own transformation. A cookbook that might just be the key to his own transformation. "That looks delicious," Huju chirps, leaning in close to inspect the cookbook. Yuta Tono finally tracked down. Yuta Tono is startled by her sudden proximity and her admission that she doesn't actually cook, she just likes looking at the food. As she beams with simple joy, Yuta Tono realizes that while they're sharing this moment, they definitely enjoy their books in very different ways. Yuta Tono is a bundle of nerves, feeling incredibly self-conscious about the crowd in the bookstore as he stands beside Huju in stark contrast. Huju remains perfectly nonchalant, her calm demeanor only making Yuta's face turn even redder. As they reach the cashier, she can't resist teasing him about his flushed cheeks, which he desperately tries to deny. Once he finally has his book, Huju offers a quick apology for the wait, and the errand finally complete. Just when the shopping trip seems over, a surprise invitation changes everything. As they prepare to leave the bookstore, Yuta Tono is shocked to learn that Huju was looking for the very same rom-com manga he saw her reading in the library. Though he initially plans to head home, Huju catches him off guard by asking him to accompany her to one more destination. Haoju's next destination turns out to be a world Yuta Tono never expected to enter with her. She leads him into a bright, bustling accessory shop called Sweet Pure, filled with sparkling jewelry and the chatter of other shoppers. As they step inside, a flustered Yuta Tono can't help but feel out of place, realizing that this was the mysterious one more place she had in mind. Entering an accessory shop is like stepping into another dimension for Yuta Tono. Overwhelmed by the sparkling displays that literally make his eyes hurt, he wonders why he's even there as Hujo playfully pushes him further inside. The mood shifts from sparkly to silly when Hujo picks out a pair of earrings shaped like cartoonish meat, proudly declaring how nice they are. Though Yuta Tono is initially skeptical, he can't help but admit that wearing meat-shaped jewelry to school is exactly the kind of quirky thing Hujo would do. Huju catches Yuta Tono off guard with a sudden confession. She only has one ear pierced. While Yuta Tono wonders if there's some profound or rebellious story behind it, the truth is far more relatable. She simply gave up because the first one hurt too much. Yuta Tono can only stare in disbelief at her blunt honesty as she quickly moves on, tasking him with the impossible job of picking the cutest pair of earrings from the shop's eccentric collection. "Why me?" Yuta Tono wonders, feeling the weight of the decision as Huju claims she just needs a reference. Despite his confusion, he leans in close, staring intensely at the rows of jewelry with a focused blush, leaving Huju slightly surprised by just how seriously he's taking her request. A simple choice leads to a heartfelt compliment. After scanning the display, Yuta Tono points out a pair of blue diamond studs, noting that they aren't too flashy. As he catches Haoju's gaze, he finds himself blushing while softly admitting that the color suits her perfectly. A sudden twist in taste. While Yuta Tono was focused on the serious earrings, Huju reveals she was actually eyeing the funny ones. Overwhelmed by the awkwardness, Yuta Tono just wants to disappear from existence, but Huju seems to have finally made up her mind. A simple recommendation turns into a meaningful moment. Huju holds up the understated blue earrings. Yuta Tono picked out, her gaze fixed on him with a soft, appreciative smile, as she declares her intention to buy them. Yuta Tano is left completely red-faced, caught off guard by the weight of her trust in his choice. A simple choice turns into a heart-pounding moment. Yuta Tano is left speechless, as Huju confidently heads to the counter with the blue earrings he recommended. Seeing her value his opinion so easily leaves him completely flustered, while their classmates watch the unexpected development from the sidelines. Talk about a sudden shift. Huju puts an end to the confusion and decisively claims the earrings she actually wants. Sometimes, a simple choice can make a heart race faster than any confession. Yuta Tano's heart hammers against his chest, a loud BDMP echoing in his ears as he watches Haoju at the register. He's completely flustered. His face flushed deep red while he watches her hand over the money. "These, please," she says, simply while the shop assistant rings up the 1,500 yen total. Standing frozen in the background, Yuta Tano can only stare in disbelief, his mind spinning with a single, confused question. What? Love is in the air, even if Yuta Tano is too flustered to admit it. The shop staff watches with adoring smiles as the young pair prepares to leave, moved by the pure energy of their precious youth. Huju, now the owner of the earrings Yuta Tano chose, casually asks where they should go next, leaving a panicked Yuta Tano internally screaming for an end to this heart-pounding situation. Walking through the station area, Huju notes how crowded it is, but Yuta Tano is distracted by something else entirely. Surrounded by lovey-dovey couples, he can't help but feel the heat rise to his face, especially when he overhears a girl calling her boyfriend honey. Huju notices his odd behavior and asks what's wrong, but a flustered Yuta Tano quickly tries to play it cool, even though he feels completely out of his element in such a romantic atmosphere. A quiet trip to the bookstore turns into a sweet moment as Huju brings up Yuta Tano's hidden talent for cooking. Despite his modest claims that he only tweaks recipes, Huju is genuinely impressed and expresses her desire to eat his food again. When she offers her help, Yuta Tano is momentarily confused, only for Huju to enthusiastically volunteer as his official taste tester. A sudden shift in conversation. Huju asks Yuta Tano if he's considering getting his ears pierced, but he quickly shuts the idea down, insisting it's just not his style. However, Huju's intense staring leaves him completely flustered and defensive. Just as Hez reaching his limit, she gives him a soft smile and tells him Hez perfectly fine just the way he is, leaving Yuta Tano utterly bewildered. Aiden's legendary popularity isn't just for show. When Takamiya loses her footing while chatting with Kira in the school hallway, Ri is there in a flash, catching her with a gentle hand on her shoulder. As roses bloom in the background of this shuja-perfect moment, he calmly gathers her falling books and asks if she's all right, leaving the girl absolutely breathless and starstruck. Aiden's legendary charm is on full display as he turns a simple accident into a heart-fluttering moment. After catching Takamiya in the hallway, he doesn't just walk away and insists on carrying her heavy load to the first-year classrooms. His gentle "leave it to me" leaves Takamiya and Lyra in a total daze, unable to handle his effortless gallantry as they swoon over the perfect Ri-sama. The hallway is filled with whispers of admiration as the girls watch Ri walk away. They are utterly starstruck, convinced that no one could possibly resist someone as perfect and princely as him. Yuta Tano observes his brother from a distance, acknowledging that Ryatno is the embodiment of a flawless, impeccable mana standard he has always managed to uphold. However, the scene shifts to the hallway, where the mere sight of Rei is enough to send a group of girls into a frenzy of excitement, proving once again just how easily he commands the attention of everyone around him. The hallway buzzes with the girls' relentless chatter about Rei, their voices rising in excitement as they recount his latest act of kindness. Yuta Tano stands nearby, visibly drained and questioning if their level of worship has finally crossed the line into something truly excessive. Behind the scenes of his flawless reputation, Ri feels the weight of his own performance, admitting that he is nothing like the composed prince everyone admires. As he walks down the hall, surrounded by the adoration of his classmates, he questions if he is truly content with the life he has chosen to maintain. Ri slides the classroom door open, carrying the stack of materials he offered to help with. He stops in his tracks, caught off guard by the sight of a classmate who is already inside the room. Ri steps into the classroom, intending to drop off the materials, but is surprised to find Hinagi Hasegawa already there. Caught off guard, Hinagi struggles to keep her cool, mentally scrambling to process the sudden appearance of her idol while desperately trying to act natural. Ri notices the paperwork, labeled for Year 1 Class 2, and turns his attention to Hinagi, who is still flustered from their unexpected meeting. He politely asks if she is in the same class as his younger brother, Yuta Tohono. When she confirms it, Ri offers a bright, charming smile that immediately catches Hinagi off guard, confirming her suspicions about his connection to his brother. As Rei casually mentions that Yuta is his younger brother, Hinagi's internal monologue spirals into pure chaos. She is completely starstruck, barely able to process that her idol is standing right in front of her, while Rei remains focused on the conversation, seemingly unaware of the intense effect he is having on her. As the pair finishes up their work in the classroom, Rei and Hinagi Hasegawa glance out the window. Their attention is caught by a group of students passing by outside, and they quickly identify Yuta Tano among them, wondering if he is already on his way home. After realizing he left his gym clothes behind, Yuta Tono tells his friends to wait for him at the gate. As he heads back, Takamiya decides to tag along, leading to some light-hearted bickering between the two. Unbeknownst to them, Hinagi Hasegawa watches the scene unfold from the classroom window, her expression shifting into a strange, knowing giggle. From the classroom window, Ri and Takamiya watch Yuta Tono and Huju walking together. Ri remarks on how much his younger brother has changed, noting that Yuta used to keep everyone at a distance and seemed to avoid interacting with girls entirely. Takamiya agrees, observing that this shift in behavior is specifically centered around his interactions with Huju. Observing the pair from the classroom window, Ryan reflects on his brother's recent behavior, noting with a thoughtful expression that Yuta Tano seems to be slowly changing. Watching his brother's growth from the window, Rei shares a quiet moment with Hinagi Hasegawa. She gazes out, completely captivated by the scene, whispering that it is truly amazing. Watching from the window, Hinagi Hasegawa finds her perception of Rei shifting. She had always seen him as the embodiment of confidence, but witnessing his quiet concern for Yuta Tano reveals a more vulnerable, human side to him that she hadn't expected. Seeing the emotional weight of his own words, Rei offers a quick apology to Hinagi Hasegawa. He decides it is time to leave, and as he turns to go, the atmosphere settles into a brief, quiet pause. Returns back with a soft, genuine smile, offering a final word of thanks to Hinagi Hasegawa for listening to his heartfelt concerns about his brother. Ri leaves the room, leaving the door clicking shut behind him. Hinagi Hasegawa remains standing by the window, completely overwhelmed by the reality of what just happened. Her face flushes with a mix of shock and excitement as she realizes she actually held a long, personal conversation with him. With his heart lightened by the reflection on his brother, Ri walks through the school halls, unable to contain his sudden booming cheer. His classmates are left bewildered by the strange loud voice echoing through the corridor, unaware that the usually composed Ri is simply reveling in his own happiness. Yuta Tono and Takamiya continue their mundane school day chat about gym clothes, but the conversation is abruptly derailed. Through the window, they witness a mysterious, hyper-energetic figure acting out in the background. Yuta Tono, caught off guard by the sudden and inexplicable display, can only stare in confusion, wondering exactly what he just saw. Still reeling from the strange scene they just witnessed, Yuta Tano and Takamiya find themselves in an awkward, close-quarters conversation. As Yuta Tano struggles to process the oddity of the situation, the tension is suddenly broken when Lyra slides into the frame, oblivious to the moment she just interrupted. The afterglow of her encounter with Rei continues to affect Hinagi Hasegawa, who finds herself periodically overcome with excitement, nearly letting out a scream as the memory of their talk resurfaces. It is a sweltering summer day, and the students are tasked with cleaning the school pool. While most would prefer to take it easy, Yuta Tano is scrubbing away with intense focus. Unable to bring himself to do a half-hearted job, his classmates, including a blonde girl and a short-haired girl, notice his dedication and try to offer help or strike up a conversation. But Yuta Tano remains stubbornly focused on his work, dodging their attempts to distract him. Yuta Tano remains completely unimpressed by his classmates' social maneuvering, as they try to butter him up and eventually abandon their efforts to go watch his brother's PE class. Yuta Tano simply sighs, fully aware that their sudden interest in him is just another attempt to get closer to his brother before summer break. Despite Yuta Tono's serious approach to the pool cleaning, his classmate lightens the mood by using a water gun to scrub the surfaces. The situation quickly devolves into a playful mess when she decides to test the device on Yuta Tono, leaving him flustered and demanding she stop. Yuta Tano remains visibly annoyed by the lack of proper cleaning tools, while his classmate Huju seems pleased with her makeshift water gun. After a brief, tense moment, she thanks him for the item, drawing curious looks from other students who notice the interaction. Just as Yuta Tono tries to get back to his cleaning, he is physically grabbed and cornered by his classmates. They immediately startle him with pointed questions about his recent, suspiciously close interactions with Huju, leaving him flustered and unable to escape their prying curiosity. Caught in a sudden interrogation, Yuta Tono is completely bewildered as his classmates lean in, demanding to know why he treats Huju so differently from every other girl. While they see a romantic mystery, Yuta Tono is fighting an internal battle, reminding himself that his coldness is a necessary shield against those who would use him. Yet, even as he tries to maintain his guard, He admits to himself that he isn't entirely sure where he stands with Huju. Talk about a mood killer. The drama reaches a fever pitch as Utatano's classmates start tearing up, wondering if he and Huju are actually a thing. But just as the tension peaks, Huju accidentally blasts Utatano with a massive wave of water. Soaked from head to toe and completely over the chaos, Utatano simply declares he's out of there. Trying to make a clean break, Utatano is still hounded by his classmates, who refuse to let him dodge the question about Hujo. However, the interrogation is cut short when Ray bursts in with his usual high energy, loudly announcing that the pool cleaning is finished. Looking at his brother's cheerful face, a skeptical Utatano can't help but wonder if they actually did any work at all. Aiden's effortless charisma turns a scolding for slacking off into a group celebration. After being caught hiding in a secret spot instead of cleaning the pool, he quickly suggests a trip to the convenience store. The idea of ice cream is an instant hit with Urara, Takamiya, and the others, and Utatano finds himself swept along in the collective excitement. Sweet treats and a surprising appetite. After the chaos of pool cleaning, Utatano and Huju finally get their ice cream. While Utatano sticks to a simple vanilla, Huju reveals she's not stopping at just one soda-flavored bar. As she cheerfully lists chocolate, strawberry, and matcha, Utatano can only stare in disbelief at her massive haul. A sweet treat and some sour thoughts. While Ray and the rest of the group are still paralyzed by indecision at the freezer, Huju has all of her many ice creams to eat first, struggling to decide which of her many ice creams to eat first. Utatano tries to be the voice of reason, warning her about a potential stomachache. As they walk away, the words of his classmates echo in his head, claiming, "He's only nice to her." He quickly denies it to himself, but the lingering tension suggests he's more conflicted than he wants to admit. A quiet moment of reflection turns into an exciting discovery. As they enjoy their ice cream, Utatano admits to himself that he and Huju have been talking more naturally lately, though he notes that she is usually the one to initiate their conversations. Their thoughts are interrupted when Huju spots a poster on the wall and excitedly calls him over. It's an announcement for a summer festival on July 20th, leaving Utatano to wonder about the possibilities the event might bring. Summer is almost here, and the festival is calling. Utatano recalls how his brother always gets dragged into running a stall, while he usually attends with Takamiya and Maraikun. But when he asks Hoju about her plans, she admits she wants to go. She's worried because Urara has been so busy lately. A sudden change of heart. Hoju decides that she might just skip the festival this year, leaving Utatano in a state of silent, clenching frustration. Just as Utatano begins to spiral into his own thoughts, a sudden burst of energy shatters the silence. Rei and Yura finally catch up to them, with Huju greeting them with her usual enthusiasm. Though Utatano tries to keep his composure, the group's chaotic arrival quickly pulls him out of his brooding mood. Still lost in his own head, Utatano barely registers the world around him. As Rei cheerfully leads the group toward a cooler spot, Utatano remains frozen in place, his mind still racing. Noticing his strange behavior, a confused Huju stops and looks back, wondering if something is wrong. A bright smile and a gentle nudge. Huju cheerfully urges Utatano to keep up with the others, completely oblivious to the turmoil inside him. Meanwhile, Utatano is totally paralyzed, his heart hammering in his chest as he spirals into his own thoughts, unable to shake off the weight of her words. Lost in a haze of confusion and racing thoughts, Utatano finds himself utterly speechless. He's so stunned that he can't even remember what he was about to say, leaving him frozen in place while Huju dryly warns him that his treat is melting away. A simple shopping trip becomes a lesson in efficiency for Utatano. He's left stunned when Rai makes a lightning-fast decision and heads outside without a second thought. Hoping for some company in his indecision, Utatano asks Haojo if she doesn't enjoy the struggle of choosing, only for her to be just as decisive as Rai. As they both leave him behind, Utatano can't help but notice that the two of them are surprisingly alike when it comes to making quick decisions, decisive, or just unable to choose. While the treats are presented as the individual picks of Mirai-kun, Urarachan, and Takamiya-kun, Utatano reveals the punchline. Huju actually picked all of them. Urara can't help but point out that this is just a sign of indecisiveness, proving that the similarity Yuta saw between Huju and Rei was purely superficial. A little clash of habits. When Huju questions the extra bag Utatano is carrying, he explains it's for his wet pool cleaning gear to keep his textbooks dry. Huju finds his caution meticulous, which prompts a flustered Utatano to defend himself. However, the tables turn when Huju admits she forgot her own clothes at school, leading Utatano to bluntly call her sloppy. The festival atmosphere is in full swing. Huju wastes no time, heading straight for the cotton candy, her excitement practically radiating while Renin teases her for always prioritizing sweets first. Utatano can only watch from the side, slightly overwhelmed by their sudden burst of energy. A sweet treat for a sweet moment. Yuta Tono finds himself unexpectedly content, enjoying the cotton candy and the company of Huju and Rei. He feels a genuine sense of happiness that the three of them are spending the summer festival together again. But as Huju enthusiastically declares her plan to conquer every single food stall, Yuta Tono's peaceful mood is interrupted by a sudden jarring realization. A sudden realization hits Yuta Tono. While Huju is captivated by a super popular stall, Yuta Tono spots a familiar face at the front of his brother. Rei panicking and wanting to avoid the situation, Yuta Tono quickly tries to steer Huju away, desperately suggesting they visit the stall later instead. A simple conversation takes a confusing turn. After Huju mentions skipping something this year, Yuta Tono finds himself completely bewildered, especially since she's standing right in front of him, happily munching on a candy apple. A sudden call breaks the silence as Yuta Tono and Huju run into their classmates. While some are surprised to see Huju there, Yuta Tono simply acknowledges her arrival, and she reveals that she joined the festivities thanks to an invitation from Urara, a small confession and a bit of teasing. Yuta Tono tells Huju he's glad she came, leaving her wondering about this strange fluttering feeling in her chest. But the romantic tension is short-lived, as Huju quickly points out that Yuta Tono is the only one not wearing a yukata, leaving him feeling a bit sheepish about his choice of clothes. A single look is all it takes. As they stand before a festival stall, his heart racing just by looking at Huju. Noticing his strange silence, she leans in with a curious yes and asks what's wrong. Flustered and unable to admit how stunning she looks, Yuta Tono quickly brushes it off, trying to hide his racing heart. Festival games are harder than they look. After struggling to hit anything, a frustrated Haoju decides she needs a pro's help. Since they've ended up hanging out with their classmates, she turns to Muraikun, leaving him completely bewildered by the sudden request. Muraikun steps up to the plate. With a few precise shots, he easily clears the game, leaving Huju completely starstruck. Even Yuta Tono is impressed by his unexpected skill as he steps forward to pay for the win. A little victory for Muraikun. After successfully fishing out a prize, he hands the yo-yo over to a grateful Huju. Yuta Tono, however, seems completely lost in thought, prompting Huju to ask what he's doing. Even when the shopkeeper tries to tempt him with a turn for 200 yen, Yuta Tono quickly shuts it down, still caught in his own head. From reluctant to pressured, Yuta Tono finds himself staring at the yo-yos, wondering why he's even doing this, and feeling a bit too adolescent for such a childish game. But with Huju cheering him on with absolutely incredible enthusiasm, he has no choice but to give it his best shot. A simple game, but a big deal for Huju. While Yuta Tono half-heartedly picks a red yo-yo, Huju is completely locked in. Setting her sights on a specific prize, she vows to do her absolute best to finally win one on her own. A little bit of focus and a lot of tension. Yuta Tono realizes just how much this means to Huju as they lean in close, both concentrating on the game. For a moment, it looks like she's almost there, but luck isn't on her side today. With a disappointed sigh, Huju realizes she didn't get her prize, leaving Yuta Tono in a silent, awkward daze. A little tip from Yuta Tono. Noticing that Huju's rubber band was sinking, he shows her a better way to approach the target. Huju quickly realizes the difference, feeling that the game just became a whole lot easier. A sudden wave of confusion hits Yuta Tono. He can't help but wonder why he always ends up hanging out with Huju, especially since he rarely participates in these kinds of activities. But before he can find an answer, Huju's voice snaps him back to the present. "Hey Tono!" A sudden burst of excitement. Huju leans in close to show Yuta Tono her prize, leaving him completely flustered by the unexpected proximity. Victory at last. With a beaming smile, Huja proudly shows off her prize, bringing the yo-yo so close that Yuta Tono is left completely stunned. Talk about a heart-stopping moment. Flustered by Huju's sudden closeness, Yuta Tono can barely find the words to tell her she's too close, while the stall worker cheers on her success in the background. Festivals really are the best. The group spent the entire day exploring every corner of the fair, hitting almost every stall in sight, but while the others are still riding the high of the excitement, Yuta Tono has reached his limit. Completely worn out from the day's events, he can only think of one thing: how incredibly tired he is. The grand finale is almost here. As the announcement for the fireworks echoes through the festival, the group scrambles to find a viewing spot. Huju suddenly bolts ahead with a determined look, leaving a bewildered Yuta Tono to chase after her. But with his energy completely spent, Yuta Tono finally reaches his limit and decides it's time to head home. Who knew she could be this oblivious? After realizing Hujo wasn't even listening to him, Yuta Tono sighs, concluding that someone really needs to keep an eye on her. But as he looks at her, he's hit by a feeling he can't quite explain, leaving him completely flustered. He just can't bring himself to leave her alone. But as Yuta Tano grapples with these unexpected feelings, a sudden vibration from his phone breaks the moment. He looks down in confusion, only to find an incoming call from his brother Ray. Food is the way to her heart. Huju is completely captivated by the festival treats, her eyes lighting up at the sight of shaved ice, taiyaki, and okonomiyaki. Watching her be drawn in like a magnet, Yuta Tano can't help but wonder if she's only reacting to the food. The food hunt continues. Huju spots some fluffy cotton candy and insists that Yuta Tano get one too. However, Yuta Tono's excitement quickly turns to confusion when he realizes his cute chick-shaped treat is actually meant for elementary schoolers. While Huju happily munches away, Yuta Tono is left in a state of total gloom, wondering why he was singled out. A little prize. A lot of chaos. Huju is absolutely thrilled with the water yo-yo she caught, bouncing around in pure bliss. Yuta Tano tries to warn her not to get too carried away, but his warning comes a second too late as she accidentally whacks him right in the face. Despite the sudden blow, one look at the regretful Huju makes it impossible for Yuta Tano to stay mad. A sudden call for help lands Yuta Tano at a yakisoba stall, where the original cook has unfortunately thrown out his back. Though he tries to be helpful and insists it's fine, the sheer madness of the rush leaves him completely spent. The festival rush is relentless. Yuta Tano tries to keep Takamiya and the others informed about his sudden job, hoping they aren't too worried. After a brief interaction with a customer, Yuta Tano eagerly offers to help more, but the staff member insists it's time for him to step away and take a well-deserved break. Job well done. Yuta Tano finally finishes helping out at the yakisoba stall, leaving the store owner incredibly grateful for the assist. While the owner asks him to apologize to his friends for the sudden interruption, Yuta Tano insists they won't mind. As a token of appreciation, he's rewarded with a delicious treat for his hard work. A small act of kindness leads to an unexpected observation. Feeling too full to eat his reward, Yuta Tano offers the meal to his older brother Ray. As Ray takes the food, he looks at his younger brother and remarks that has changed, leaving Yuta Tano completely bewildered. A gentle smile on his face, Ray observes that Yuta Tano just seems like he's been having fun lately. Confused by the comment, Yuta Tano can't help but wonder, has he, really? Time to head back. Yuta Tano tells Ray he needs to return to Takamiya and the others. He recalls Morikawa-san mentioning a hidden spot. But a sudden realization hits him. He completely forgot to ask where it was. Shrugging it off, with a sigh he decides the view is the same from anywhere and continues on his way. Just as Yuta Tano is making his way through the bustling festival, his eyes lock onto a familiar figure standing near a pillar. It is Takamiya, dressed in a beautiful yukata, and the moment their gazes meet, she lets out a soft, startled exclamation. A chance encounter turns into a moment of genuine surprise when Yuta Tano realizes that Huju isn't just passing by. She has been waiting for him all along. Caught off guard, he can only stammer in confusion, struggling to process why she would be there waiting for him. As the festival continues, Huju explains that her intention was simply to help Yuta Tano find the others, while enjoying the stalls along the way. Yuta Tano, still struggling to process her genuine interest, finds himself caught off guard by her response, while Huju herself seems momentarily distracted by trying to recall a specific location she had intended to visit. The festival's growing crowd has completely killed their phone signals, leaving Yuta Tano and Huju unable to reach their friends. As they stand together, Yuta Tano admits that he wouldn't mind just calling it a night, though the uncertainty of the situation lingers between them. With their phones failing to connect in the dense crowd, Huju suggests that their friends likely headed in a specific direction. Yuta Tano agrees, and as they navigate the busy festival paths, Huju reminds him not to get lost, to which he confidently replies that he knows. The festival grows increasingly congested, forcing Yuta Tano and Huju to navigate the sea of people together. Yuta Tano glances over at Huju, noting that she seems surprisingly composed despite the chaos. However, the crowded conditions quickly take their toll when Huju suddenly stumbles, letting out a startled cry as she loses her balance. The festival crowd proves too much for Huju, who loses her balance and falls forward, landing right against Yuta Tano. The unexpected collision leaves them both blushing and breathless, caught in a moment of sudden unintended intimacy amidst the busy festival grounds. The sudden physical contact leaves both of them breathless and blushing. As Huj tries to steady herself, Yuta Tano gently tells her to hold on, his heart racing from the unexpected closeness in the middle of the crowded festival. The tension of their accidental collision lingers, but they continue moving forward through the festival. To ensure they don't get separated in the dense crowd, Huju reaches out and softly tugs on the hem of Yuta Tano's shirt, a small, quiet gesture that leaves them both feeling flustered. With the search for their friends proving fruitless, Yuta Tano and Hojo decide to settle down. Accepting the situation, they choose to watch the festival fireworks from their current spot. with Yuta Tano wryly noting Houja's spontaneous approach to their plans. With the search for their friends abandoned, Yuta Tano awkwardly offers Zhao some of the yakisoba he picked up earlier. To his surprise, she accepts with a gentle smile, leaving him reeling from the sudden, sweet turn in their evening. The anticipation builds as the festival announcement signals the start of the fireworks. Standing together, Yuta Tano and Huju watch the night sky, their conversation drifting toward the end of the first semester and the fleeting nature of the summer season. The atmosphere remains warm and intimate as Hoju fondly recalls their recent time together, from visiting Urara to their study sessions. When she turns the conversation toward him, asking what he enjoyed, Yuta Tano is caught off guard, his thoughts interrupted by the sudden announcement that the fireworks display is about to begin. While the festival atmosphere surrounds them, Yuta Tano's thoughts drift back to his painful reality. He struggles to accept the moment as fun, feeling trapped by the constant comparisons to his brother and the girls who only approach him to get closer to his sibling. The night sky erupts in light as the fireworks finally begin. Amidst the festival's glow, Huju gazes up in awe, her expression soft and enchanted, while Yuta Tono watches her, momentarily caught in the beauty of the scene. The weight of his insecurities continues to cloud Yuta Tono's perspective. Even as his friends notice a positive shift in his behavior and his growing bond with Huju, Yuta Tono remains trapped in his own doubt, unable to reconcile their words with his internal struggle. Caught in a moment of introspection, Yuta Tono realizes that his time with Huju has become more than just a series of coincidences. He acknowledges that while he initially kept his distance, her persistence has created a space where he feels surprisingly at ease, and her happiness has begun to reflect in his own. The night sky erupts in color, but for Yuta Tano, the most captivating sight is right in front of him. As Huju turns to him with a soft, genuine smile, asking if he finds the fireworks as beautiful as she does, Yuta Tano is left momentarily breathless, his internal defenses wavering as he struggles to process the sincerity in her eyes. As the night sky erupts in light, the distance between them seems to shrink. Watching the fireworks, Yuta Tano finally lets his guard down, realizing that despite his deep-seated insecurities, being with Haoju is a feeling he has come to cherish. The realization that their school day routine is about to be interrupted by summer break hits Yuta Tano hard, prompting him to finally break the silence. With the fireworks providing a backdrop for his nerves, he asks Huju about her plans, and when she responds with uncertainty, he finds the courage to offer a tentative invitation to spend the break together. With the fireworks booming in the background, Yuta Tono takes a leap of faith and asks Huju if she would like to go somewhere during the summer break. When she immediately responds with a welcoming sure, Yuta Tono is struck by his own internal panic. He finds himself tempted to retreat into his usual pattern of making excuses to avoid the vulnerability of the moment, but he ultimately decides to stand his ground. A breakthrough moment under the night sky. As the fireworks bloom above them, Yuta Tono stops fighting his instincts and finally confesses that he simply wants to be with Huju. The silence between them speaks volumes. Having finally dropped his defenses to admit he wants to be with her, Yuta Tono is visibly overwhelmed, while Huju looks on with a soft, surprised expression, the tension of the moment captured in their flushed faces. A heart-pounding confession. Yuta Tono fumbles over his words, desperately trying to explain himself, but his nerves get the better of him. Just as he feels his heart racing, Huju offers a soft, radiant smile and a simple, honest admission that leaves them both breathless. The atmosphere remains charged with emotion as Yuta Tano pauses, his internal monologue revealing his struggle to process this new, vulnerable side of himself. He tries to rationalize his racing heart, attributing it to the unusual situation he finds himself in. The vibrant explosions of the fireworks light up the night sky, their brilliance mirrored in the calm water below. In this fleeting moment of stillness, the loud, chaotic sounds of the festival seem to drift away, leaving everything feeling strangely distant. The journey to the fireworks display proves to be a crowded affair. As they weave through the festival, Huju stays alert, gently pulling Yuta Tano away from the throng of people. Before he can even process the shift in their dynamic, he realizes that she has completely taken the lead, guiding him through the busy path. While Yuta and Huju attempt to catch the fireworks display, they find themselves blocked by a line of trees. Despite the obstructed view and their initial confusion, the trio keeps their spirits up, eventually finding a way to enjoy the show through the gaps in the branches. As the fireworks display reaches its peak, the friends back at the festival grounds share a moment of concern for Yuta and Hoju. Despite the lack of messages, they remain hopeful that the pair is enjoying their time together, eventually turning their attention back to the spectacular show in the night sky. Yuta is caught off guard as he heads out, with his friend calling out to him to return the water bottle he accidentally left behind. His friend takes the opportunity to tease him about being unusually scatterbrained lately, reminding him that summer break is just around the corner. The arrival of summer break brings no peace for Yuta, who finds himself spiraling into a panic, haunted by the memory of his own impulsive words of confession that he truly wanted to see. Hurry is left in a state of total disbelief and embarrassment, questioning his own heart. Overwhelmed by the weight of his own thoughts and the lingering embarrassment of his confession, Yuta loses his composure in the middle of the festival. Just as he tries to talk himself down, he is startled by a woman with earrings who approaches him with a teasing question, leaving him completely flustered. The classroom atmosphere shifts from nervous tension to pure jubilation as the teacher announces that every student passed their finals, sparing them from summer remedial classes. While his classmates erupt into cheers and applause, Yuta Tono watches the scene with a characteristically deadpan expression. With the threat of remedial classes gone, the classroom is filled with relief and cheer. Yuta receives a kind word from a classmate, while Urara and others celebrate the good news with playful gestures. Despite the festive mood, Yuta finds himself reflecting on his earlier self-consciousness, even as the reality of summer break homework begins to set in. As the classroom buzzes with the endorphin excitement, Yuta finds himself surprised by how easily he can talk to Huju. He notes that she is acting just like her usual self, but the moment she leans in to whisper that they can hang out over the upcoming break, his composure completely shatters, leaving him blushing and stunned. The casual mention of hanging out over summer break proves too much for Yuta to handle. In a moment of pure, flustered panic, he hits the floor with a loud thud, drawing immediate concern from his classmates. As he lies there, trying to regain his composure, he can only offer a weak, blushing confirmation that he is fine though his internal state suggests otherwise. The library visit takes a chaotic turn when Yuta realizes just how many books Huju has checked out. While he tries to help her return the massive pile, a flashback reveals her failed attempt to carry them all home, leaving Yuta to question her planning while she remains adorably stubborn. The library visit takes an unexpected turn when the staff, overwhelmed by returns, asks Yuta and Huju to handle the reshelving themselves. As they work, Yuta can't help but question the sheer volume of books Huju planned to tackle over the break. When she casually admits she just wanted to avoid boredom during the hot summer days, Yuta is left to process her straightforward, if slightly impractical, dedication to reading. As they work to put the books back on the shelves, Yuta finds himself flipping through the titles Huju had selected, from intense encyclopedias to dramatic sci-fi. Her reading list is far more eclectic than he expected. Huju's eyes light up with genuine wonder as she shares her favorite discoveries, leaving Yuta struggling to keep up with her excitement while he quietly observes her passion. Caught up in the quiet atmosphere of the library, Yuta suddenly snaps back to reality, realizing that they have a mountain of work ahead of them. As Hoju places another book on the shelf, she sheepishly admits that her original plan to read through her massive stack of summer books was perhaps a bit too optimistic. The quiet library atmosphere shifts instantly when Huju casually mentions that she doesn't need all those books anymore, simply because she can hang out with Yuta instead. The sudden implication leaves Yuta completely red-faced and stammering, his composure crumbling as he tries to process her words. A simple library visit takes an unexpected turn for Yuta when the romantic chatter of a nearby couple catches his attention. As he stands with Huju, the sudden realization of what he is hearing leaves him momentarily stunned and deep in thought. The library atmosphere shifts for Yuta as he accidentally eavesdrops on a nearby couple sharing a sweet moment. The display of affection catches him off guard, causing him to blush intensely as he tries to focus on his work with Huju. The library atmosphere becomes unbearable for Yuta as the nearby couple continues their brazen display of affection. Overwhelmed and mortified, he tries to convince himself that such behavior is strictly prohibited, desperately slamming a book back onto the shelf in a futile attempt to regain his composure and ignore the romantic tension surrounding him. Caught in a whirlwind of anxiety, Yuta leans against the library shelves, his heart hammering against his chest as he frantically tries to convince himself that his past words to Huju were completely devoid of any romantic intent. The atmosphere in the library shifts instantly for Yuta. When Huju brings up the topic of summer break, her casual remark hits him like a shockwave, causing him to physically jump. As he clutches a book, his mind races to deny any deeper meaning behind their interactions, his face betraying his internal panic. Caught completely off guard by Huju's casual mention of seeing each other over the summer, Yuta jolts in surprise, his composure shattering as the weight of her words hits him. Caught in the quiet atmosphere of the library, Huju looks directly at Yuta with a gentle, radiant smile, her words confirming that she truly cherishes the prospect of spending their summer together. Caught in the wake of Houja's heartfelt words, Yuta's composure completely shatters. His heart races as he desperately tries to rationalize the moment, his mind spiraling with doubt and anxiety. As Houju looks on with concern, the physical space between them narrows, forcing Yuta to confront the terrifying possibility that her feelings might actually be real. The tension from their earlier moment lingers, but Houju shifts the focus to the book in front of them. She points out various deep-sea creatures with a cheerful curiosity, comparing them to food and bugs, while a flustered Yuta can only offer awkward, distracted responses as he tries to process her presence. Yuta's mind wanders to the couple he spotted earlier, but his thoughts quickly devolve into a strange, theatrical daydream. He imagines them speaking in dramatic, archaic tones about their sin of frolicking in the library, a bizarre mental projection that causes him to snap back to reality with a throbbing headache, only to be startled by Yumichin's sudden concern. The atmosphere shifts from the library's quiet study to a moment of pure internal panic for Yuta. As he overhears two classmates excitedly discussing a dramatic kabadon scene from a manga, he finds himself frozen in place. The definition of the tropea romantic pinning against a wall hits him like a lightning bolt, forcing him to confront the reality that he was the one on the receiving end of such a gesture. His face flushes with embarrassment as the implications of that moment finally sink in. The conversation about romantic tropes fades as Yuta's friends excitedly anticipate their summer plans, shouting about the mountains and the upcoming summer. Their destination is clear: the river. As Yuta grapples with his recent mortifying realization, his friends excitedly plan a summer trip to the river. Meanwhile, Houju points out that the beach is too crowded, and that Houju isn't a strong swimmer, suggesting the river might be a better option. As his friends chatter about their summer plans for a river trip, Yuta is lost in his own world, still processing the recent kabadon incident. His thoughts then drift to Houju, wondering how he ever ended up meeting her in such an unexpected way. As Yuta ponders his unexpected encounter with Houju, his friends excitedly discuss their plans for a summer river trip. One of them then reveals they brought a watermelon for everyone to enjoy. As Yuta remains lost in his thoughts about Houju, his friends excitedly plan their summer river trip. One of them calls out to Yuta, who is hesitant to join them in the water, while another friend invites him to come in, assuring him the water feels great. As Yuta remains lost in his thoughts about Houju, his friends are excitedly planning their summer river trip. One of them finds a pretty stone, and another offers it to Yuta, who seems preoccupied with his own thoughts. As Yuta's friends excitedly discuss their summer river plans, he's lost in his own thoughts, questioning why they'd give him things they went to the trouble of finding. One friend calls out to him, asking the heck and labeling him a weirdo. Lost in his own world, Yuta can't shake thoughts of Houju. Meanwhile, his friends are fully immersed in their summer river trip plans, with one of them even bringing a watermelon. As they chat, Yuta overhears a comment about how those two always seem to be having fun. Lost in his own thoughts about Houju, Yuta watches his friends, noting how much fun they always seem to be having together. Yuta sits with Kira, observing their friends who are full of energy playing in the river. He wonders how long they can keep it up while Kira, feeling stuffed after eating, admits she doesn't know. Yuta remains lost in his own thoughts, a stark contrast to the carefree atmosphere around him. As Yuta watches his friends enjoying the river, he muses about whether this situation is truly okay. His thoughts still occupied by Houju. He notes that Houju seems to be having fun and expresses a desire for them all to continue hanging out together. Meanwhile, his friends are discussing their summer break plans, and one of them calls out to Yuta. As Yuta's friends eagerly discuss their next outing, he's pulled back into his own worries about Houju. His distraction is evident when he's jolted by a simple question about their plans, leaving him momentarily bewildered. As Yuta's friends excitedly discuss their summer plans, one of them asks if they'll all be hanging out together again. Yuta, still lost in his thoughts about Houju, seems confused by the expression, wondering if their current outing doesn't count. He then tries to change the subject by mentioning he looked into various things, but his friends are already caught up in their own excited chatter about future plans. Lost in his own world, Yuta barely registers his friends' excited chatter about their river trip. Houju, holding a notebook, turns to him and asks for his input on their potential destinations, specifically inquiring which place he thinks would be best for just the two of them. Lost in his own thoughts about Houju, Yuta is pulled back to reality when she asks if he'd like to go somewhere with just the two of them over the break. He stammers a response as she presents him with a list of potential destinations. Lost in his own world, Yuta barely registers his friends' plans. Houju, noticing his distraction, asks for his input on potential places for them to visit together. To which Yuta agrees with a simple sure, followed by him down for anything you like. Lost in his own world, Yuta barely registers his friend's plans. Huju, holding a notebook with potential date spots, asks for his input, to which he simply agrees. As Yuta's friends excitedly plan their summer river trip, Huju turns his attention to him, presenting a list of places for them to visit together. Yuta, caught off guard by the prospect of a date with just the two of them, is visibly flustered. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to a serene riverbank, hinting at more summer memories to come. Morning at the meeting spot. Yuta Tano is greeted by a hyper-excited Mirai-kun, who has packed an absurd amount of gear for their trip. From bug spray and a picnic mat to a sports ball, Mirai-kun is ready for anything culminating in the shocking reveal of a whole watermelon, leaving Yuta Tano completely bewildered by the overkill preparation. As a girl swallows a piece of watermelon, the conversation turns to seeds. One friend admits to often swallowing them, while another recalls the childhood myth about seeds sprouting in one's stomach. Yuta, seemingly lost in thought, is then questioned by his friends. Takamiya offers Yuta a pile of stones, but he states he doesn't need that many. Takamiya then suggests he take them all, but Yuta, realizing he can't take them all home, tells her to put them back. Looking dejected, Takamiya seems to accept this, however. Yuta then changes his mind, saying fine, and he'll take it. A caption declares that Yuta received the carefully selected stone, with a note indicating he was a softie after all. Takamiya then asks if he narrowed it down to one, and he presents her with a stone, saying, yeah, here you go, with a small note indicating the first one was actually the best.